Perfect. See, mine is taking a second. Why?
It's the little internet penguin running over to go turn it on.
Right, exactly. Well, goodness gracious. All right, here we go.
We're gonna blame Twitch.
Right?
Hello to my
Are we
chat.
supposed to
Welcome.
create a broadcast first?
Let me say hello to mom's in the chat. Yeah, what's going on? Not my real mom, but we call her mom.
Oh, I'm like, your
Yeah,
mother
you're like,
was in the
whoa,
chat? Oh
that's
my
no, no,
goodness.
no, no, no. We call her.
Wow.
So I guess on my side of the fence, this is gonna be brand new to all of you. The There's a he basically is a very very senior officer that became part of our friends group, and I call him
Yeah.
just Dad because he was considerably more senior than I'll ever be in law enforcement, and so his wife shows up periodically. We just call her Mom, and it's a really
That's so
adorable
cute.
relationship.
I love that. Just
Um,
stream mom.
uh, J-
Okay, I think that I'm live.
okay, go for it. I'll let you do intros.
I hope I am. Okay. Hi, everybody. I think that we're live here on Twitch and YouTube. We're
About to
here
find
with
out.
Josh from Only Cop. We will see
Mhm.
how this is going. Oh, and I see yours too. Lovely. Okay. Is it working? I'm just gonna hope that people start letting me know if they can see me.
Was it?
Um,
Can they see you? Can they hear you? Is my audio levels
can you
okay? Yeah, right.
see me? Can you hear me? Maybe I should check to make sure that mine's up. Okay, it looks like I am streaming.
Cool.
So, perfect. Yeah. Thank you so much, Josh, for being here.
Yeah, no problem.
Yeah, I know that we reacted to one of your guys' videos. I mean, it was yours specifically, reacting to the Lego controversy.
Yes.
I've been so invested in that, and so that was very kind of you to let us get your insight into that.
I th-
Um,
I think it's to me it's always fascinating because I don't realize how much we take for granted, like from our side of the fence, and we're an advocacy channel, so it's very very different from like a typical cop show. I don't want to call it propaganda, but there's typically two camps when it
Propaganda.
comes to like law enforcement related content. So there's the auditors, right, which are going to see it kind of politically in the guise of the individual that's involved is always innocent and the cops are scumbags, right?
Mm.
They're not always wrong. There's definitely times when they're not
Sure,
100% correct.
sure. It's they're in a
Really good
tough spot.
channels. Lackluster does a really good job with this.
Okay.
Come explore with us, or Ewoo as we just call them where we're at. It's a really really
Okay.
good channel that does it's kind of like auditing. It's not really. It's more like a narrative audit, but they kind of explain what's going on. And then you have like
Yeah.
the extreme other side of the fence where it's the cops can do no wrong no matter what's happening. They'll defend them to the ends of the earth,
Mm.
which is more on the propaganda
Sure.
side of it. And we're
Yeah.
somewhere there in the middle where really what we're advocating is for like peace. And we want the safest possible thing and the safest possible outcome for both parties. Because
For both
that's
sides,
like a
yeah.
win, right? And most of that's going to
Right.
be under best practices or whatever. Well, we study this like autistically. I did it like, and I'm actually going back to do it for free like an idiot. But the on the I get to do this. It was my job for a long time, and this is I have a bachelor's degree in doing this, and then we now have been doing how we've been doing live
That's
streams for
great.
like 5 years, I think now. So we've probably seen
Nice.
thousands of law enforcement interactions terrestrially, right? Like on the outside looking in. And so
Yeah.
my audience and obviously myself and then everybody else that's like within my admin circle, we take a lot of that stuff for granted. It's the stuff that y'all were like, oh, that's wild. So it was very interesting to see. It would be like me watching Dr. Mike. Is the weirdest thing to experience like on the outside looking in is like, I don't know the first thing about medicine.
Sure.
I when I got married, figuring out what hair porosity was, I had to figure all that stuff out to go be a good husband. And I was like, I didn't know, and I had to
I
go
don't even
educate.
know
Yeah,
what that is.
it's like the thickness of your hair, basically. There's like properties within your hair that is like why some
That
people.
tell things?
Yeah, well, it's like when people have really voluminous hair, it most of it comes down to porosity. So if you have like really thin hair that's hard to get like full bodied, like that
Mine.
get yeah well that you have a low porosity hair and some so like the
Hmm.
type of shampoo you use and I know far too much about hair that I should, but for
That
someone
is
who's
so
slowly
funny.
losing mine, but I wanted to be a good husband, so I learned about it. Um,
That's awesome. I need to learn more about that.
but anyways, so it was kind of fun to see, and you guys had a lot of you in particular, and some of your audience members also had really good questions that were like, okay, it makes sense why this is confusing, kind of on the outside looking at. And American Forks, like, I just recently did another video. Oh, we haven't released it yet, where they did an apprehension.
Mm.
The guy in a parking lot, he's putting his hands up. They're kind of getting after him. Unfortunately, they was it's like a suspected vehicle burglary, basically. And I'm like, cool, you're
Okay.
gonna show up and investigate because your first job. Like, I don't know that I have crime, but I need to find out if I have crime. And
Sure.
very similar to Reckless Ben's
Mm.
situation, straight to hands on, straight to he's a criminal. Like, it was the analogy I used was,
Mm.
if you ever get a chance, you ever want to see, and it's gonna be ironic to see the similarities here.
Okay.
Rambo First Blood, the very first Rambo movie. The sheriff there is a
Oh.
total scumbag. Like, get out of
Okay.
my town. This is my, like, he's cartoonishly evil. Like, the more I would watch from some of that stuff from American Forks, I was like, it looks like it's a bit. Like, I feel like eventually they're gonna,
Interesting.
just kidding. Thank you for the PR. I was like, no, no, no. They're just bad at it. Like, they're
It's embarrassing.
horrifically bad at some of that stuff. And so, anyways,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
anyway,
Great.
it was
Love
cool.
that.
We talked about it after the fact. I think it's really the education piece for us is really important because I think one, it empowers people like y'all to know why something's bad. Like, obviously, like, everyone's collectively angry about what's happening there, but like, why?
Mhm.
And then specifically, like, for the Reckless Ben camp, how does that translate into a lawsuit? Like, what are the legal, like, when should I start calling an attorney? When should I start being on the side of the fence? And we unironically help with that, despite being, we want to be pro police, but we're only pro good police, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, exactly. I feel like you're pretty good about finding balance,
Mhm.
instead of being biased. We want balance, not bias.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's hard, especially when you have so much, especially on YouTube. Recently, for me, because I've been into the Reckless Ben stuff, I have
Yeah.
a lot of police cam footage sent my way into my algorithms, and just bad experiences with police officers.
Right.
I feel like it's a lot more rare on social media to see positive experiences.
Yeah.
Um, so it is very easy to get a kind of bias against police officers. So
Well,
I don't know.
I would argue the opposite is also true. Like, I was explaining this to one of my coworkers. I'm in media now full time, and so my day job, I have a completely different vertical that I go and talk to that's firearms related. But the
Okay.
algorithm has gotten so good at feeding you what it thinks you want. And so,
Mm-hmm.
like, on
Right.
the other side of the fence, you would assume that in urban cities, everything's Chirac, right? Like, everyone's getting murdered. Everybody that might fit a certain demographics is scumbag. And it's like really
Mm.
kind of terrifying, in my opinion, how quickly, especially if that's your only interaction with it. Like, I've never been to
Yeah.
Utah ever. And you would
Okay.
assume, based on the internet, every law enforcement agency in Utah is a bunch of scumbags, and you'll be in a very beautiful setting, just get jacked up every single time you're minding your own business. And
Right.
to a lot of people, that's their only experience is going to be that. And it's like, how often in your life experience have you ever even interacted with the agency? Not to mention
Yeah.
gotten jacked up and having to go to jail and all this other stuff. So I
Sure.
I've seen both sides of the fence, and because I work in media, um, it's like hard for me, especially during like election season here in America. You start getting like the election ads. You're like, I didn't sign up for this.
Mm.
Why am I getting opted in? Shout out
Yeah.
to like YouTube Red and people like that that'll live give like ad free options. But the
Nice.
algorithm as a whole has gotten, I think, dangerously divisive, where it feeds you what you think you want, even if
Uh-huh.
you don't want it, and it can
Yeah.
very very quickly create a bias, especially if it's like you said, the only interaction you'll ever get
Mm-hmm.
with a topic.
Yeah. Yeah. And they just want you to keep scrolling and just keep at your computer and not actually, do anything
Well,
with your life.
it's these
Um,
two. The phones are, oh my
mm-hmm.
god,
Yep.
the black hole that can become on your time and
Exactly.
attention.
I can't get on TikTok because I'll just stay there for an hour.
I I
I don't
wa-
know.
I I stopped using TikTok like 2021. I was still on patrol at the time, but we would be stuck, especially during COVID time. Like, we would get stuck on lockdown, and so there was nothing for us to do. Like, we're still on duty, so we
Yeah.
had to sit in the patrol car and not pull people over because we were worried about being super spreaders, which we were. But the when you were TikTok had just kind of become what it is now today, right? And I remember we laughed about that. I was like, I remember just forgetting time when that first got new
Yeah.
because the algorithm for
During
TikTok,
the pandemic.
dude,
Yeah.
I was, and for everybody else,
That
they
was a
got to kind of sit inside. I was very jealous. It's like it was randomly sitting on TikTok and
Mm.
then getting into fistfights in the streets, but it was a
Yeah.
TikTok was probably the beginning of the like where AI is kind of the hot button topic now. The
Mm.
algorithm that came out of because it affected Reels on Instagram, it affected Shorts on YouTube, like
Oh,
that.
yeah.
The precedence that set for time sucks on social media and not on like long form content. Like you're a streamer, right? And so you'll pick a topic
Mhm.
and you're doing something that's engaging for the audience, but it's very specific or to some level of specificity. TikToks,
Sure.
a muffin recipe, I don't know, a
Oh,
cosplay,
yeah.
whatever. Like,
Which I love, and I never do them.
yeah.
So thank
Somebody
you,
say
Cat
that.
Weasel, so much.
Mm.
I appreciate it. Um, yeah, it's man, just being on the internet is just such a different
Yeah.
it, I don't know. It's crazy. Um, I'm already getting some questions in my
Sure,
chat
sure. Yeah,
for
no,
you
I'm
today.
more than happy to answer them.
Um, cool, cool. First of all, okay, I have a quick question.
Mhm.
Um, so have you always lived in Texas? Did you only do police work in
Yeah.
Texas, or have you? Yeah.
So
Okay.
I born and raised here in North Texas specifically. My family's more from South Texas. I think I'm third generation now, if I had to do the math.
Okay.
Um, of Mexican descent. So that's in Texas. That's basically just Texas with a little bit of spice in it. Texas as a whole, I think we're now 40 to 50% like Spanish speaking, and it's Tex-Mex is a thing for a reason, right? Culturally.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
But grew up in North Texas. I was on the Dallas side of the fence for those people that are familiar with it. And then when I became a police officer, I met my what was going to be my wife at the time at the exact
Hmm.
same time that I had just graduated college. Specifically back then in 2015, I wanted to be in medicine prior to that. So I was in college, wanted to go through medical school and all of that. And there was an incident. We call it the Dallas Five here. It was a really, really bad
Okay.
shooting that happened in 2015
Okay.
to really condense that. And I trigger warning for anybody that's there. We're going to be talking about law enforcement related things, so that could be potentially traumatic. And like I said,
Yeah.
we both talked off screen. We're an open book on a lot of that stuff because that's where good
Mhm.
positive discussions kind of happen. But
Yes, we need those.
during the beginning of BLM protests, really is what was happening. Dallas PD actually escorted a protest literally through the middle of the city. They said, "Hey, we want you to help you guys protest." This kind of shows you how
Okay.
different the world was 10 to 15
That's
years
very
ago.
different. Yeah.
That like they came to the city, they said, "Hey, we want to protest police," and the police were like, "Cool, we're just going to make sure nobody runs you over." Was how it
Yeah,
was
we'll keep
going.
you safe.
And so
Yeah.
literally they were blocking off traffic to let them they said, "Hey, this is our planned march. We want to go straight through downtown Dallas." And someone
Hmm.
took that opportunity to shoot at officers. 5 ended up dying from it. I think some more were injured, but the guy it was a pre-staged planned attack. He had a rifle set
Hmm.
up. He knew where they were going to
Yeah.
be. He put himself in a position of advantage, and it was a pretty traumatic event specifically here in
It's
Dallas.
awful.
And
Yeah.
in that moment, I call it my 9/11, where I was like, "Hey, that motivated me." I was like, I'm an able-bodied young man at the time. I'm a little less
Mm.
so of that now. I'm getting older, but yeah, I had decided that hey, I'm a person with the capability. There's something that I want to go do. And so
Yeah.
I got into law enforcement that way. I decided, hey, I'm going to pivot. This is what I want to do with my life. I wanted to help people, which is what I wanted to do. And law enforcement's
Yeah.
going to be there at the worst possible time in your life to go hopefully make a difference. Um,
Right.
it was a bit naive of me on some of that. There's definitely the job's a bit more complicated than that. Arlington Police Department, which is sandwiched right between Dallas and Fort Worth. It's the seventh
Okay.
largest city in Texas. It's probably
Okay.
top 20 in the nation. It's a huge. The Dallas Cowboys play there. If people want
Okay.
context for where this is, um, and so I cut my teeth there as a baby little rookie. They required a bachelor's degree. I was coming out of college, so it worked
Okay.
out. Pay was going to be a
That's
little
good.
bit
That's good.
higher. Yeah, it was. Had a very high. It was one of the highest standards you could have for like. And back then, couldn't have a
That's great.
beard, couldn't have visible tattoos. Like they were very
Mm.
strict about their hiring process.
Oh wow.
You couldn't have smoked weed within like the last 5 years. You couldn't have done any other kind of
Wow.
drugs ever or it's an auto
Okay.
disqualifier. Like they had
Yeah.
the hiring process back
Yeah.
then was very different than it is
Yeah.
now. And then I was there from 2017 is when I started academy for them. Graduated in 2018. It was a long. I think ours was about 7 months in academy, and then there was another 6 months of field training. Then there was another 6 months of being on basically probation. And so it's like, hey, you're new, and we're just going to see if you screw up or not. And then I was there
Yeah.
till all the way through 2021. And I worked North Mids. That's going to mean nothing to most people, but basically the busiest side of the city I worked at, I typically worked evenings. So I was a city cop working a very tiny beat that was for a kid that grew up really sheltered. Like my parents were amazing. My brother's awesome. My friends and family growing up were awesome. So like I had a very drama free upbringing. And then I went to like, I literally was like, I want the worst possible beat you have. And they were
Yeah,
like,
I need more drama
yeah.
in my
And
life.
so I went from
Nice.
not understanding trauma outside of getting broken up or dumped by a girl until like I've seen everything from kids
Yeah.
dying all the way up to like the worst case scenario in a lot of those things. So that's where I
Mhm.
went. I got out of law enforcement in 2021. I call it being rescued, but basically I had a media
Wow.
background prior to that. Um, been in media ever since. And then just recently, as part of kind of our efforts here on what we're doing, um, I'm going back as a reservist, and it works very similar to the military where you have to keep all of the level of readiness, but you're like a weekend warrior. I'm going to go once, twice, maybe 3 times a month and go work patrol. I'm basically helping. There's a local sheriff's office
Okay.
here where I'm going to help them with patrol for free. It's a completely
Nice.
volunteer
Yeah,
situation,
volunteer.
but
That's lovely though.
the there's a unique situation where that gives me some access to some training environments that I'd like to get involved in, and I also get to then go and participate internally with the law enforcement community as a whole, at least here in Texas. And
Yeah.
that's my current involvement. I just got done with rifle pistol qual, psych eval, the physical. There's like it's like a months long process. So I just got done with all of that with this
Yeah.
sheriff's office, and then I have a couple of extra like paperwork steps, and I should be getting back in like a week.
Okay. Yeah. Nice. That's cool. Because one of my questions was like, is it difficult to, now that you're out of it, like to
Yeah.
keep up with policy
Oh
changes
yeah.
or what's actually going on?
So
Um,
the easiest way you could say it changes by the month because you got to think
okay.
Supreme Court cases have a very real effect on
Yeah.
your job. Local
Mm-hmm.
laws, every single year there's an election cycle, but there's also, every single time you turn on the news and people are yelling at each other in Congress, sometimes
Yeah.
that eventually actually changes the law. And then also, like, I would call it like public perception has a huge effect. When I got in
Mm.
2018, like as my first time cut loose as like by myself, so I didn't have any security blankets. Auditing had just become a thing, and it was incredibly rare.
Okay.
2020, way different ballgame. Like it
It's
was
crazy.
like night and day different on like it was a thing that some people did in fringe groups to it was the norm. Where every single time we
Yeah.
would do a traffic stop, cell phones would come out, people would start like people completely unrelated to the stop would start showing up.
Right.
And so like that was something to get like adjusted to.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of the same thing also with public interest, like FOIA request processes happen now at an astronomically fast rate. We used to
What
wait
processes?
FOIA, so it's a Freedom of Information Act. It's a big. I'm
Okay.
gonna use a lot. Please correct
All
me if
right.
I
All
use
right.
an acronym. Be like, what's that mean? So yeah, Freedom of Information Act requests. It's basically a federal requirement for police departments to say, hey, you're paying for this. We have body cam or dash cam or some sort of evidence that's not like critical, or we're not like if you were involved in a
Hmm.
robbery and it was footage of inside your house that you don't want people seeing, you could request for that to be redacted.
Okay. Okay.
But that ultimately, as
Got it.
a public servant, we are forced to provide to you the information that we have. And
Yeah. Yeah.
so that process went from months to hours in some situations now, which is kind of
Okay.
crazy to think about.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Great, I think.
Yeah, no, I
Do
think
you
it's
think
an
that's a
yeah.
positive thing?
So
Yeah.
I both. So I think it's a great thing from a transparency standpoint. Ultimately, taxpayers are paying for the service. Like that's kind of like saying like I want to make your sushi,
Okay.
but I don't want to show you how it's getting made. Like that should suss you
Yeah.
out, right? Like especially if they feel weird
Right,
about
right.
showing you.
True. True, if you have
Same.
something to hide.
Well,
Yeah.
it's I call it the cell phone transparency within a marriage, right? He's like, hey, like I love you,
Mm.
and we're willing to have like I'm sharing every facet of my life with you, but here's where I draw the line. You're like, what? Like
Like,
that's a little
why?
sus, right?
Okay,
Like
yeah, it
it.
it yeah, it is.
So
I don't
so
know.
the law enforcement relationship with the public, like you're paying for our existence. Like we do not exist without taxpayer funding, right?
Mhm.
Ultimately, you're also the benefactor, like you are the client, if you want to call it that. If we're a tactical Starbucks, ultimately you're the person asking for service. How do we maintain a level of like healthy trust within that or transparency? Um,
Yeah.
I think where that becomes bad is now everyone gets to go develop a opinion without context. Because, like I said, the pro police people will say, "Well, look, see, he had a gun. Screw that guy." And then the anti police people will say, "Yeah, but he had a gun, but he was turned around." And all we've really done is
Mm.
given media an opportunity to I'm about to be a weird word here, but it's basically like I call it violence masturbation. I know it's a weird term, but it's like
Okay.
both people are pumped because somebody got hurt and they're going to get to argue about it. And I think that
Yeah,
that's been like a very damaging thing to society as a
definitely.
whole.
It's
Um,
wild.
so yes, I'm good for it. I'm glad it's happening. We always are like on the side of we should have transparency, but that's kind of the whole reason why
Mhm.
we developed the channel was like, well, let's have some context so you guys are at least arguing on the same terms.
Sure. Goodness. Yeah. It does it interest me just in general how much we kind of enjoy maybe uh that kind of drama, like violence, I don't know,
I,
people
I
being terrible to each other kind of
what's the difference?
drama, and
Yeah. What's the difference in between that and
it's
the makeup tutorial ladies that are like, "Oh, let me tell you about this serial killer." Like, you know what I mean?
right, right. I
Yeah,
mean, that's probably kind of where it started, was just kind
right,
of hearing about things, and
right.
now we're starting to actually be able to witness like actual crimes
Yeah.
online, and it's I don't know, are becoming desensitized to it. Like
That's the other side. That's the
it's
my
fascinating.
my audience because we do this weekly and we'll do this all the way to the ends of the earth. Like the American Fork situation was
Mhm.
constitutionally egregious, right? Like I will argue, but it's because I care,
Yes.
right? And so I can talk
Yeah.
about how terrible it was from a constitutionality standpoint, how much it eroded public trust. I'm sure not just for y'all locally, but more broadly because it got attention, right? But on the
Right.
scale of 1 to 10 on police misconduct, where do you think that falls? If you had to ballpark it.
Where?
I'm asking you,
What?
like based on your perception, 1 being the not really that bad, it's like a ticket that probably shouldn't have been written, all the way to 10 being the worst conceivable thing that a law enforcement officer could do. Like where do you think that falls on that
Uh,
scale?
I mean, I'd say maybe like a 6, 7. I
That's
mean,
wild. That's so on a and
I
that's a
mean,
that's a good thing.
because
That
they
you
didn't kill anybody.
right.
Like,
Well, and that it's a 6 in your
right?
mind is makes me happy that you have lived a life where being inconvenienced by law enforcement on a constitutionality basis is bad enough to meet like the over average threshold. That's a good thing. Um,
Okay.
I would argue it falls more in line with like a 4 or a 3,
Okay.
but it's way more common than it should be, if that makes any sense. So, like,
Sure.
police
Sure.
misconduct, especially if it's coming out of ignorance, shouldn't happen. People should get fired over it and people should sue over it. But, like, imagine reckless Ben who put himself in the situation, right? He's got his rationale and reason to do it. He's
He
advocating,
he m
right?
yeah, and he
So,
made some weird decisions
right.
too. But
Places himself in that situation, intentionally does inflammatory stuff, ran into
yeah,
police
exactly.
misconduct, right? I get
Sure.
more upset, even if no like actually like nobody gets actually injured. I'm a victim of domestic assault, right? And the cop shows up and doesn't want to hear it. And is like, oh, you're an idiot. That's police misconduct. There's some constitutionality issues with him not listening to me and just saying deuces, and then I get murdered next week
Yeah.
because he's not
Right.
listening to me as a victim. You go a little
So would that be a higher number?
yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like that to me,
Yeah, yeah.
if you're failing to help a victim, right? That's going to go to like
Right.
the 5 to 6 scale. You start to get to like unreasonable force, right? I'm now body slamming people
Okay.
and causing serious bodily injury up to like 8, 9, and 10, where you're actually killing people, right?
Yeah.
That's where I would put it. But that's kind of my point
Okay.
is like, but I'm desensitized to police misconduct, if that makes, because I evaluate it all the time.
It makes sense. Yeah.
Right.
And yeah, I mean, now that you kind of have those two examples
Right.
when it comes to someone's physical safety, and then someone's like financial inconvenience,
Right.
that, yeah, it's definitely different. Um, Definitely the attitude of police officers. I think maybe I just get really annoyed by it, and
Oh
it's
yeah.
really frustrating because what else are they ignoring? Sometimes,
That,
so I see that as
that,
an issue too.
it,
But
that's the scariest part. They're screwing
right,
up what really wasn't a complicated situation and blowing it way out of proportion. What happens when it's a missing kid? What happens if it's a, for them,
right.
politically inconvenient victim for something like sexual assault? Oh,
Mhm.
I'm sorry, that's an elder that you're accusing. Oh,
Yeah.
I'm sorry, they're still a victim of a crime. You know what I mean? Like, hey, like
Right.
that's if you screw up the small things, and that's always been something I don't mind people being nitpicky about cops because if they fail to do the simple things right, they're gonna really, really screw up the important things. It's how you end up
And
with
when they're
stuff like
really under
Uvalde.
pressure and
Exactly.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, so that is a little scary. Okay, that's cool that I love talking with you about this kind of stuff because that I didn't know if I was just
Why?
paranoid or something.
No, I genuinely, and this is gonna, I feel bad. I make a lot of enemies in my space doing this, but like
Okay.
from what we watch, I would argue up to 50% of law enforcement officers currently today have less job knowledge than they need to do it successfully. And
Mm.
that should be sketchy, right?
Yeah, yes. So that's something that I learned about a while ago is the amount. I mean, it sounded like with your first experience as a police officer, you needed a bachelor's degree.
Right.
How much training did you get after your bachelor's degree, like from the police department or?
We got about 1,800 hours. And so it's a 1 for 1 hour, right? So you're full time, you're gonna sit either you're sitting in a
Okay.
classroom or you're doing like exercises, right? And so it's 40 hours a week, every single week.
Mm-hmm.
We're getting training of some
Yeah.
degree, right? Sometimes the days were
Okay.
longer, sometimes they were shorter, but they have
Yeah.
to cover, not in my personal opinion, not enough of it was constitutional law. Not enough of it was like you would get exposed to, it's called penal code. So it's like the criminal code for your state. So what's illegal in Utah is defined literally within your state's penal code. You also
Okay.
have transportation codes. This is going to be for like traffic stops and stuff like that and vehicle movements.
Okay.
Then you have like a bunch of other stuff. It's a thick book. If you ever get your state laws book, it's enormous.
I'm sure. Yeah.
But rather than just trying to memorize the codes, it was like, okay, and kind of in their situation, the easiest one I could think of was picketing, residential picketing.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, oh, well,
Yeah, I thought that was a good one.
the
Yeah.
first thing you do is crack open the book. Like it's literally available to everybody. This is public knowledge, right? People vote on it,
Sure.
whatever. But they'll
Yeah.
say, well, he's in a neighborhood putting up a sign. Was that enough? No, there's elements to
Right.
the
Right.
offense. It's
It's
like
a little minor.
subsection
Yeah.
B and subsection C, and all of these things have to be
Okay.
met for it to be a crime, right?
Hmm.
The easiest analogy that I think probably everybody could get behind is, so let's say, you and I are standing in a line and you decide to smack me in the butt, right? Because you're feeling cheeky or tipsy or whatever. And so when you do
Hmm.
that, I run around and say, well, she sexually assaulted me. You assaulted me for sure. Like clearly some
Right.
physical contact occurred, but did that meet the
That might be a
threshold
stretch.
for that crime? Now it met a crime, like crime is afoot. I could detain us both
Crime
till
is afoot.
yeah, that I could. It's literally what they call it.
Yeah.
It's hilarious. The words
It's
are
awesome.
for like from like the 1700s for this, but
Yeah.
they'll basically know that something's happening, but I'm not 100% sure. So before I go and jack you up and take you to jail, was it's a misdemeanor outside of my presence, as it's offensive and
Mhm.
provocative contact. I'm going to take your information down and say, hey, if maybe I'm disabled, right? So that maybe makes it a worse offense than it would have been if I wasn't. Maybe I'm
Yeah.
13 and you're a grown woman.
Right.
There's
And
gonna be some
some
issues
things
there.
play into that.
But
Yeah,
like a lot of
for sure.
times we don't know because there's a
S-
myriad of things that could be illegal. You're gonna be there to some degree,
Right.
and so like that to me, that lack of job knowledge or even just the desire to have a posture of figuring it out. Well, I don't know if this is illegal, so I'm just not gonna do anything. Or worse, this looks
Mm.
illegal to me, So I'm just gonna jack you up and arrest you and figure it out later. I was like,
Right.
both can't happen,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, that's what I was thinking,
Yeah,
especially about because I mean, I haven't really gotten into, quote unquote true crime or
right,
police cam footage until now. And so I'm very new to this, but that is something that I was thinking is that like some of these police officers probably need some outside opinions, some
right,
help for the knowledge that they don't have, which I don't expect every cop to know every law or
right.
every piece of what's going on, but that's when you need to I mean, is it common to call call somebody
So,
or
I call it the tactical powwow. A lot of people felt weird
okay.
about them kind of sitting and having a discussion and then going out. That's very
And
common.
muting their mics,
The
right? I
muting
mean,
part
that's
was weird.
that's
The
something
muting
that
part was weird, right? So
yes,
so
yeah.
for us, when I was still in, and I'm curious now to see what the policies are now for it. I was the very first
Okay.
academy class in my jurisdiction to have a body camera from the day you left academy. So there wasn't a single police interaction I
Really?
had that was not recorded in some way, shape, or form.
Some people go into it without
Well,
that
you gotta
at
think
the beginning?
back then it
Yeah,
was
yeah.
very new. So, like, all
Yeah,
of
yeah.
my field training officers started their career without body cams. I had to
Yeah.
teach one of my field training officers how to use their body cam, which is wild.
That's it.
That was a
Yeah.
weird interaction.
Fun. Good times.
There's still
Okay.
agencies that don't issue them, which I have an issue with in my personal opinion. But,
Hmm.
so the only time we were allowed to mute our body cams is, again, let's say you're my sister, right? And you called me in the middle of a call. I could say I'm muting for a personal conversation,
Right.
right?
I guess that makes sense.
Right. And in that case, my response to that is, why am I talking to my sister while I'm actively investigating a
I
crime?
mean,
Right? I'm on duty,
fair.
right? I'm on duty. I don't get to stop in the middle of what I'm
Mm.
doing and
And
prioritize my
just
personal
do
life.
your personal stuff.
I am currently being asked to do my job.
Yeah.
And that's not unreasonable for the public to expect for me to get this done and then
Yeah.
work with
Be like,
whatever I
let me
have going
call
on
you after
personally.
work.
Right, exactly. Or when I'm free, right? Because I can work in between calls and I
Right.
can communicate with you. But that was the
Yeah, yeah.
only permissible reason to do it. The problem is
Huh.
how do they know what I'm muting for if they can't hear what's going
Right. I
on?
mean, you
Right,
can say I'm muting for this reason
right.
and then do something completely different. I know
So,
I was
so
really shocked about that.
back then, and in the agency that I specifically work for, much higher standards for hiring, and I don't think it necessarily a degree is requisite for that. I know a lot of police officers that don't have any higher education. They have a high school diploma and they went to academy, right? But their
Hmm.
job standards are so incredibly high that they don't let you get to doing full blown policing without being very strict about the constitutional application of the law, right?
Interesting.
It does help. I do think education can help. I've also seen education be counterproductive to policing at times.
I was, I mean, I have questions about that too.
Right,
But
because yeah, yeah, we'll get to that. We're gonna shelf that one because I think it's a good
yeah,
discussion. But
cool.
generally, are you gonna trust me more on my mute if the stop was lawful, the arrest was lawful, and I was very transparent about what went down during the traffic stop?
Right.
Attorneys talk about this all the time. It's like, well, what was your reason for the stop? I explained it right then and there in the moment. I have them lawfully detained. I get them identified. I mute real quick because I'm, again, texting my wife, like, hey, somebody's got to pick up the kids because I'm going to be late. Unmute
Okay.
because they don't need to hear my personal conversation. Then make a
Hmm.
lawful arrest. Don't treat him poorly and get him there. There's no misconduct. There's no
Right.
reason to be sussed out by that muting.
Yeah. There's no holes in
Right.
like, there's no plot holes, or is that what it's called?
I mean, sure, yeah. I mean, for us,
Sure.
it's plot holes, right? This is
Yeah.
where we don't have a dog in this game. But if my detention was bad, my investigation was bad, my articulation was bad, and my arrest was bad, okay, well, why the hell were you muted? Again, it's
Yeah.
you don't know the lock to my phone, but I'm always talking to you. I'm always transparent about where I am. I'm always where I say I'm going to be. You're not as weirded
Yeah.
out
Yeah.
about
If it
not seeing
proved to
my
be
phone all the
more trustworthy.
right. So
Yeah.
some of that is trust based, but I think
Hmm.
especially in today's day and age where there's a lot of trust that's been eroded with the public, I
Hmm.
would rather make a policy that says don't do personal stuff while you're on duty, right? Or at least make time
Yeah.
aside to
Just
do it.
don't make that risk
Uh, we
for
we
yourself.
we talk
Yeah.
about it all the time about emotions. A lot of people say that they want
Okay.
police officers to be more empathetic and to be I was like, no, I don't want you to have feelings when you're there. I need you to administer the law the way that it's written. The joke
Yeah.
for us is bring back robot cops, right? Like I want a impartial, adult
Interesting.
to go.
Following the law
Well,
and
yeah, do it by the book, then go have your PTSD moment afterwards. What I don't want you
sure.
doing is making an emotional decision in that point and allowing your emotions to bias you when because these
Yeah.
are life altering events for everybody else. This is another day for you,
Yes.
right?
Yes, exactly.
But it's that
And that's
counter, but it's like a counter into I that policy might seem cruel and mean and maybe like unfair, but I don't. But
towards
it
police officers.
yeah, but I think it's more fair to the job and the profession as a whole. In the same way that I
Hmm.
don't think it's unreasonable to say, hey, while you're on scene, I don't want you. We can redact it on the back end. And you need to trust us to
Yeah.
redact anything that might be personal. Cause yeah, I don't need like what happens if my kid's like panicking and has to FaceTime me or whatever. You don't want your kid's face being it's not pertinent to the investigation. And so
Sure,
I
sure.
would rather have a department say, we want transparency, so we want to have a no muting policy. They could disable the mute if they really wanted to,
Mm,
right? We'll
right.
we'll redact any personal information on the back end, right? Because the same thing
Mm,
for like you got, and let's say you got sexually assaulted. You don't want your name out there. We're gonna do a pseudonym form. We're trying to be very
right.
private about the conversation. I don't want some
Hmm.
D bag to FOIA this to go plaster this all over the internet about you telling something specifically to me in a moment of vulnerability as a victim of a crime. That doesn't
Right.
need to be out there. You should be able to opt out from the public seeing that. That's a redaction I
Hmm.
think we can all collectively get behind, but it should
Yeah,
happen on the
exactly.
back. I shouldn't be alone in a
Yeah.
room with a victim of sexual assault and then muting my body cam like that. Do you see what
So
I'm saying?
very
You
true.
see what I'm saying?
Yes,
Like,
that's
like
sketchy.
that, that's
Hmm.
sketchy. And I think it should be seen as sketchy. So like, that's kind of
Yeah.
where, again, we have to trust the process on both sides of the fence, I think. And
Yeah.
I get why
And
police officers feel some kind of way about, well, I don't want my personal information out there. I was like, yeah, but you're on duty. We're paying for that time as the taxpayer.
right.
That's going to
Yeah.
be a hot
That's
take
very
for a lot of
interesting.
people. There's going to be a lot of cops
Yeah.
that are going to be like, hell no, I would never. And I'm like, then cool. The job's not for you. That's okay.
Right. I think that is part of the whole trust just
Right.
war right now. Nobody trusts the system. I mean, with even with this American Fork situation, I guess the like all of the redacted footage was like accidentally leaked or something like
Right.
that. So like who
And
knows what could have been in there.
yeah.
But I mean, I think that that's big. I think that needed to be leaked. I
Yeah.
think they redacted that for no good reason.
Well, and that's kind of the
But just
justification is like, what was your justification for redaction? I think they should have to provide it, in my opinion.
right. Yeah.
Because again, if Ben had stuff in there that he didn't want people to see, and he'd be like, "Hey, we're going to release this. This is what we can legally redact." Now, if
Yeah.
you just want it redacted that you went and diddled some kids and you don't want you, well, it's too bad.
Yeah.
That's an
Yeah.
element of the
Sorry.
offense for this criminal offense, right?
Make better decisions.
Right. But if like
Yeah.
if it's even if you are said kid diddler, but like your cell phone number gets shared, your home
Mm.
address is getting shared during that should be redacted. We shouldn't be doxing people just because they're suspects of crimes, right? Even if they're
Right, right.
guilty of them, because that information is not pertinent to the investigation. Now, if the murder happened in your
Yeah.
house, well, sorry, dog. Maybe don't murder people in your house, right? like that.
Exactly. Sorry.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah, very interesting. No, that's oh my gosh. There's so much.
Hey, that's what we do for a living. We're here for it.
Right, right. Exactly. Um okay, so yeah, we talked about the muted mic stuff. Um how oh, let's see. I guess that doesn't really matter. Um oh, okay. Something that my me and my chat were talking about the other day was qualified immunity.
Mhm.
Do you have
Oh,
thoughts
sure.
on
Oh, yeah,
that?
yeah. So
Yeah.
generally, most people don't know what qualified immunity means. So most people's misconception on qualified immunity is going to be that this means that cops can't suffer consequences for crime. Qualified immunity expressly only covers the civil side of the fence. So I
Okay.
can qualified immunity won't cover me for a crime. Period. The only time I'm going to be covered on a crime because I'm a police officer is I have a duty to intervene in certain circumstances, right? So you and I are sitting across the street from a school shooting, right? Is there any consequence for you not getting involved in trying to save those kids? No.
I mean,
You're not going to
yeah,
get
I don't
fired.
think
You're not
so.
going to get fired as a
Right.
streamer. They can't come civilly sue you on the back end or whatever. So
Right.
if I fail to do that as a police officer, I believe there should be more consequences. But theoretically, I could lose
Mm.
my job for not doing that. Uvalde, it should have happened more, right? We can all collectively agree on that. Um,
Sure.
let's say, again, you're my victim of a domestic assault, right? And I decide to say, well, I'll press these charges, but you're going to have to give me your phone number and go on a date with me.
Ooh,
Qualified immunity is not going to cover me there. Now, it might
right.
say, well,
Interesting.
like, let's say I beat the charges. Let's say somehow in some way I go hire, Johnny Cochran and I have a great defense team, the same guys that defended OJ. Somehow I wiggle my way out of that. We can have some argument about qualified immunity, but qualified immunity only applies on getting sued. So that's strictly a
Hmm.
civil thing, period, right? So it doesn't affect cops we prosecute and imprison more cops in America than anybody else in the world. Anybody else
Hmm.
in the history of mankind, and this is not a good thing, but we do hold more there are more law
Right.
enforcement officers in prison here than anywhere, period.
Yeah.
Which is a good thing. We would like that as Americans. We're like, hey, we want to hold them accountable,
If
especially if they're being
somebody's
scumbags,
being
right?
a jackass, yeah,
Right.
sure.
Um, the other side of qualified immunity is it has to be earned. So let's say, even though I'm a police officer, right? I decide, I'm going to use a flock camera to track you to your
Mm.
house, come up, show up, and knock on your door and be like, hey, yo, girl, I want your phone number,
We
right?
just learned about flock cameras.
Right, right.
Anyway,
But
yeah.
let's say I do that.
Hmm.
And maybe they couldn't find a way to make it a crime. Like they fired me from my job for being a scumbag, right? But I wasn't doing a law enforcement action. Let's say you want to sue me because again, you're a protected party, right? Like you're like, hey, well, like part of me being a public figure is I prefer anonymity. There's going to be some issues with now you're going to have to move because you don't want people showing up to your house or whatever. Sure, that's a
Okay.
lawsuit waiting to happen. And I don't
Okay.
qualify for I literally it's called qualified immunity because I have to qualify for it. I have to be
Hmm.
doing a law enforcement action, a lawful law enforcement action for that matter, and then
Hmm.
any side effects from that. So again, you're getting kidnapped. I get into a gunfight with the guy that kidnapped you, and I hit you with a bullet. Am I going to be criminally held for that? Probably, yeah. I recklessly
Okay.
shot you with a bullet. I shouldn't have. I know I was trying to save your life, but I sucked at my job, and I went and
Sure.
struck you.
Sure.
But you're not going to likely be able to sue me civilly. You could probably sue the department,
Okay.
right? Potentially. But like all
Hmm.
qualified immunity is doing is to prevent people from getting really sue happy. Let's say we get into
Mm.
a physical altercation, right? You and I fight because you don't want to leave your boyfriend's house. It happens all the time. Don't ask me how I know. But you're
Rough.
invited. It's a Tinder date gone sideways, he thought you were cool, so he let you show up, and then it's like, ooh, I kind of want her to leave. She doesn't live
Get out.
here. She doesn't pay bills here. She was a guest here. I don't want her. I want her to leave now. She doesn't want to leave.
Okay.
I show up. We get into an altercation. Right? You punch me in the face. I'm not allowed to do that back. If I can in certain circumstances, but you
Mm.
get hurt from that altercation, right? I take you to jail. You want to come around and sue me for assault or for the hospital
Because
bills or for
they
whatever.
got hurt punching you in the
Sure.
face.
Yeah. And theoretically, let's say you and I got in a fight right now. You can
Uh huh.
absolutely sue each other, right? Because you and I have no reason to
Right.
be assaulting one another. If I'm
Right.
having to arrest you because you are harassing your Tinder date because you won't leave his house,
Hmm.
you get hurt because of it. Qualified immunity is
Mm.
designed to say I was not allowed to not intervene. I was not I was
Yeah.
not
Like I was
given the
doing what I
opportunity, right?
could do.
Because I
Yeah.
was on duty, because I was doing something lawfully within the scope of my job, I can't just be getting
Mm.
sued on the back end just because you got hurt by doing it.
Right. Right.
Normally in civil court, one, the amount of evidence needed is so it's preponderance of the evidence, which is literally your argument just has to be better than mine. Versus like
Which
which is
sucks.
not you're right.
Yeah.
He's a big guy, I'm a little girl. F that guy. He should be able to, I should be able to
Right.
sue him, right?
Right.
He should have been able to
Uh-huh.
subdue me without hurting me, right? Um,
Yeah.
they're going to give some
Hmm.
deference to law enforcement there because what they're trying to encourage is not what happened in you. Because let's say I get rid of qualified immunity. Do I want to kick the door, potentially shoot my gun and miss and hurt somebody else? Or do I want to just sit here and hope he tuckers himself out?
Right.
I don't want to get sued. I don't want to lose my house and my pension and all this
Right.
stuff. So like
It takes out that hesitation.
we're trying to give officers at least an opportunity on the civil. Now you're gonna have to still wear the criminal side of the fence. That happens all the time, right? You make the wrong
Yeah.
call, you shoot a perfectly innocent person, yeah, you're gonna go to jail, right? You should get prosecuted, something, get decertified,
Hmm.
whatever. It doesn't happen enough in my personal opinion.
Okay.
But technically qualified immunity, a lot of people think, well, they're just gonna get away with crime. And I was like, no. I was like,
Like, nah,
they're probably gonna
that can
know
still be.
they're gonna know to shut up because they're cops, right? They're gonna know to not be reckless
Mm.
Ben and give up all this free information, right?
Right.
And most of the time, like the burden of evidence is on the state to prove that you did a crime. Most of the time, if you keep your mouth shut, it is very hard to prove crime without DNA and all this other stuff. And if it's a misdemeanor, they're not going to spend all that money trying to prosecute you. But
Hmm.
on the civil side, like you said, something me characterizing you as a woman in a domestic assault violence situation, right? You could sue me for that now. Well, how
Hmm.
dare you paint me in a situation where you could theoretically, and I
Yep.
would have to
Right.
decide whether I was going to defend myself or not, and it's going to cost
Interesting.
money, and even if it's
Ugh.
completely frivolous, I still have to
Hmm.
prove that if we want to get involved in civil litigation, and the whole point of
Yeah.
qualify we how many people the last fight I got into outside of policing was in middle school, right? I was a
Nice.
very boring kid, right? In law enforcement, the amount of assaults and fights and struggles and yelling matches and getting cussed out and death threats and crazy stuff like that. In that
Yeah.
time period, nobody would want to do that job if there wasn't some like, okay, not everyone can sue you, especially if we're making you go or placing the expectation on you to intervene to go. And
Hmm.
so currently,
Yeah.
there's been some changes in that here recently. It's Barnes v. Felix was the biggest Supreme Court
Okay.
case. You guys can Google it. It's happened in
I
2025.
I recognize it, but I don't know a lot of
Yeah. So
details about it.
the Barnes v. Felix basically actually took place here in Texas. I cannot create the set of circumstances that create my use of force. Basically, now it doesn't necessarily mean that I'm going to get a free pass if I have a bad outcome, especially on the criminal side. But they were saying on the civil side, well, if I, you know, tell you that you suck at streaming and that's going to be pretty reasonable for you to want to, you're going straight to fisticuffs, right? You're like, no, I don't suck at that, right? I if I goat you into a fight and then a lawsuit comes out of that because I hurt you, Barnes v. Felix is basically going to say, well, like you don't get to create the
Like you kind
circumstances
of started it.
exactly like and then get qualified immunity right off the rip because even if I
Mm.
goat you into the fight happens, I win, and qualified immunity, you can't sue me. You're
Mm.
encouraging, and this is what cops get for being shady, right? Collectively, because we are a collective, no matter what we like to think. Um,
Yeah.
we have earned ourselves into a place where qualified immunity got eroded a little bit on that court
Okay.
because they're going to evaluate your use of force in a very different lens. They're going to say
Yeah.
at the totality of the circumstances, which means like how did we get there first? It doesn't affect the
Yeah.
criminal charges, but it definitely affects the civil side of the fence, where qualified immunity more quickly gets removed from a situation. The easiest one that we can think about is if I jump in front of your car while it's on, like
Oh,
you've made it very clear to me that you're not going to stop driving this car, and I jump in front of that car and say, "Ma'am, you need to stop."
right.
I
Yeah.
have
Then
created the
that's gonna be on you.
circumstances right for my use of force.
Yeah.
I'm going
Okay.
to be justified possibly because you're about to run me over. Like I could die. I might skip the criminal charge, but your family's going to sue the piss out of me on the back end.
Right.
And they now have a court case that says absolutely you can sue him civilly. He doesn't have qualified immunity anymore because he created the circumstances for that use of force. You still shouldn't have
That's
tried to run me
interesting.
over with a car. Like they're going to hold you accountable for trying to
Right.
hit
Like
me.
you should have tried your best,
Right.
but
But like
yeah.
I don't get to pull the qualified immunity card on the lawsuit side of it because they don't agree with my set of circumstances leading up to it.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I mean that to me is a big difference from like so my thing with that is like the whole freedom of speech. Like if someone's saying words
Right.
to you and then because of those words someone punches you in the face,
Right.
to me, I still think that the person who punched is the worst person or
The law would
like
agree with you. Yeah. No, yeah. Most of the time,
right,
yeah.
right. Um so but is that used a lot where if someone's, saying something with their mouth,
Right.
um that can be used against them for
So
qualified immunity?
yes and no. So I the easiest principle I can give everybody is you have to treat every situation like an individual, right? So the same way that like, hey, don't judge a cover by the book by its cover, right? Like you got to look at
Mhm.
every situation. So let's say I'm in your house as a guest. I
Mhm.
tell you, Utah sucks or something stupid like that, right? and you say, well, I need you to leave this house. I tell you, F you no. And you physically shove me out of that. You can punch me in the face at that point, right? You're going to use force to remove me as a guest from your house.
Mm-hmm.
Was I only kicked out because of what I said? Yes. Did you use force on me when I
Right.
didn't use force on you? Yes. But in that set of circumstances, you're covered because you're
Right,
basically,
because they were on your personal
right,
property
right.
when you didn't want them to be.
Let's say we're in a
Interesting.
situation where like you have a child. And if you have a child and you're in a shopping cart, right? And I'm like, ma'am, you can't leave. You said, the hell out, you're going to keep me here in this grocery store, right? And I've, obstruct you. I'm not holding you there, but like I get in between you and the door and you just decide to run that cart right into it. It's an assault. I only verbally said something. And though I was physically in a place where you maybe believed I was about to go do it, are you now the suspect of? I could see the discussion coming out of it. I'd like to see the body cam because your statements are going to be crazy different, right? If I interviewed both of y'all and didn't get to
Right.
see it.
Right, right.
But like, is it reasonable for a mother by herself in a grocery store while holding a kid to think that a grown man getting in her way and telling her she can't leave when she knows she paid for everything, right? It's like, it's not like I'm shoplifting. I have my receipt.
Mm-hmm.
They watched me go through. I had a checkout person do it for me, right? There's no way I'm shoplifting here. This guy doesn't look
Right.
like
And
loss
this is just a
prevention.
regular guy, like not an
Yeah, not an
officer or
officer. No, it's
anything
just
like that.
regular Joe.
Yeah.
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 That's not unreasonable for her to think that she might be getting worse. You're getting into your car, you're putting the kid in the car seat, and some guy approaches you there. Right off the rip,
Mm-hmm.
pepper spray. Am I the
Sure.
victim of an assault? Absolutely. I got pepper spray. That sucks. Maybe I was telling you,
Yeah.
ma'am, you dropped your phone or whatever it was. But you're like, hey,
Right.
I'm shooting first and asking questions later because I'm in a vulnerable place.
Yeah.
I
The
show up.
reasonable fear.
Right. That's
Kind
where it comes in, where I'm going to sit there and say, okay, let me apply the
Interesting.
lens of
Oh.
reasonableness. Am I taking a report? Sure. But am I hooking
Yeah.
you up for assault? Probably not. Because I'm going to be like,
Yeah.
ooh, this is really in the gray on. I'm going to leave this up to the jury or up to the DA's office to determine
Mm-hmm.
reasonableness. But it's met my
Yeah.
threshold as a person looking at it for, despite the fact that he didn't hit you. He didn't like, how did I earn? That's what I'm
Man.
saying. Like,
Oh,
normally,
that's so
yeah,
complicated.
normally I would
Yeah.
say yes. Normally, words
Mm-hmm.
should never escalate to force, ever. Uh, if I
Mm-hmm.
told you I was going to kill myself, right?
Call the police now.
No, but I'm
Send them
saying
to
like you and I are close
your.
friends, right? No, let's say we're hanging out
Mm-hmm.
in the room and you and I are close friends. And I'm gonna go hurt myself, right? Which is theoretically in
Mm-hmm.
Texas illegal, which is hilarious. But the reason
So yeah.
it's illegal is to allow officers to use force to stop you from doing it. But
Mm.
you're my good friend. You don't want to see me get hurt, and you assault me to prevent me from killing myself. Am I the victim of an assault? Sure, hell yeah. Let's say we did it in middle school. Theoretically, it's a domestic assault. Even though
Yeah.
we're way decades away from
Interesting.
that, right? But they're going to look at that situation and say, well, me saying I have a history of mental health illness, right? I've had attempts in the past, and you're afraid that I'm about to go pull a razor blade out and cut my wrist. So you jump on me, right? Physically trying to restrain me to stop me from doing it or jump out the window or whatever. Like that's
Yeah.
another weird gray area where it's going to be like, well, like, yes,
Yeah.
words
Like
led to an
that's
assault,
reasonable.
but
But
like,
then,
yeah,
yeah,
the law's
yeah.
way more
Interesting.
gray in a lot of those situations than people would like to think. And you're having to make
Yeah.
a call on the field. We don't get instant replays most of the time. Every once in a while, you get bailed out, and there's like a video camera and a very good eyewitness. But a ton of times, this is happening in
Mm.
an alleyway, or this is
Yeah.
happening in someone's house where there's no nanny cam or something like that.
True.
And so it's
True.
more complicated, I think, than a lot of people realize.
Definitely. I know a lot of the time when I'm looking at some situation, especially when it's online and it's posted and you have, evidence on one side and then no evidence on the other side. I'm like, well, where's the proof for the other side? We got all this proof for this
Right.
situation and it's true that it's not always available. Um, it's good that it's more available now, I
Yes.
think, but at the same time, flock cameras and stuff like that, it can be very, I don't know, maybe a hard balance.
Oh yeah.
Um, hmm what are your thoughts about? Because I mean, after talking about just I don't know how heated it can get and how violent it can get so quickly. Here in the United States, especially, I've been learning a lot about, especially European countries, like how a lot of police officers don't even have guns on them.
Mhm.
Because obviously the citizens don't have guns. Um, I don't know. I don't even know what to ask. But it is just kind of it's a pity that police officers and citizens feel like they have to be fighting all the time, and
Right.
that it's like one team versus another versus all feeling on
So
the same team. Like, how do you
gu
feel about
gu
that?
guns in America's it's even for Americans is an interesting topic, right? Um,
Oh gosh, yeah.
I think there's I call it the most complicated double-edged sword in the world, right? So on one end, there's going to be people that believe that guns come down to like bodily autonomy, right? What is the ultimate flex of authority for you as a person? I'm just going to use you and I as an example, right? So
Hmm.
you and I are living in even in society. It doesn't even have to be an apocalypse, but I decide I want to hurt you, right? And let's say this is
Hmm.
a gun-free environment, and it's an enforceable gun-free environment. And you and I are just hanging out, chilling. You say Texas suck, and I'm like, no, Utah sucks, and we're both drunk and being idiots. And I decide to assault you, right? And me shoving you is one thing. You're gonna get mad. Tell your significant other, hey, I need you to beat this guy up for me, earn some brownie points. You want to get lucky today? Let's go earn it today, boy, right? But
Sure.
like a shove, uh, dump a drink on each other, spit on each other, all of those things are, or we can all say morally bad and probably rude or whatever.
Yeah.
But then I pull back and I punch you. Like I'm a 250-pound man.
Hmm.
Um, it gets scary and real in that moment, right? Let's just say,
Hmm.
you're Wonder Woman. You're 6'2", 270, just stacked. Like you're just a CrossFit animal.
Stat.
And I'm a,
Hmm.
105-pound man. You decide to punch me, right? And in a lot
Hmm.
of those situations, there is no recourse. The strong eat in that situation. The strong kind of get there. We have schoolyard bullying happening on an adult level, right? And in that situation, the argument's going to say, well, guns are the equalizing factor. I would argue yes in some situations. No, because if we both have guns, it's the better shot, right? Whoever can afford to go to the range and have the gun and do whatever can go do that. It can be
Sure.
equalizing. It can also be, if the whole playing field is level, maybe we just have to learn how to be respectful. On the flip side of that, you have people that would say, because guns are there, this makes for an what would have just been a punch in the face is now a gunshot wound. My
Hmm.
Me personally, and I have a little bit of bias in this, I think that guns really truly are more about making sure that you have a recourse. I always joke that American horror movies should always be more boring. It
Oh,
Yeah,
I
you know what I'm
agree.
saying? If like
Yep.
if hostile
The
happened,
decisions, whatever.
in
Yeah.
America, and you decide to go stay at my Airbnb, I decide to go be a creep, and I'm like, hey, I'm gonna come. The windows are locked, and you're gonna be like, well, you played yourself because this is Texas. I hope you
Okay.
have a gun.
Bye.
Yeah, exactly. And so, like in certain
Interesting.
circumstances, I could see where people, if they're willing to go and forego the likelihood that whatever this altercation, whether it's road rage, whether it's us disagreeing on how much I should be charged for my Big Mac, if people were going to make that a violent encounter, it's going to be a violent encounter no matter what. Guns being
Hmm.
present make it to where it could be a potentially deadly violent encounter. I totally
Hmm.
understand and empathize with the people that see that as a moral bad.
Hmm.
On the flip side, right? And this is kind of where in America there's a difference in philosophy, right? There's people that think that I have guns for bad guys, and there's people that say that I have guns for everything. And guns
Hmm.
for everything means that like, well, what happens if it's my shady sheriff? What happens if it's, you know what I mean? Like you can start getting, we're gonna say more creative on the application of
Okay.
arms simply being present. So I'm a cop here in Texas, right? The proliferation of firearms in Texas is way more than almost anywhere else, right? Also, the culture around having them, right? Um,
Hmm.
there are certain places where I think guns create a safety net where almost law enforcement's not even required. You have huge cities sometimes that have a very minuscule police department, right? And they're typically only
Interesting.
dealing with like property crimes and wild stuff like that. The
Huh.
laws surrounding the use of a firearm in Texas are wild. Like it is, you
Okay.
have to really screw up in Texas for Texas law enforcement to be
Interesting.
like, you should not
Really.
have shot that person. We're one of the very few places where prevention of theft in certain circumstances, you can use a gun to do it. Cattle
Oh,
rustling right now. You steal someone's horse. Like if I caught you I don't have to ask you to stop. I don't have to shoot you dead right then and
you can
there.
just shoot
Yeah.
without any warning.
Kind of crazy.
That's
Yeah.
crazy.
So Texas has unique posture where we have castle doctrine.
Unique.
Yeah, we're gonna call it unique, right? It's a very
Yeah, very special.
yeah, it's a cultural thing here, right?
Yep.
Well, what the side effect of that is that at least here, you'd be shocked at how many shootings we don't have here, despite that. Because even like
Mhm.
robberies and stuff like that, when they do happen, um, typically they're going to happen in places where hopefully guns aren't present. It creates this odd area where if an altercation is going to happen, it's going to be in a very obvious place. Versus if you look at places like the UK, it tends to be a lot more complicated. So I
Okay.
personally, as a police officer, I had no issue with people having guns. I
Mhm.
interacted with more guns, even on qualified gangbangers, right? Like, these are people that were on the cops and robbers scale. They're the robbers. I am the cops. It's very obvious who we are, right? I
Yeah.
had no problem, and he had no problem with us having guns.
Yeah, you
Um,
didn't feel anxious, like, more anxious than you would have maybe?
well, it's I understood why they had them, if that makes any sense.
Okay.
It's called a social contract is the best way I can describe this, and it's articulated this way in a couple different places in the Constitution.
Sure, sure.
I am employed here and using force here because you don't want to have to use your gun. You have one, but you would rather me use it.
But you
If something has
yeah,
to happen, I want law enforcement to step up and go and do it, right?
okay.
Um, I think from someone who's now experienced both sides of the fence, right? Like, I was not a cop before, right? Became a cop, got out of policing. I'm going back now, but
Yeah.
the the individual ability to not be dependent on somebody for your safety, I think, is worth more to me than the propensity of it possibly becoming a dead. Like, again, my road rage incident could
Mhm.
become deadly force. I don't like the idea of knowing, like, like, let's say you're my sister, right? You're my
Mhm.
sister, you're moving out on your own, you're getting your own apartment in the big city because you found a really cool career.
Mhm.
Until I knew that you had some semblance of safety, it would stress me out that you have no recourse if someone decides to become violent with you,
Sure,
right? Can
sure.
they be used against you? Yes. I understand the political argument against guns. Um,
Yeah, right.
I don't necessarily have law enforcement's going to need to have them if people can have 'em. I and I'm
Oh, absolutely.
and I am of the belief that to some degree of reasonableness, people should be able to have whatever they can safely have to protect themselves, right? They're going to have to
Mhm.
justify their use of force. They're going to have to use it reasonably, or they should have consequences, right? Um,
Right. And hopefully have some training with it,
right,
which I
right,
think is
right.
one of the issues here,
The
is that we don't have enough training, but
Yeah, I think
like citizens.
what's complicated about it is in the same way I argue we're not strict enough on driving, right? So driving is a
Yeah.
privilege. Technically, even by the letter of the law, driving on public roadways is a privilege. It's a taxpayer funded amenity. Your car is yours. You can own a
Mhm.
car and pimp it out and do whatever you want. But the second it touches a public roadway that the taxpayers pay for, there's rules now to this. There's regulations to this. And you have law enforcement
Yeah,
there to
yeah.
go and enforce those, right? Um,
Mhm.
we kill a ton of people with cars. We kill literally to the tune of hundreds of thousands of people a year with cars.
That is true.
And in general, you, me, and every other US citizen is not going to accept, well, you have to pay $1,000 a month to keep a driver's license. Hell no. Like,
Mm.
you can, and as an American, I would find that offensive. I would
Uh-huh.
also not give up my right to private transportation. So if they just wanted to ban cars, they're gonna provide it. You're gonna get a federally subsidized Uber
Mm.
system. Let's say that's the case, right? You'll never have to drive anywhere ever again because we can't trust you with driving. Well,
Right.
I don't want to
But then it's
pay.
like, well, now we have to trust you.
Right.
So
And so
it's
so
just like a swap.
the American perspective, I think, on this, and the reason why I think guns are so prevalent is that I don't want to
Right.
have to trust a government for my safety. And also
Mhm.
ultimately for the use of deadly. Because technically, if you wanted to, you can Bonnie and Clyde it, right? In America, it's a unique space where if I want to decide that we're gonna go lawfully or chaotic evil and have the gun and do my thing, like, technically that's within your purview. There's gonna be consequences for it, right? But that ultimately the individual right to liberty and freedom is important. But I do
Mhm.
think that the culture around it should shift towards responsibility, not just stay, well, because my guns and because the Constitution. You
Right,
should want to
right.
promote a more healthy ownership posture. You see this a lot,
Yeah.
not to get too weird about it, but you see this a lot also in, like, Christian circles. Like, I come from a
Mhm.
Christian disposition, and though
Me too.
growing up in church circles, where the posture was very much, see, the rules are going to save you, which is nowhere there in the Bible. But you know what I mean? And that it was your
Hmm.
job to be this system of accountability for people to say, well, that's sin and you shouldn't be doing this and you shouldn't be doing that. Versus when you look uh, at the posture that the Bible's prescribing to you, right? It's telling you you should be loving, you should be, and it's not accepting. Like, I don't have to accept your sinful life, but I do have to love you enough that you trust me, that when I tell you you're being sinful, that you shouldn't do it, you trust me with it. Oh, this
Interesting.
wonderful human being that is always good
Oh,
to
who
me.
obviously cares about
Right,
me.
right, right.
Yeah.
I trust this person's advice because they're super good to me and they're
Mm.
super kind. They're good to their wife. They're good to the random homeless. They're good to people who don't deserve it. Why
Mm.
is this person that way? And then when you push the Christian perspective onto them, they understand why. You
Hmm.
spend less time thumping people with a book,
Interesting.
spend more time reading it, and you'd be shocked at how much
Right, and
successful.
actually
You're right,
applying or
right, right. That's
interesting.
kind of the same. If people applied that in general to a lot of things, you would see a lot less
Oh,
divisiveness in the gun discussion. Heck, in
absolutely.
bodily autonomy for women, all of those politically complicated topics, I think get deconstructed
Yeah.
when it's more of a conversation and less of an argument.
Yeah,
Um,
definitely.
yeah.
Yeah, that I agree with that. I think that a lot of the, I don't know, gun violence, you can
Mhm,
say, if we just
mhm,
want to be specific,
mhm.
comes from to yeah, a cultural thing,
Yeah.
people feeling, I don't know, maybe desperate or like things are fucked up or something.
Yeah.
No, like they don't have the help they need or things like that.
Well,
Um,
we have a violence problem. I think everyone can collectively agree with that.
yeah.
And that's a problem into itself. And I agree that there's mental health components to that. But in general, guns or not guns, Americans would kill each other more than everybody else because we have mental health issues. We also have
Right.
politically motivated issues to hate each other. We have
Mhm.
socioeconomic reasons to hate each other, and we share. It's not like the World Cup's an excellent example of this, right? Who
Okay.
are the people in Japan rooting for? Well, Japan, right? And maybe
Right. Yeah,
in
I'm like
yeah,
it's a pan, right?
right, it's Japan, right? And so it's same thing like in Europe, right? We're like technically within the boundaries of we won't agree with people in a town over from us. Not to mention within our own state, and even worse within our own country. Like, you want to talk about me? I was just in Philadelphia recently, and I grew up. It's Texas, so I grew up watching football. Right? I hate the
Okay.
Philadelphia Eagles. You want to talk about a bias that I have? I do not like the
Fuck
Philadelphia
that.
Eagles. Literally, like,
Okay.
not to say it
I
was,
love
but
it.
f those guys, right? But like is it hard to defeat that personal bias in me when the Philadelphia Eagles were playing in town and there was a bar fight and I had to show up and say, who's guilty of this crime? Is it the random person in the Eagles jersey or all the 100 Cowboys jerseys that are here? That maybe became a less complicated discussion for me, right? But
That's
like
so funny.
we have these tiny little cuts happening hundreds of times a day here in America. It's going to be my political candidate. It's going to be my favorite cup of coffee. It's going to be my favorite Warhammer chapter. Like, we are addicted to hating each other to some degree.
Mhm.
And I think marketing plays on that. As someone who's in like big traditional marketing, our job is to
Mhm.
make you hate somebody else. Because as long as I got a
Yeah.
boogeyman, I can sell you something. It's really
Right.
terrible.
It's that
Yeah.
like tribalism
Oh, dude.
mentality and
Yeah.
knowing your enemy
Yep.
unites you and
Oh,
all of
dude.
that
It's wild.
stuff. That's so
If
interesting.
if you looked back at 2001, for people that were old enough to remember September 11th, everyone remembers it for being really patriotic, and that was rad because everybody
Yeah,
collectively
yeah,
agreed
for sure.
what happened to the people in New York at the time and in the country. I remember fighter jets flying over my house for years in Texas because we had DFW Airport,
Yeah.
right? Every single time a plane didn't exactly come in right, there was an
You're
F-16
like,
chasing it. It was wild, right? But
gosh.
what
Yeah.
people, and I was a little too young to realize it was problematic at the time, but dude, the Islamophobia at the time was wild. And I was a young kid, so I
Yeah.
didn't have a beard. But you better mean being a tan dude with a beard probably would have been a little weirder
Fair.
back in
Yeah, yeah.
2001 than it is now, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
You're seeing this a lot with the stuff happening in Israel, where anti-Semitism is kind of an issue there right now. Where like I understand people having an issue with the political side of the fence with Israel itself, but like it
Mhm.
moving itself over to anti-Semitism is a very different ballgame. It's like you're having a problem
Yeah.
with a person because of where they were born versus having
Exactly.
an issue with the government doing shady stuff. Like it's a
Mhm.
very like, and again, these are the nuanced things that most people aren't educated enough to truly approach. Like really,
Sure.
you run into this. It's again going back to my issue with body cams. Is like it's cool that we get to see it, but a lot of times, like how much legal nuance has to go into it is literally an entire profession to evaluate
Yeah,
the
yeah.
law and apply it. You're asking an officer to do it in real time with a lot less education, right? And then with a
Yeah.
lot less information and time to process it. And
Mhm.
the same goes for people that are involved, right? You're uh, a woman in a parking lot. You see me walking up to you, and you're like, all of my bias says random man should not be approaching me in the parking lot, right? Like I'm not
Right.
unreasonable here, but has he crossed the
Mhm.
threshold for me to grab my gun or my pepper spray
Right.
or like I don't know, flip him off and tell him go
Yeah.
away?
Right, depends on
You're trying to
the
navigate
person.
that
Yeah.
same, or again, I'm sending you a harassing text messages as your coworker. You have to have my number as part of company policy, but is it a crime for me to harass you after hours? Like where does all that like how do
Right.
you navigate that in real time as people? And we can't, but we're asked to do it every day technically, you know. It's weird.
True.
I
And then we just have our judgments and
right. Well, and you live with the consequence, right?
Mhm. Yeah. What I mean, if somebody was sending you harassing text messages, I mean, what would you do
So okay, so
as a cop? Well, like,
every state law is different, right? Texas specifically, we have harassment charges here, right? So
mhm.
you're hey Josh, I'm glad you came on my show, but you're a scumbag, and you're now just texting me, right? Like, hey, you're a scumbag every day. Hey, in case you
Mhm.
forgot yesterday, I'm
We're
gonna
friends
remind you
on
today.
Discord now,
Yeah,
so now I
exactly.
can
Yeah,
send you
you could
harassing
harass me,
messages.
right? So in Texas specifically, the criteria is going to be I have to tell you, I have to give you notice. I have to serve you paperwork. Well,
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
not paperwork. I just have to notify you reasonably. This could be through a text message, a phone call, or something. I no
Yeah.
longer want you communicating with me, right? Typically, what I
Mhm.
would do, this happened a ton in dating. So you would get, yeah, we had a college within our jurisdiction, and a lot of these kids would live off campus, right? Because they want to be cool and I don't know, philander around. And so
Okay.
they're doing normal college things. I'm not judging. I'm definitely not judging from that. I'd be judging from a glass house there for college. But the
Yeah.
I'd get a phone call. I broke up with my boyfriend. He's not leaving me alone. I would literally text out a response to them. Do you want this to be legally binding for harassment? They said yes. Okay. I no longer want you to communicate with me. This is me notifying it. Any response to this is acknowledging that you have received and read the message. Any subsequent
Right.
message is going to be knowingly and intentionally, and I would even pull out the penal code offense, harassment by text. Subsequent
Yeah.
harassments, once I file that charge, will be stalking.
Right.
I used to type the whole. I had one.
Solid.
It was a great. I used to have it in a PDF.
It's
I
like copied
lost
and
this.
pasted. Yeah.
Literally, I would just whoop whoop. What's his name? Jeffrey. You
Yeah.
know, whatever it is.
Yeah, there you go.
And so I would text it
Fucking
out to him and
Jeffrey.
say, "Hey." And every once in a while, it would happen in front of me. The text would come out. He would immediately respond. And I was like, cool, harassment charges. And so we'd write a
Done.
report number. I would literally text him the report number from our city cell phone. Hey, this is Officer Josh. And by the way, you're implicated as a suspect. This harassment charge. Subsequent attempts to do it
Wow.
will cause
Mhm.
stalking. Text the
Yeah.
girl again. Enjoy your stalking charge now. Like every once in a while, you got
Exactly.
lucky there. But
Uh-huh.
once you've notified
I got lucky. It's so funny.
yeah, but once
You're like,
once
please.
hey, every once in a while. Again, it's hard to not be biased in some of these situations, but guy
For
randomly
sure.
stalking somebody, it
You're
made
like,
for
please let me charge you.
yeah. But
Yeah.
the once you are notified and you continue to do it, you are now harassing somebody. That's the only criteria we have here in Texas, which is kind of crazy. It's a very low
Yeah.
misdemeanor. Like you're not getting your door blown off the hinges and a SWAT team coming after you. Stalking, which can be done and can be met by subsequent harassment to the same person, that's a felony in Texas. That'll get a little bit more law enforcement attention, but
Okay. Yeah.
every state's going to be different. Their criteria is like some people you can't do it through text; you have to do it in person. Other people, like there's some reasonable fear aspect
Interesting.
to it. Um,
Okay. Okay.
yeah, there's going to be
You
different
can't just say,
criteria.
hey, if you text me again, that's harassment. It's
In
like,
most
well,
states, no.
not.
You'd be surprised
Yeah.
at most states they're going to say he's, and I understand the First Amendment right. People are going to say, "Oh, but it's my First Amendment right." The
Mm.
First Amendment, all of the amendments, including the Second Amendment, ironically, is only designed to restrict what the government can do to you. It technically has nothing to do with what people can do to you, theoretically, right? I cannot trample
Okay.
on your First Amendment rights by yelling louder than you on a sidewalk. Now, if the government does it, yes. Like if I go with a bullhorn and I cover the speech that's protected as a government agent, yeah, you can absolutely sue the city for that. You could
Hmm.
try to sue me for it, but now it's your First Amendment right versus my First Amendment right. It just sucks to
Right. Who
suck.
is this
I'm
more
a I'm a
important?
I'm a
Kind of thing.
louder yeller than you are, right? As long as I'm not
Yeah.
assaulting
I
you
feel
and
like that's how. Oh my gosh, I feel like that's just social media.
right, right.
Anyway,
But
the radicals.
and notice why there's no civil litigation that comes out of that is because
Right. Like you're allowed
you're
to
both individuals allowed to
say
do
that
it,
or do
right?
that.
And
Right.
so
Exactly.
like a lot of people will make those arguments saying that, well, it can't be harassment because of my First Amendment rights. And I was like, that's not how that works. I was like, once that it has to meet the criteria, right? But once it meets the criteria that the state will recognize is now trampling somebody else's liberty to, again, freedom, safety, and the pursuit of happiness, now we can create criminal charges out of it and make people stop.
Yeah.
That's the whole point of keeping the peace, but
Right. Yeah.
it's not what happened in
Gosh.
American forks.
No, it is not. Oh my goodness. Yeah, just the obvious. I mean, it's obvious the biases that were going on, but also, I mean, the more footage you see, the more it's like, okay, that's a little more understandable.
Oh yeah,
It's really fascinating, honestly. It's hard to I don't know.
it's a lot to wrap
Definitely
in.
just watching a video of it. It is. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
honestly like kind of mentally exhausting.
Mhm.
And just doing that as a police officer, just like day in and day out, that's that would be
Yeah,
really tiring.
the good news is most of the I was explaining this to somebody the other day. The only thing that I miss about full-time law enforcement is I always had recourse, is what I always called it, right? So like you watching something externally, even me right now that I have to go watch law enforcement interactions externally, we just get to watch.
Mhm.
It's very
Mhm.
stressful to not have some level of agency, right? Um, when you're the one that's there, you got a lot of agency. Like if you think about it, right?
Mhm.
So like let's say, you have a missing kid. Your kid goes missing, a worst case scenario for a parent, right? I have no idea where my
Right.
child is.
Yeah.
As an observer, that's just stressful. What are you going to do? Like as an observer, even if they're missing from like your neighborhood, let's say they're your neighbor,
You
what can you
feel
do?
helpless still.
Right. You know what I can do? Okay, we're going to shut down every major, if I get the leash to do it, I'm going to shut down every major highway and I'm going to check every single car. We used to do it.
Right.
There was a place, it was a huge park that we had, um, River Legacy Park up in Arlington. You guys can Google Maps if you want to see it. It's a very, very big park there. And
Okay.
kids got lost there all the time. There's like miles worth of trail. You would get grandma that didn't want to get on the
Oh,
bicycle with him. He would take too long to come back, right? Till I know
sure.
what it is, we're treating it like a kidnapping. And oh
Yeah.
my, there's only one way in, one way out of that entire place. Like with a car, so you'd shut
Okay.
the gate. We'd put a patrol car there and people would get
Wow.
pissed. And I'm like, I don't
I
care.
bet.
I don't care. If it
Yeah,
was
this is a
your kid,
child's life like on the line.
right.
Yeah.
For everybody else, it's incredibly, oh, where's this damn kid? Where's this whatever? But I had all the agency in the world to say, hey, we're going to do everything we
We're gonna do
possibly
something
can
about it.
to find this kid. And sometimes it took hours to find him
Yeah.
eventually. And fortunately in those, I never had one where I couldn't find because that would have stressed me out. But
That's good. That's really good.
we lost adults all
Yeah.
the time. Or like teenagers we would lose, but like infants, I was very lucky on
Oh.
those. But yeah, those
Yeah,
were also
yeah.
sketchy because you'd have like 16-year-old daughter, like phones got left at home, she's gone, and you're like,
Mhm.
ooh, like
It's like what's going that could be
I could,
anything. Yeah.
when and again, like especially with the mobility of kids at that age, like it would get
Oh
complicated.
yeah.
Some of those I worked that they did end up unfortunately being dead later, but it's
Yeah.
stressful. I did not work in a great place. It was not a nice place
No,
to
it
work.
sounds like it. Yeah. Oh my gosh. Do you think, I mean, I have a little tiny question that
Sure.
might be silly. Do you think that the American Fork Police Department gets like really riled up and intense in situations because they don't really have a whole lot of really awful things they see as often?
So there's two parts to it, right? So I think
Okay.
there's they are an example. You guys gonna think it's cool, but and I'm trying not to be hyperbolic about it. But there's
Okay.
one side of this coin where I do believe that they see their job as a privilege for other people to have, right? You were my subjects. This is my city. You're gonna do what I want you to do. So this
Mm.
is a very
I'm the
ego-driven,
superior.
right. So
Ah,
they don't
okay.
that right. And again, right to that, right?
Ah, icky. Yep.
When you come at it from a service mindset, which is something that we try to encourage here, it's like the whole reason why we started the channel
Yeah, that's what should be encouraged.
is
Yeah.
like you should want to become a doctor because you there was a cute kid, not to tangent a little bit here, but the kid was asked what he wanted to be when he grew up. And he was like he said a doctor and he says, "Oh, because you
The
want to
dog.
make
I think I've seen
yeah,
this.
you want to make a bunch of
Yeah.
money." He's like, "No, I just want people to hurt less." And I was like, "Oh, like, oh, never lose that kid. Like, I'm not
Yeah.
crying. It's just raining outside, right?" But
Exactly.
like
That's beautiful.
that posture often doesn't translate to the actual job. It's why doctors have like a really negative stigma around them of being like, you need to call me doctor, or you need to call me whatever. You need to when it's an ego-driven
Mm.
position, you tend to be driven. Everything's an attack on that ego, right? Well,
Yeah. Yes.
why don't you want to listen to me? I'm your doctor. You're like, well, I'm confused.
Yeah.
You're explaining to me what endometriosis or whatever it is. Like, I don't know what any of this means. You're not explaining it to
Mm-hmm.
me in a way that's satisfactory to calm me down so that I can go have
Yeah.
an informed conversation with my spouse about treatment, right?
Right. Yeah. Are you helping me, or are you
But
just
they
here to get your
automatically see
money?
it as an assault on their ego and their authority and their whatever, right? So American
Yeah.
Forks on the first hand was indicative of that. We always call it not lecturing. Like, I don't want to see you lecturing people. You're nobody's dad.
They lecture
Dude,
people
they
so much.
lecture
I
for
was I
all
was
the time.
watching
Yeah.
some of the unredacted footage just
Oh,
on my own, and
the
I'm like, "What are
lectures
you
kill me.
doing?
It's it
Like, are you their father?" Yeah,
yeah. So
it's really
on our
uncomfortable.
I'll show it to you afterwards. We have a scorecard that we
Okay.
have for live streams. We take points just for lecturing because I'm like, it's
That's
you're
so
nobody.
funny.
If you're
It
not gonna
happens
take
too often.
if you're not gonna take enforcement action, I'll give you some leash on a lecture, right? You're over there making out with your boyfriend in the park after hours. Like, I'm not gonna give you a ticket. You guys need to not be doing this. This is sketchy. As long as you guys are both of age, like, and are doing this reasonably, don't do this. Some homeless person can come and jump y'all while you're doing this. This is the sketchy part. Get out
Mm,
of here. I'll lecture you if I'm not gonna give you a ticket and I'm letting you go. But if I'm
okay.
gonna arrest you, why are we lecturing people? Like,
Why
the
are we sitting
punishment's already
here
there. Yeah,
like it's their
exactly.
villain
Yeah.
monologue,
Oh,
like,
dude, it's the
or
worst.
something like.
And so
Yeah.
your job is there to enforce the law, not to, I don't know, preach there, right? And so
Yeah.
when people get real preachy like that, or when people are very quick to an emotional response, it's an ego driven thing. And so
Yeah.
that's the first kind of red flag that kind of showed itself in I mean, because I did it chronologically when I
Mhm.
watched it. That very first interact, it was like the random kid that was there, like helping them film, right? And
Yes.
he
Uh-huh.
went straight to lecturing, and I
What
was
are
like,
you doing
"Yo,
with your
like,"
life?
I'm like,
Like,
"What are you doing with your life?" I was so mad. I was like,
you're
"What do you mean?"
wasting time, like, you're
Right.
wasting time and tax money.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, for
So
sure. Um,
the second half of this is gonna come from a lack of experience, right? So like
okay.
for me, what would make me nervous on a call, right? Is I can think on the back of my mind like what's the worst case scenario for me is like I have a car that's occupied 4 times. I'm stopping the car because it's related for a shooting. This car has bullet holes in it that I'm only now noticing now that I'm standing here next to the car. Like, I stopped it because it
Okay.
matched the description of the car in the
Oh,
area. And I'm like, well,
right.
I think this is just a BS stop, but I got to do my due diligence. Someone just got shot. I'm here to go do it.
Mhm.
While I'm there, I start smelling
You
gunpowder.
notice.
Everyone's sweating. Everyone's looking at me. I'm by myself in the middle of some shady area. I hit the little red button,
Uh-huh.
like, oh, Jesus, come save me now, right? Like,
Need backup?
that's it.
Mhm.
That would make me nervous. And even in then, I'm still gonna try to poker face it because I'm like, well, I need people here before this thing cooks off and it
Yeah.
turns into a 4-on-1 gunfight here. That's a reasonable reason to
Right.
be nervous, right? Um,
Mhm.
some kid not wanting to answer your questions, it's like that's every day. Also, like even being
Yeah.
like insult, I had some of the most heinous insults thrown at me as a police officer. We found most of them funny. I was like, yo, like
Yeah, because you're like, "You got nothing."
it's
Like,
like a roast kind of, if you ever watch that happen to celebrities. And it's
sure.
just like, but my ego's not wrapped into people having to affirm who I am as a person, right? The
Mhm. You don't
psycho
need that respect from
right.
them.
The
Like,
the
yeah.
the psychologists will call it an internal locus of control, right? I
Okay.
control my thoughts on myself, and if it's not my wife, or if it's not somebody else that's important to me giving me this critique, it really doesn't matter to me, right? Um,
Mhm.
I guess they don't recruit for that there. But they kind of saw everything as an affront to that. Worse than that,
Yeah.
they were treating what's effectively just a kid being a pain in the butt like this guy murdered Jimmy Hoffa and has his body in the back or whatever. Like it was really
Yeah.
apparent to me. The warrant service was worse, uh, in my
Mhm.
opinion, from showcasing they didn't know what they wanted to do, what to do. If
Okay.
I didn't approach welfare checks like that. I was like, yeah, there's
Yeah.
so many. I didn't even get into it in the video because it's not really that important. Most people don't care or need to know. But
Okay.
like, if I felt the need to have rifles present and a full stack and the body armor and whatever,
Right. Yeah.
they
For
could have
some
killed.
maybe Legos stolen.
Right.
Like,
But also,
why are
like,
you?
let's
Yeah.
say I did need it, right? But that's the way I
Hmm.
felt was appropriate to approach it. They would have killed you on the way to the house. They would have killed you when you rounded it. They would have
Mm.
finished killing you while you were standing in front of the doorway, I guess, shaking everybody down. Like, there was so many things done incorrectly tactically that they clearly don't do it very often. Heck, the kid that got
Hmm.
shook down in the adjacent jurisdiction where they were like, yeah, they were waiting to pounce on a kid. They jumped a random kid. I was like, yo, dude, like, you had
Like,
time. Why are you randomly
yeah.
arresting some random kid that you think's involved? Like the whole thing.
Exactly. And then kind of like laughing about it,
Oh,
or
dude.
just I don't know, seeing it
Thinking
so
it's funny,
lightly.
like, dude, we got written up for way less. Like,
Yeah.
I have documented
Good.
in,
You know.
what you're supposed to. That's the whole point.
Right.
That
Yeah.
there
Because that
has
really affects somebody. Like that can
right.
traumatize somebody.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Have I ever pointed a gun at a person that I shouldn't have? Sure. Happened all the time. In my area, we had shootings all the time. And if they said, you know, thin, wonderfully young, beautiful woman, right, ran around shooting somebody, right? Long brown hair, blue blouse, and I'm running into that apartment complex, and you turn and look at me, and I'm long brown hair, blue blouse, you were getting a gun pointed at you until I figured out otherwise,
Hmm.
right? Because in the
Hmm.
situation deemed that. Now, the second I realized you weren't it, here's my card. You're probably going to complain. It's totally fine.
Sorry.
My sergeant's information's on
Yeah.
there. I still have other work to go do. We would go solve it. But I had a
Hmm.
reason to do it. Eventually, I'd be
Yeah.
carrying a gunshot victim out of this apartment complex. I'm covered in his blood. My sergeant's going to be like, okay, you figured it out. You did enough to figure out she wasn't involved. Then you moved on.
Yeah.
Well, ma'am, I don't know why you're outside of your apartment at this time of night. You know what I mean? Like
Exactly.
that would
Try
be
and
the
encourage.
scumbag. Right, right, right.
I see that you did drugs in your eyes.
Right,
Like,
right. Yeah, your eyes, they look spooky. The
yeah.
whole thing was
Like,
dumb.
move on. You made a mistake.
Yeah.
You're okay.
And it's fine
Yeah.
to admit it. I would rather an officer earnestly try to help with real crime, not what they were doing there, but like real
Real
crime,
crime.
um, a-
Oh.
and give them the leash to make a mistake. And a lot of times, in a lot of those situations, again, let's say it was a shooting and it was in your apartment. You're like, I didn't even know one had gone on. Shout out to the police for showing up and doing something about it, right? And taking
Yeah. Yeah.
people into
Sure.
custody or whatever. Like, don't get me wrong. If you hated me for the rest of my life for that, I can live with that.
Yeah.
Because at the end of
You're
the
trying to
day,
do the right thing.
if you were my victim at that time, you would appreciate the level of urgency that we used to go there and try to save your life or prevent that level of victimization. It happens.
Sure.
Like you're gonna get bad information. You tell me that the shooter's wearing an orange jumpsuit and has, red hair, and it's nowhere close to the right because you're just trying to set up your neighbor, right? And
Mm,
you know what I mean? Like it's not at all what's going
yeah.
on. I point a gun at them, I prone them out. They don't have a gun on them. They don't know what's going on. And
Yeah.
I'm like, you got any disputes lately?
Right.
You're like,
Right.
yeah,
Yeah, that's
it's
something that
complicated.
I've been thinking about too, is that like once you do get into a situation, even if you've had something said like, oh, this person is doing this and being crazy, and if you get into that situation and you can kind of see that it might be a lie or it's not the situation that you were thinking,
Right,
um, do you make some different decisions, especially like when it comes to like swatting or
right,
like going into a situation with guns at your face?
right.
If you can start to kind of get an idea that, okay, this is not the situation that I was expecting,
Yeah. So it
do you
requires a higher
change?
level of thinking, right?
Right,
It
right,
also
right.
requires a higher level of so oftentimes we got we called them spoof 911 calls, right? When auditing became popular, it was right around 2018, 2019.
Okay.
Auditing became a thing. So like YouTube, if you actually look back on this, you look at auditing channels on YouTube, they became more prevalent at around that time. This is pre 2020. After
Okay.
2020, they blew up, right? Um,
Sure.
but at the time, crime doesn't happen very often. Like, how often do you see law enforcement out with people and it's not a traffic stop? It's not often,
Right.
right? And
Right, right.
so, how do you get content if it's not happening very often? So, people would fake domestics. people would fake 911 calls just to have us show up, just to yell at us. This happened all the
Oh.
time. Now,
Oh gosh, that's annoying.
it's really, don't get me started. But
Yeah.
especially in like our area in particular, had a lot of crime. And like I was like, dude, we work.
So you're like, why are you
Yeah,
doing
I
this?
was like, we have 30 murders a year. What are you doing? Like, like
Wasting our
you
time.
need to chill.
Yeah, yeah.
But in that situation,
Gosh.
you if you're an experienced investigator, right? So you and I get into a verbal argument, right? Is an easy example that I always give people. And you're gonna say, again, we did it in middle school, so it's technically a domestic, right? And you're gonna say, well, he punched me in the face and threw me through a window. Yeah, that's a pretty serious call. So I'm gonna show up as a police
Right.
officer. You're my victim. I've worked this call before. Sit everybody down. I mean, he's being a little sus. I'm gonna handcuff him, maybe, right, to make the scene safe.
Sure, sure.
And you're crying your eyes out. You're like, yeah, he reached back, punched me in the face, and he threw me through a window. I'm like, well, which window? Like, there's no broken windows. Like, is it an imaginary window? Like, are you okay, man? Like, you
Right.
know what I mean? Like, do you
Let's
take
get to the
medication?
bottom of the
But you have to ask questions and
interesting.
qualify some of that stuff, right? Same thing
Right.
being said, right? Well, she's been terrorizing me. She's been showing up to my house. And you're like, hell, I live in
Mm,
Utah, dog. Like, I don't know the last time I've been to Texas. What do you mean at his house? I don't even know where this guy lives. Like,
interesting.
but I'm trying to call in this criminal complaint. Like, I develop. Shout out to the officers that trained me when I was a young lad. Right? They said
Yeah.
everyone's going to lie to you to some degree, is what I was told when I was young.
Mm,
He said because nobody likes to be the bad guy. Now, did I say some
mm-hmm.
things to you in that domestic dispute that I probably shouldn't have said? Sure, but I don't want to be painted that way, right? Did
Right.
you do some things that you probably shouldn't have done in that situation? Sure, but it was a verbal argument only. Well, I'm embarrassed because I
Mm-hmm.
call the cops, so I'm just going to start
Mm,
making stuff up. And so, like, the truth is
yeah.
typically somewhere there in the middle. Neither party, even a victim of a crime who's genuine. Let's say I genuinely punched you in the face. You got a big old shiner there, whatever. I'm gonna,
Yeah.
as a police officer, go with what I can prove. So I'm going to
Uh-huh.
treat you as my victim. We're going to do the investigation in a manner that's not going to be traumatizing to you. And I'm going to be, hey, Josh, you screwed up. You're going to jail. Like, it sucks to suck,
Mm-hmm.
No
Yeah,
lecture, no
sorry.
nothing, right? I'm be like, hey, maybe don't hit your wife next time. You don't have to worry about going to jail, but don't complain to me, right?
Yeah, yeah.
But in that, you could have slapped me in the face before that. I can't prove that. I might even say it. Well, she slapped me in the face. She wouldn't stop slapping me, so I came back and punched her. You didn't hit me hard enough to leave a mark. I'm a little darker complected. I got a beard. Maybe you hit me here and you couldn't see it.
Mm,
I can't go based off of what I think. There's a famous
yeah.
line from Training Day. If you ever get a chance to see Shady Cops, the great movie, Denzel Washington.
Okay.
And he says, it's not what you know, it's what you can prove that matters. And truly in the
Mm-hmm.
court of law, that's the case.
It is. Yeah.
Right. And
Yeah.
so in that situation, I think it's the unfortunate reality of law enforcement. I know I've taken people to jail that probably didn't deserve it. But I said, based off
Yeah.
the circumstances I got, I have to apply the law the same way every time. And they call it procedural justice. I do it
Okay.
based off criteria, not based off of how I feel, not based off of
Yeah.
how
Or who you might seem
right.
as an individual
But
or
I could be a little
yeah.
autistic, and you're just a really good talker, and you are so
Mm,
good at gaslighting me on things that I'm not good at explaining myself, and you give a
mm-hmm.
perfect narrative that fits perfectly to make me out to be the bad guy, right?
Mm-hmm.
And every time he asks me, "Well, cops make me nervous, and I have a stutter, and it frustrates me even more." Of course, I'm going to jail. That's
Yeah.
scummy, but of course, that's going to be what happens,
It
right? In that
is.
situation,
Right.
if
Right, right, exactly.
if you're a good investigator, you probably start picking up on she's a that's a smooth operator. Like, she can talk, and clearly he's having issues. Maybe
Mm-hmm.
let me soften my posture when I'm talking to him, and maybe I can get a fuller story. Maybe I can pull a third party in.
Mm.
Maybe I can talk to the neighbors who are like, oh yeah, she's always yelling at him. Oh yeah, she's always doing this stuff.
Yeah,
And I can
yeah.
kind of get a better non-biased perspective on it. But like,
Yeah.
that's hard for even experienced officers to do if they've never had to do it, or that the
Right. It's
expectation
like
isn't there for you to do it.
social skills.
Right.
Yeah.
There's a
Like,
lot of people that can't. And that's like a hard thing to recruit for. And normally you skate by. Writing tickets doesn't require that much investigating. You were speeding.
right.
Here's your ticket.
Uh-huh.
You were
Yeah.
parked somewhere you weren't supposed to. Here's your ticket. Like,
Yeah. Doesn't matter the reason. Yeah.
that's not high speed, low drag, right?
Mm-hmm.
Domestics, shootings, worse when you start talking about, like, I had a lot of calls where you had like 16-year-olds in relationships with 25-year-olds. And I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
she's convinced it's her boyfriend. She's convinced there's nothing weird with that. But I'm like, I need to figure out to the degree what this relationship was. They're texting each other. It's icky, but that isn't
Mm-hmm.
technically a crime. But they're sleeping together or they're
Mm-hmm.
having a legit physical relationship.
Right.
How
That's
do I
okay.
suss that out? Especially when I have an unwilling victim. We can
Yeah.
collectively as society say that scumbag needs to be in jail, but it's not what I know or it's not how I feel about it. It's what I can eventually prove. And so, like,
Mm-hmm.
that kind of a nuanced approach, we had it too with like parents
Yeah.
that were just in denial that their kids were victims or
Mm-hmm.
nervous that they were going to lose custody if their kid was a victim. And so I
Wow.
was like, I like, yes, it's
Oh,
frustrating. Like on the outside looking in, it should be easier,
like
but we don't have consequences on the outcome of this event, right? We're also
right.
potentially better educated, better informed. We're maybe more healthily developed as individuals, but like that stuff got complicated. And like you have to be good at asking questions. You have to have the interpersonal skills to like navigate those waters. And that's kind of why you just take a posture of you're giving me a version of the truth even if I know
Mm-hmm.
dead to rights you're probably my victim, I still need to figure out all of the aspects of it because that might affect to the degree that I'm charging this person
Right.
with, right? It's
Mm-hmm.
nuanced, it's complicated. I don't I
Yeah.
as much as I spend time dunking on cops for being bad at their job, I will admit on a lot of those situations, it's a lot to ask out of a normal human being.
Yeah. Definitely it is. And I feel like to every story there's two sides.
Oh,
Like
yeah,
I've said this before where I feel it's very rare. Not impossible, but I feel
right,
like it's really rare that you have one good guy and one bad guy.
right,
And just this one person did all the wrong choices and this person was completely innocent. Like it's
right.
yeah, human beings are complicated and they trigger each other and it leads to crazy
Yeah,
shit.
I was gonna say
So it's
welcome to adulting. It's the worst part about it
exactly.
is
Woo!
there's no rules. Yeah,
Yeah, exactly. So just trying to understand each other is that is hard.
it's
That is
complicated.
hard to do. Yeah. Um, I feel like I've seen some questions in the
Sure,
chat,
sure. Yeah, I
and
mean, machine
I
gun them away. I'm good with it.
right, right. If anybody has questions in the chat, I have more questions, but I know that we've missed some. So if people have questions that we didn't get to, or if you're thinking of anything, then feel free to put them in the chat now. I also wonder. So I think it's your lunchtime, right?
Yeah,
Is
I
it
mean,
like 1
technically,
p.m. for you?
it's like 12.
Yeah.
It's like 12:10.
Oh, you're right. You're only an hour
Yeah,
ahead of me, not
yeah.
two. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So maybe we can do a few questions, take a quick break, maybe in like a half an hour or something.
Sure. I don't. You're not hurting my feelings at all. Yeah, I'm used to being stuck on camera for 6 hours uninterrupted. I'm gonna do that later tonight.
Right,
My
right.
chat's chuckling like, oh, lunch break. Like, what a
Lunch? What the fuck's a
scrub.
lunch
Yeah,
break?
exactly.
Sure. I
So
mean, I
I'm
usually just like get a protein bar or something
sure.
like that. I have
Yeah.
hypoglycemia, and so I need to like eat.
Yeah.
Stupid.
I am
Um,
fortunately not ever in a calorie deficit because I like food probably a little too much. So I'm built with
so you
pre-baked
are
calories.
good.
Yeah.
So maybe no lunch for. I'm totally kidding.
No, you're fine. So yeah, whenever
No.
you want to do it, I'm here for it. I'm happy to answer questions. We'll wait.
Cool. If someone said he needs his donuts, do you hate that stereotype?
No, so personally, no. One, again, you can't be
Okay,
mad about
that's
people
good.
poking fun at you depending on your job, right? You have to have kind of a thick
Right.
skin to do it. But
Hmm.
who doesn't love donuts?
I mean, so true.
Now
They're
there
just saying
are
you have good
yeah,
taste.
there are
Really.
good donuts and bad donuts. Those exist, but I think in general, I take no offense to that at all. Donuts are
Good
delicious.
donuts and bad
It's a
donuts.
thing. That's a thing.
Awesome. Um, okay, so yeah, this was a question that I saw earlier that we missed. So thank you, Flex. What does he think of all the body cam channels? Do you watch Donut Operator?
So I
Have
have
you heard of them?
body cam channels in general. I have no problem with the sharing of the information, right? What I typically don't like is that most body cam channels will portray a situation, and we actually have a category for our live stream in bad titles. So they'll say
Oh,
Karen gets karma for
uh,
being a pain in the butt, right?
I see those all the time, and I don't click on them.
And when the problem is that we get sent them and they ask because they want to know, well, was she a Karen or is this legit? I'm like, oh, she's
Yeah.
absolutely a Karen, but she didn't do anything illegal. This is a civil rights
Mm-hmm.
violation. The amount of
Sure.
times bad policing gets approved because you have a bad suspect, right? Like there's a lady, you happen to be a Philadelphia Eagles fan in a Cowboys channel, Doesn't matter. You're guilty
Mm.
already. Boom. Worse when you start talking about like people's pre-baked biases, right? They don't like, they're anti-Semitic, or they don't like, redneck white people, or whatever it is. And that audience for that channel has decided that that person deserves a consequence, period. Even if it's not
Right.
legal, a consequence. They see
Mm.
cops as the karma police and not law enforcement. And so that
Mm.
most body cam channels realize that their CTR is better when they share very like hyperbolic titles like that. And what I hate is it conditions people to bad policing. The fact that anyone came out and on the face value of the investigation that occurred in the American Forks whole incident was remotely in the realm of legal is offensive to me, like personally, right? Because I'm like, I don't, is him being lecturing annoying? Yes, but it's not illegal, right? It's
Mm-hmm.
technically, he's allowed to be a butthole. It's conduct unbecoming, in my opinion, but like it's not a,
Right.
that shouldn't get you in trouble, right?
Sure,
Legally
sure.
speaking, you're not going to get sued over that. If I'm your supervisor, I'm lecturing you about it, but I can't justify giving you days off for lecturing somebody, right? But like
Yeah, yeah.
violating somebody's constitutional rights, big middle finger, Brady list them, the whole nine, right? I was
Yeah,
trying to
now you're
Brady
in
list a
trouble.
dog for lying, right? Like I'm over here getting mad about the whole thing. But
What?
it was the dog that a drug sniff allegedly sat and gave an indicator that there was drugs in
Oh,
the car. And I was like, but there's none. So what's the
but there's
deal?
none.
Like even
How
the dog's
dare?
lying. Yeah, I was annoyed about the whole thing. But
That's so funny.
but the like in general, like that's my biggest takeaway from those is I think that there's people on both sides of the fence because they'll say you'll have the anti-cop crowd that's like innocent bank robber get shot for only holding the lady
Mm.
hostage. She was only holding her hostage, right?
Like,
Well, why'd I
what do you
get
mean
shot?
only?
You're right. That's what I mean. Like they'll minimize the criminal elements that occurred there. Where I was like, hey, there's very real
Yeah.
victims here that you're just
Yeah.
minimizing and gaslighting into saying, well, it happens. It's the streets, what it is, what it is. And on the flip
Yeah.
side, you have terrible sometimes policing that's like should be
Mm.
fired, potentially seeing charges for like official oppression, but
Right.
because it
I
was a
saw one of those
Karen,
the other day,
yeah,
but it's not very often.
but because it's a Karen or because it's somebody that's, acting out in public and being a nuisance, society deems that they deserve a punishment for it. You see this all the time
Mm.
in protesting. Um, and that's kind of what I
Okay.
said. Like you have to have the job knowledge to realize like this isn't crime. Like I don't know what to tell you. Like I know it's going to be disappointing for you. Like for us, we like loud exhausts aren't a crime here in Texas. Like you can have as loud an exhaust as you want, right? You have to really
Uh-huh.
earn it. Had to be like an HOA violation, but it's an HOA thing, not a
Yeah.
cop thing, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah, that's what I think.
is it annoying? Heck yeah, but I can't do anything about that. I'm
But it's
sorry.
not illegal.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we especially during like election cycles, you have people with like the Trump flags and then the Kamala Harris flags, and they're like, "That's a nuisance." And I was like, "That's protected speech." Actually, as the government, if I try to do something about it, that's a
That would
problem,
be bad.
right? I'm not even
Yeah,
going to approach them.
exactly.
I'm not even going to talk to them because that would be
Hmm.
problematic, right? Um,
Yeah, yeah.
and then on donut operator in particular, most police related channels where they're like, I was a cop and here's my take on it. Almost all of them, I tend to disagree with 50 to 60% of the time. They tend to
Okay.
pick what I call layups, right? School shooters going in there shooting a school, cop goes in there and shoots him. Doesn't take a rocket science, takes some bravery. Like I'm not going to try to mitigate. That is a very complicated thing.
Right,
That
right.
requires courage. We can all universally look at that as that's a good thing. Um,
Hmm.
Guy beats up an old lady, runs, gets beat up himself by the cops, right? Or any of us in this
Hmm.
chat can be, hey, suplexed an 80-year-old lady. Yeah, suplex that guy. He earned it, right? Um,
Hmm.
you start looking at like what I would consider Eighth Amendment violations, which is going to be like cruel and unusual punishment and stuff like that.
Okay.
Dog
Yeah.
bites, I have a big issue with. I don't care if this guy robbed a bank. He gave up. He's laying on the ground. I'm sticking a 120-pound dog on him
Oh,
to chew half
right.
his leg off.
No, why?
So if I took my knife out of my belt and cut his calf off, I would go to prison. But because a
Hmm.
dog did it and I can't control my dog,
Right. Oh,
somehow we get a free pass, right?
not okay. Yeah.
So that's kind of what I mean is, and that would you would see whole on arguments happening between me and other cop channels. Same thing
Really.
too is where they won't acknowledge women in policing is probably the biggest issue that we see today, where like almost universally in the kind of propaganda channels, right? They're going to
Hmm.
say 30 for 30 is the worst thing that ever happened to policing. You women have no business in policing, da 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 da. Women can't do it, right? And
Okay.
my pushback is always, well, if we took an average, and men are more representative in the field, right? So we just have more opportunities for misconduct. But
Hmm.
how often are women the ones involved in police misconduct that affects the public? Sleeping around at work and all that
Mm.
stuff, something else, right? That's an HR issue, right?
Sure.
So
We don't see
non-HR,
that too often, I
yeah,
guess.
it's and some of it's a lack of availability, but also a lot of it's women tend to be a lot more risk adverse. Women tend to be less ego driven when it comes to they get their ego from very
Mm.
different places, right? You're a hot
Uh-huh.
woman, your ego's gonna be from being a hot woman, right? You're a
I
big dude,
guess.
your ego's gonna be from being a big dude. Like anything
Uh-huh.
that affirms that is going to be seen as positive. If you say, "Why isn't your truck bigger?" and you're a hot woman and your ego's driven by hot
I'll
woman,
be
you don't
like,
care
I
what
don't
kind
give
of
a
car.
shit
That's
about
my
that.
point,
Yeah.
right? Yeah. You don't
Right.
care that I can't bench press 800 pounds or whatever it is. Like your ego's not driven
Sure.
by that. And so
Right,
like a,
right.
a lot of them are going to take a real hard line stance and say that women have no business in law enforcement. And I would
Yeah.
argue, I was like, there are going to be qualified women that are going to beat out unqualified men. We can all collectively agree there are unqualified people currently doing policing, both men and women.
Hmm.
But when a woman screws up, she screwed up because she's a woman. When a man screwed up
Oh.
because the circumstances were weird. Or what about the
Mm.
suspect? And what was the suspect doing? In a ton of these
Interesting.
situations, like you were guilty because you had two X chromosomes and you shouldn't have been there
Mm.
because you have two X chromosomes, versus when a man does it, we try to make all these other excuses for him that, well, he's out of
Mm.
shape and oh, he's whatever. Women, it's
Oh,
just the fact that it's a status offense for them. Just because you're a woman, you shouldn't have been there. So there's a lot of these things
yeah.
where it
Rough.
gets their base amped. Their base is clearly drinking the Kool-Aid, a lot of this stuff, and they won't
Mm.
look at these topics objectively. And I almost never
Hmm.
see them calling out, especially on the more nuanced stuff. They almost never want to discuss it. And a lot of them are also out of touch. They haven't been in policing in a really, really long time. And even when they
Mm.
were in policing, they were in American Forks PD or something stupid like they weren't doing the job right while they were doing it, and now they're
uh.
commentating on it at a very high level. Um,
Mhm.
I have people within
Ugh.
my even just my Discord, right? I have people with 30, 40 years of experience. I have instructors in there. My peers are other instructors and people that are doing this currently at a very, very high level. We're informing our opinions and decisions based off that, not what makes chat give me more points or more super chats and stuff like
Right.
that. So it
Yeah, exactly.
in general, I have I'm gonna call it a negative disposition because I feel like they hurt the situation more than they help it. Um,
Okay.
I call
The
them,
cops, you
yeah,
mean?
most of
Sorry.
most of the cop
Okay.
channels, yeah. So like donut
Oh, the
operator,
cop channels. Okay.
yes, yes, and so
Yeah.
because they're trying to be cool to other cops. Our objective here, though we
Mm.
definitely have moments where we get to go all high five because a cop did a good thing. We make jokes that are only going to be really funny to cops or people that are cop adjacent. The goal here, and I mean, we've done it to the detriment to the growth of our channel sometimes, which was
Mm.
like, I would grow more if I would just take this position or take this stance. But the goal here is to
Mhm.
promote better police culture, not to make
Yeah.
people feel good about themselves or re-emphasize the thin
Yeah.
blue line or whatever you want to go
Feel like
call
they're
it.
on the right team
Right,
and
right.
all of
The
that.
idea is
Yeah.
that like everyone's like, well, we have to hold ourselves to a higher standard, but they aren't doing the holding people to a higher standard thing. And that's kind of where
Mhm.
my frustration lies. Like you're perfectly happy to throw a woman under the bus who probably shouldn't be in certain circumstances a law enforcement officer. I can understand the argument that a 105-pound woman's gonna have some negative drawbacks.
Mm.
But if that
Sure.
105-pound woman's in excellent shape, has very good judgment, and understands like, hey, maybe let's not get in a fist fight with a guy by myself. If she has
Mm.
the judgment and discernment to make good decisions as a law enforcement officer, I would take her over the D1 athlete. Man, that's an idiot.
With the ego.
That's kind of what
Yeah,
I mean. As like
for
if
sure.
physical ability was the only important metric, why isn't every NFL athlete just perfect all the time? Why isn't every NBA
Right.
athlete perfect all the time? Like they wouldn't make good
Right.
cops. Most people don't make
Yeah.
good cops in general. But
Oh,
so
I
yeah.
bet.
So
Yeah.
donut I it hurts me to say this because I understand what it does specifically to my community here, but I'm like it's just not it's not the way. like in general. Like if
Hmm.
you really want nature to be healing and to see the profession get better and to actually contribute to saving lives and all that stuff, like what they do typically is counterproductive to that, to
Yeah, I feel
service-based
like they're
environment.
just building more heat
Right.
instead of trying to
Well,
de-escalate, which is
because it
what
it
should be
sells
happening.
it sells clicks, it sells engagement, and that's why. So it's kind of
Yeah.
my take on almost it's most of it. It's not all of them, but it's most of them.
Hmm. I think it's cool that you take. I mean, that's one of the reasons why I really respected the video that we reacted that you reacted to, is because you seem to have pretty level-headed, not really super biased for one side
Right.
comments, and that is something that you just don't really see very often.
And
I think.
and that expectation and that bias that you have on it is driven by what you're seeing, right? Like
Hmm.
you're like, well, you can't see any nuance here. No, F him. I'm glad they shot him. I'm glad he died. That guy's a
Right.
scumbag. And you're like, well,
Exactly. It's like,
that's one of God's children,
really.
homie. I was like, is the goal ever to kill somebody? No, but it can be the consequence, right?
Hmm.
You're holding a
But we shouldn't
knife.
be celebrating
That's kind of what I'm getting at.
that.
We talk about it all the time. It's like, is this a bad outcome? Was this guy hurting a 10-year-old? Sure. Was he pointing guns at
Right.
people and shooting? Sure. He earned a bullet. I have no problem. It was a perfectly lawful thing. Death is
Yeah.
always a negative outcome. Doesn't matter who died.
Right.
Injury is always a negative outcome. Doesn't matter who did it. It's not a failure per se on law enforcement. We can
Hmm.
talk about society's part in like the mental health discussion, right? Like as society, we failed people in the mental health field, right? As society, we're
Yeah.
failing kids right now in schools. We're failing victims of crimes. But like as
Mm.
police officers, we can't just look at, well, screw it, he died. Fuck him. Like we can't have that posture because I think it creates bias.
No.
And like because they have those feelings now outside of policing, I know exactly what kind of cop they were when they were on the street. They were the
Mm.
lecture giving D bags that were perfectly
Ah.
willing to bend the Constitution to serve their needs and their
Yeah.
ego versus
We work differently around here. What is it?
dude, for real. It was the most
What did
offensive
they
thing.
say?
Yeah. Like
Crazy.
I get it when you have like people in California that can steal up to $1,000 and not get in trouble, or what it's like $999.
And it's like you can't get away with
Yeah, that I would
stuff
understand,
like that here.
right? And
Sure,
like
sure.
even
Yeah,
conversely,
we do
like
things differently here.
right,
Yeah.
like that, like I was like, what, you make up crime here?
What are you
Like,
doing?
wait,
Yeah, what do
you
you
don't,
mean by that?
we don't read here because the Constitution doesn't exist. Like,
We
I was
don't
just like,
read
yeah, I was like,
for
yeah.
reals.
If it was like I
Yeah.
said, if he was coming from a jurisdiction where they don't enforce crime and you're enforcing crime, that'd been one thing. But the lecture came
Hmm.
off crazy tone deaf because he was
Hmm.
just violating his constitutional rights. We do things. The irony of the statement killed me.
It's like it's so laughable.
I was like, you
Honestly,
shouldn't
it's
be
like
proud of
unbelievable.
that. Like, you really shouldn't be proud of
No,
that.
like you think you're cool. Oh my gosh. Yeah, that's another ego thing.
Yeah.
Um, somebody, I don't know how you feel about this question. I'm kind of like, huh. Somebody said, does he agree that 90% of police work for the average street cop is adult babysitting? Do you feel that way, or do you feel
Man.
like
It
that's
depends.
kind of
It depends on where you work. But
Mhm.
like, I would argue, yes, it's a lot of
Yeah.
adult baby. Because the problem is like how many disagreements have you gotten into in your life that required law enforcement involvement?
Not many.
Right, right. I'm not gonna say none. And if you've had an
Right.
exciting life and or just a complicated life,
Then okay.
you're gonna have
You
some.
might be the
right?
problem.
Yeah, yeah. Well, no, but I mean, it just happens, right? You pull the
For
short
sure.
straw on a Tinder date. You know, you didn't grow up in a good
Yeah.
environment. It's gonna happen, right? You're gonna see law enforcement more than most people do. But
Right.
like, I've been married happily for 9 years and have never needed law enforcement to settle an issue between me and my wife.
Me too.
Never once.
Fun.
Fun.
Yeah.
Good for
Yeah, high
good
five.
positive marriage.
Good for us.
But
Yeah.
like the amount of marriages, definitely dating relationships that require law enforcement involvement to operate smoothly, wild to me.
Yeah.
Car, hey, you and I are backing out of Trader Joe's, right? I don't see you. We quick little love tap on the car. I'm pissed about it. You're pissed about it. I'm like, hey, I'm sorry about that. I pulled out. You want to just exchange information real quick? Sure. I hand you my driver's license. Take a picture of the damage. You cool? You satisfied? I'm
Mhm.
satisfied. High five. Hey, we're just gonna move on with our day. If you need to contact me,
Yeah.
just reach out to my intro. As adults, we could navigate that. That gets navigated
Mhm.
millions of times a day.
All the time. Yep.
But now, why did you pull out? And you're going to have to pay for this. And now you're making people nervous. And now law enforcement has to come out. And I'm like, yo, this
Yeah.
this
Can we
was
just be mature
this was a
about
layup,
this?
dog. Like I understand this is a critical incident for you, but like you need to work on yourself. Like for real, for real. Like you need like
Yeah.
take a step. That the lecture would come out of me for that. But like
Yeah.
that is a lot of that. The where I worked, I wasn't as lucky. I had a lot of like what you would consider like serious crimes, shootings, stabbings, domestic assault, where it's like this is real crime. Like, yes, it's dumb that law enforcement had to get involved. She's getting beat half to death, or like
Mm.
we're abusing a kid. We have like a 6-year-old with broken wrists, and we're like, or a 6-month-old, sorry, where it's like they
Oh.
can't even crawl. Like, how did they break their wrists if they can't even crawl? Like, there's those kind of investigations. DWIs, where
Mhm.
it's like a single vehicle accident, they hit a tree, you're like, stroke, 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 stroke. And you go up there and it's
Sorry.
like, nope, it's
Right.
no, it's just
Yeah, no,
drugs and
you're just
alcohol.
being an idiot.
Some
Cool.
bitch,
Good.
right? Like the
Yeah.
so that there's where I worked specifically, no. For better or for worse, I got to work a lot more, what you would consider real crime, right? But like
Mhm.
on a slow shift, there's not a lot going. It's like a Wednesday night or something like that. So we call them rookie days. And oh
Okay.
man, it was the worst because it was just like,
Okay. Just dragged
oh
or
no, it
just
was
petty
petty,
crimes?
petty
Okay.
crimes. Like, oh my god, they didn't give me the correct change back. Oh, I'll sue them.
Mm. Yeah, why
I'm
am I here?
sorry. Yeah, do you have a receipt? You
Yeah.
have proof of any of this stuff? Like, there's no reason for me to be here. They're taking too
Yeah.
long to make my food. My neighbor's being loud.
Have you been called in for that?
Dude, oh. The dumb thing. I'm trying to think of the worst things I've had to show up to for a 911 call. I'd have to chew on this because there's a lot.
I bet you're
We
gonna
had
sift through.
we had one where the guy wouldn't. She called it in, and I almost took her to jail for it. She called it in as domestic violence. She didn't
Okay.
specify, but it's domestic violence. We have to go, right? So dispatch is like it's an unknown domestic disturbance. He
Yeah.
won't put gas in my car, and I was like,
Huh?
so during this discussion about the gas in your car, what happened? Because I'm trying to stay like vague. I'm trying not to ask too many questions, right? And she's
Okay.
like,
Yeah. Yeah.
well, I told him he needed to do it, and he said no. Where were you standing when that happened? I was in the kitchen. He was in the living room. Cool, 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 cool.
Uh huh.
Push you, punch you, stab you, throw you through a window. Like
Did he do anything
did,
actually
did he
wrong?
did he physically contact you in a non-consensual way? No, he just wouldn't do it. Cool, 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 cool. What's the plan here? Like, you're gonna get you gas? You're gonna get your own gas? I'm not getting
Yeah.
gas. You're gonna make him get me gas.
Like, what? How?
Cool,
The
cool, 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 cool.
entitlement.
Yeah, I was like, so you mean to tell me you called 911 because you wanted law enforcement to show up to force your husband at gunpoint to get you gas? Yes. So okay. I'm gonna give you some advice because maybe no one's. This is where the lecture me came out for
What are
this
the
one, right?
lectures?
I was like, I'm
Yeah.
not taking enforcement action, but I'm gonna get a lecture here, right? You're like, look,
Mm-hmm.
the elements of the offense for domestic assault are gonna be hit, push, stab, offend, whatever. And you guys are in a dating relationship. You guys are married, right? We're in the apartment together, out here crushing it at life.
Yeah.
If you call 911 for none of those reasons, you're going to go to jail for abuse of 911. And I
Yeah.
could
Yeah.
have taken
Misuse
you
of
now,
911. Yeah.
but now you know. So if you do it in the future, I'm going to put call notes in this. So if somebody has to show up over him not taking the dishes out or him not taking the trash out, like we're going to have problems. I said, you're going to have
Mm-hmm.
to find a healthy way to navigate this as a married couple because people are
You
doing it
need
every single
therapy.
day. Yeah.
Yeah.
Or find other partners. I was like, do not
Exactly.
call me ever again for this. I was like, you call 911 for this, there's going
Yeah.
to be a problem. I'm
Yeah.
spending taxpayer dollars to sort out your marital problems. That's what a therapist is for.
Mm.
Oh, she
Mm-hmm.
was pissed. I want your
So,
supervisor. Here's a card. You can call him. He's not
yeah,
showing up to this.
please.
You mean
He'll
he's not?
chew you
What do
out
you
too.
mean he's not going to show up to this? I demand for your supervisor. What's your name and badge? It's on the card, man. We had these really nice
Yeah.
business
You're not
cards.
worried at all.
It was great.
Yeah.
Hand her the business card. I'm leaving. She's screaming at me as I'm leaving. And I'm like, I don't
Wow.
have law enforcement. Like, there's nothing for me to do here. I can't do anything here. So I'm leaving. She's yelling.
Yeah.
The neighbors are getting out because they hear her yelling, and there's a cop car and whatever.
Get out of there.
So I'm walking down to my car. I hear dispatch starting to welfare check me, which they normally don't do. I'm here with a backup officer. They welfare because they're like, there's 911 calls coming in. There's some lady losing her mind right now. I literally had to tell
Like you
dispatch, like,
could.
22 backup. I don't need people showing up here. I was like, there's no offense here. I explained it. You're fine. So
Yeah.
they're like, Then my supervisor's like, hey, go to talk around. It's like a talk around channel. So we're not talking on the main channel. He's like, what's the deal? I
Okay.
explained the situation. He's like, you're going to be getting a phone call. I was like, my body cam was on. You're going to get to see how the interview went. I was trying to be nice to the
Yeah.
lady. She's getting mad. The phone call that came out of that. Again,
Yeah.
didn't get past my sergeant because he's like, this is stupid, baseless. I think we got 2 more loud noise complaints for the area. I eventually showed up and was like, I'm going to find a reason to take you to jail. Like, you need to calm down. It was like a 2 to 3 hour ordeal for the rest of the night. It was so dumb.
That's unbelievable.
I think eventually we got the apartment staff to basically threaten they were going to cancel their lease because they don't want cops showing up
Okay.
all the time. If you get 911 calls for like reasons that are sketchy, they'll kick you out. in
That's
most of those
true.
apartments.
Yeah.
And
Makes it look
so
bad.
it became a whole ordeal. She finally left with a friend or whatever. But I was like, I don't want it to like become a domestic violence because it was like going in that direction. But I was like, they've never hit each other.
Mhm.
There's no like arrest history for it. They're not threatening each
Yeah.
other. They're just like adamant that they're going to make law. It was
They're just
but
fighting.
that was more common than it should have been.
Yeah,
Like
that's
way
super
more
frustrating.
common. Or like people
Waste
were
of
just like
time.
high and doing dumb stuff. Kids
Yeah.
in general, like teenagers. It made me not like teenagers for a couple years. Like I developed a
Yeah.
bias against kids in general.
Oh
And I was just like,
no.
and most kids are great. Like most kids are wonderful, albeit a little
Yeah.
quirky, you know. But
But on
like
your job, you're dealing with
I'm only
the
dealing with the
not so
kids that are a
great
problem,
ones.
right? And so it was like,
Mhm.
and then like I felt a lot of sympathy for them because a lot of times their home lives were complicated, you know, and
Okay.
they're
Yeah.
potentially victims of crimes themselves. They don't know it, and we can't get that information out of them. But like that got complicated and frustrating, and then
Yeah.
it was hard. There were situations where it was adult babysitting, but most of the
Mhm.
time it wasn't where I worked. But I could definitely see
Yeah.
it in like smaller agencies or in
Sometimes.
places that
Yeah.
don't have 30 murders a year. Like I could see
Like
that.
here.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like they ain't got nothing better to do, right? This
Yeah.
is
Exactly. That's how
exciting
I've been
policing.
feeling.
Yeah, that's a
Yeah. Like
blessing.
feeling important,
Yeah,
maybe.
it's a blessing.
Right. It should be
Yeah,
a really positive thing. You know.
yeah.
Anyway, someone said to share the steak story.
The steak
Do you know what they're
story.
talking about?
There's a couple of steak stories, but so it might be from my chat.
Or no, streak story. I'm so sorry. Streak. Wait, is
Streak
it
story.
streak story or hold on? Oh no, I might have typed it wrong. Was it the steak? Yeah, the steak story. Yeah, the steak story.
There's 2 different steak stories in particular. One was extra stupid. And if it's a
Okay.
dumb police call, that's the one that they're thinking of. Is me,
Probably.
Bill, who was actually, you normally see him on the streams and stuff like that. He was my beat partner
Mhm.
for about 2 years. And him and I, great friends now that we're both out. But so there was an apartment complex. This guy was cooking steaks like near in his apartment complex, right? So they have like patios or whatever. Well, you're not supposed
Okay.
to be like, we have a city ordinance. You're supposed to be like 100 feet away from the structure if you're going to cook on an open flame. Like around, I think
Oh.
like a lease year violation because they don't want your house to burn down. And because you're renting, they can put criteria like that. If it was your house,
Yeah.
you could probably get away with it. But because it's an
Mhm.
apartment, like it's not yours
They're allowed
technically,
to.
they're
Yeah.
like, no, this needs to be. And then oftentimes, like parks will set grills, like away from structures to encourage you to go do it over there. So this guy's got his little George Foreman out, and he's cooking his steaks, right? And they were
Mhm.
neither here nor there. So the 911 call comes in because this lady who
Okay.
lived above him had a Chihuahua. That Chihuahua would poop on her patio, and she would just sweep it off the patio. So the call comes
Ew.
in. This lady swept poop onto my steaks. And I was like,
Pardon?
so the call text comes out. I was with Bill. And I was like, I don't remember if he called or if I called. One of us called. But we called the lady. Like, we're not showing up to this call. This is not a 911 call, right? And so explain the situation. They explained the situation. I was cooking my steaks. I just hear the stupid door open and close, and then poop ends up on my steaks. And I was like, she's allowed to scoop poop off her porch. Should she be throwing it in the grass? No, it's kind of a scumbag move, but it's not illegal, right?
Okay.
I was like, it's like an apartment issue about her picking up her poop. It's not a criminal law in Texas to not scoop up your poop in Texas, right? You could argue like criminal mischief. Like let's say like my dog was pooping in your yard to the point where you had to get it professionally cleaned and it cost you money.
Okay.
That I could see criminal mischief, right? And in this situation, that was their argument. I bought these steaks. I'm not eating these steaks now that there's poop on them, right? that's BS.
Uh-huh.
Like, I'm mad about it. And I was like, where were you when this was happening?
That's
Just off my
BS.
patio. And I was like, okay, so I'm having to
Yeah.
mitigate between you violating your lease and cooking close to a structure, right?
Right.
And her sweep, like, you guys are both doing dumb things collectively. She shouldn't be doing that, and you're risking burning down. We had 2 apartment buildings burned down because of situations like this, right? And so this is
Goodness.
the reason why there's an ordinance in place, right?
Uh-huh.
And we're like, no, we're not coming out. We're not taking a report. Like, that's not a crime. I was like, don't cook.
Yeah.
Oh, cook it in your house or cook it 100 yards away from the building, and we don't have to worry about it.
Mm-hmm.
She's a scumbag for sweeping her poop off the porch, but like, and he was like, well, she always does it. I was like, so you chose to cook your steaks in a place where you know your
Right.
neighbor sweeps poop all the time. You jumped in front of the
Yeah.
car and made your own use of force. I'm sorry, friend. Like, it's
There you
not how
go.
this works. It was
Yeah.
such a
Yeah.
dumb, it was such a dumb
That's so
situation.
funny.
Again,
So
super,
dumb that your chat remembers
dude,
how the steak
yeah,
started.
supervisors
That's
get
so
called.
funny.
Like, it was a whole dumb thing. And again, everyone kind of sussed out pretty quickly that it wasn't a crime, but it was,
Yeah, yeah.
and like, RIP to the steak. I mean, a wasted steak's a sad time, but like,
That is a bummer. That's
yeah,
unfortunate.
and expensive. I get, like, these are probably,
In this economy?
yeah, that's what I
Yeah,
mean. Yeah, it was,
absolutely.
yeah, but it was, yeah, dude, it was,
That
that
is
was
so
another dumb 911 call. We got a bunch. We got a
that would
bunch.
be frustrating. Yeah.
You getting
It
paid to
would be
do it?
hard. I mean, that's true.
You're
So,
not doing it for
of course,
free.
that's
Well, I'm
good.
gonna go back and do it for free, but yeah, normally you're not
Yeah,
doing it for free.
that's your choice.
Yeah,
I don't know.
exactly,
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah. I feel like that would be hard to find a balance of how, like, finding how seriously to take things when you have calls of babies with, a broken wrist, but then you also have steak calls.
Oh,
It's
dude,
like
in the
that would be
same
hard to,
shift, it happened all the time. Yeah,
yeah.
and there was
Gosh.
I no, when you're doing pretty decent, like with your, there's a whole mental health component to this, right? But like, I had about 4 kids that died on shift for me, all under the age of 10. I had a lot of successful suicides that happened
Mhm.
in a myriad of different ways. And this is like, I'm the first, I'm not like the 5th officer. Like, I was the first one to show up. This is my call, my problem, right?
Mhm.
And at least 1 or 2 of those, I would have to work. And it was a shift killer. Like, this was a 4 or 5 hour thing that you were stuck doing until you got relieved or the ME's office showed up or whatever. And I remember having to work at domestic after a kid call, and it was a dumb domestic. It was, they pushed each other. Like, there was an offense that occurred, but I'm having to investigate it. And they're like
Yeah.
getting frustrated at me for taking too long. And I was like, I'm just trying to get everybody's story, but they both felt like they were the victims, whatever. In the
Right.
back of my mind, I'm like seeing dead kid, and like, I'm still trying to process that situation. I'm trying to think about how I'm going to go home and like not unload this on my wife and stuff like that. And you're sitting here getting
Yeah.
yelled at while you're doing it. And you're like, this is why I work on myself. I was like, this, and I don't drink. I don't do a lot of this other stuff where
Mm.
normally people use it as a coping mechanism. And I think I'm lucky for that. I
Mm.
don't think it's productive from a coping standpoint to do.
No, coping is not the right,
Right, right.
reason to drink or
But
yeah.
like it was rare. I'm typically, I call it a high tolerance for bullshit. Like, I was built for that environment. I do very, very
Okay.
well there, but everyone has a threshold for it.
Mhm.
And there was only a handful of times where I like literally, and fortunately I was lucky. The other officer that was with me knew that I had just come off that call, and they like
Okay.
understood, and they were like, I think I'm gonna take this one. Like, normally I'm very squared away, but they could see me like spooling for like, I'm about to just
Yeah.
take you both to jail because I'm pissed off about it. Like, y'all need to both
Right.
calm
Like,
down.
take a break.
Right.
Yeah.
But
That's good.
oftentimes you don't have that. And there's sometimes where I've just had to suck it up buttercup, right? Like, I know there's nobody there that can help me. I'm stuck in a call by myself. Or like, there's
Mhm.
somebody in field training and they're having to learn something. So like, I just have to go deal with it. But that's the better side of policing. And I think also why you tend to get that almost like culty association. Like, me and Bill, like, I worked a lot of very serious.
Mhm.
He's literally saved my life more than once. And so
Yeah.
like, it's hard to not develop that type of camaraderie. And it's also
Mm.
hard. I have a brother, like a biological brother, who I love and adore, and we have a great relationship, but it's like a different kind of closeness. You and
Mm.
I, because we stream, have a kinship because there's a lot of people that don't appreciate or understand what it's like to get on a camera and talk
Mm.
and willing to do pee breaks and snack bar breaks, whatever it is. But
Yeah.
you and I are part of a relatively small pond of people where if you wanted to talk about something like that, I'd actually understand where you were coming from versus somebody more
Mhm.
externally. It's the same thing. Just a
Yeah,
lot more
definitely.
traumatic in policing. Worst thing that's gonna happen
Yeah.
here is you get demonetized. Like out there in the streets,
Right,
it's a
right,
little more
exactly.
complicated.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I mean, I don't know if I'd call that trauma bonding. I mean,
Yeah, that's what it is. That's
maybe a
just
little, but
trauma
it
bonding. Yeah, that's
is.
exactly what it is.
Yeah. So is that kind of where the protecting our own type of like mentality comes from, or is
No,
that a little more of a corrupt
so it's more corrupt.
mentality?
So protecting our own in the sense of like having sympathy for officers that are in tough spots, right? Like it wouldn't be hard. Again, you're watching me have to deal with somebody that we know sexually assaulted a 3-year-old, and he's
Hmm.
resisting, and you're like, beat the hell out of him. You're like, you know what I mean? You're like, everyone's in
Yeah.
chat wanting blood here, right? But I did the right
Uh-huh.
thing, and I took him in the way I'm supposed to take him in. We didn't use too much force. We did the right thing, right?
Hmm.
Um, Same thing, like you're watching somebody die in front of you, right? There's something traumatic happen. Like having an emotional moment there would be perfectly sympathetic, right? Um,
Hmm.
the call it like the thin blue line mentality, right? And we got to protect our brothers and all that kind of stuff. That comes from over prioritizing the individual over the oath, right? So
Okay.
the easiest example I'll give people, right, is like work wife culture and work husband culture, right? So you made a covenant
Okay.
with one other human being, and that's your spouse, right? Everything else should be secondary to that. Well, if you work through your life through that
Oh, work
lens,
wife, work
right,
husband.
right,
Okay.
work
Yes.
life, right? So if
Yeah.
I work through the lens that I've only made a covenant with this one woman, right? And she is the person that I'm supposed to, every decision I make is based off that. Well,
Hmm.
what officers tend to do and what happens in the more toxic side of this culture is I'm prioritizing the individuals in this agency over the agency and the oath itself. And so I didn't take an oath to my brothers in arms who are going to go do like this isn't Warhammer 40K, okay? Right? Like
Right.
I'm not over
Right.
here doing some sort of blood pact with my coworkers. They're coworkers, right?
Uh-huh.
And I'm going to
Yeah.
understand it and we're going to trauma bond and we're going to do stuff like that. Don't get me wrong. That's going to happen. That's a perfectly normal human thing. But
Yeah.
what is more important to me as an officer, specifically when I'm doing the job, is it the oath I took to the Constitution and to uphold it and to be morally right and judicious in the way that I do it, or making sure that my homie that I go have beers with, I specifically went out of my way to not have
Right.
close personal relationships when I was at work
Yeah.
because I didn't
It's
want the
probably smart.
compromise to do it. It just makes sense. I can easily do my job
Yeah.
without worried about, well, he's invited to, my slumber party next week and I don't want to go deal with that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
it's a
Okay.
reason why nepotism's it was prevent you were not allowed to be blood related to people within my agency. You couldn't be, not a single person.
Mm.
They didn't
Makes
care.
sense.
You could get married, and if you got married, they would separate you from like you and I are academy classmates. I'm like, hey, you were looking kind of good. You're like, hey, you're looking kind of good, and we get married after we
Right.
get employed. They would just take you,
Hmm.
put you on one side of town, and put me on the other side of town. We're not allowed to work together, right?
Yeah. Sure.
And it's because if I was in a covenant with
Yes.
you, I'm going to prioritize you over the other one. And that's not unreasonable,
Exactly.
right?
It's. Hmm.
Um,
No,
the,
absolutely.
and so my chat's like, but Bill, and I was like, yes, I did love Bill, but the
But Bill.
the reason why I loved Bill is him and I shared that core value of we're going to do the right thing, even if it was at a detriment to ourselves. I saw
Yeah.
him. We had moments there where like it's the most like icky experience as a police officer trying to do the job right. We got a
Hmm.
really in the gray call, right?
Yeah.
Chick's hammered. She hit a tree by herself. I could just call this a mulligan. I could get her an Uber home and call it a day.
Hmm.
Or we're like, this chick was drunk driving and lucky she didn't kill anybody. She needs to suffer a
Right.
consequence. It's going to put me on overtime. It's going to turn my 10-hour shift into a 14-hour shift. This is going to
Hmm.
suck. It's going to personally cost me something to do the right thing and
Right.
make sure that she either gets help, right? We could force her to get help
Right.
by pressing the charge and or show that there's a consequence every single time I show up. I do it right every single. I don't
Yeah.
treat her differently because, oh, but she's a pretty lady. It's like, nope. She's drunk driving. And if I run
No,
into
she
anybody else that's drunk
messed up.
driving, she messed up. There's a consequence, right?
Right. And honestly, giving her a consequence might help her in the long run
Right.
to stop
Right.
making these
Yep.
decisions.
And so
Yeah, that's
you would
huge.
you would get those calls It's not your call. You're just the backup officer. So it is their decision to make. And you're like,
Mhm.
you're going to learn something about them, right? Then it's going to cost them something now, you know? Same
Yeah,
thing where we would
yeah.
get hot calls, right? This is a hot call. Somebody's screaming on the other side of this door. Are they going to wait for backup? Are they going to kick the door? Are they going to say, hey, let's hold a perimeter and let's sort? Or is this the type of guy that's going to go kick that and risk himself for someone that probably doesn't deserve it? Like theoretically, right?
Mhm.
Like this is some crackhead getting into crackhead business, but they are willing to risk themselves because they believe this is one of God's children and I made an oath to protect everybody equally.
Mm.
Those gut check moments is where you decided, for me personally, who I was going to allow myself to be close to because like this person I've shown and they have demonstrated that they will value the oath above themselves to the point of potentially death. And like
Right.
that kind of brotherhood or that kind of posture was something that meant something to me personally, right?
Yeah.
Versus, like you said, you have a lot more of these ego driven guys that they just care about the number of arrests they get. And they see people as a
Mhm.
means to an end to their career. So they could go be a SWAT guy or they can go become a detective because their metrics look
Yeah.
good or whatever. They don't see the oath slash social contract side of it. It's a very different like
Mhm.
culture, but
Yeah.
it's different.
Yeah. Uh, my question is because I mean I've heard of, and I mean my chat, I've been writing down
Oh, you're
my
good.
chat's questions as well, but I just along with that, I know that there are like, well, oh gosh, what's the word? Why am I thinking of Q? Like a quota.
Right.
Like I've heard that there are certain things where like, oh, quota for how many speeding tickets you get,
Right.
or traffic tickets.
So
Is that like arrest quotas? I
right.
mean,
So
is that a thing?
there is so quotas by their nature are
Mm-hmm.
expressly prohibited by law. I believe it's a federal
Okay.
mandate so that they can't do it. However,
Right.
on the flip side of that coin, there's going to be what's called an expectation for work, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you're paying for me to be on duty. I'm paid by the hour, right? There's very
Mm-hmm.
few salaried police officers, right? So if you and I are working in the same beat at the same time in the same area, right? We're both getting paid, we'll just call it we're both making $70,000 a year to be a cop. But in the same time, in the same area, in the same place, I'm averaging 3 to 5 arrests a week, and you're averaging three to
Mm-hmm.
five a month. The conversation comes up, well, what is she doing and what is he doing? Now,
Mm-hmm.
it could be
That
complicated.
sucks.
Well, but think about it.
Mm-hmm.
Let's say you have complicated investigations. Let's say it's a
Mm-hmm.
kid call that requires CPS and all this stuff, and that you don't dodge
Right.
those. But all I'm doing is hooking up kids for weed, which is like a layup. Like
Mm-hmm.
that's stupid easy to do.
Right.
So
Right.
it's more
You can't.
complicated. Most command staff doesn't care because they just look at the number, right? They're not going to take the time to
Mm-hmm.
figure out if you're doing the
Yeah,
right
and
thing or
that's
not.
rough. Mm-hmm.
But from a command staff perspective, they're going to use the law of averages, right? In our jurisdiction, specifically, if they're being really friendly to you in the area that you operate, it's a 24-hour service, right? And so maybe we have more crime on Fridays than we do on Mondays. But generally speaking, if you don't have crime and you're not doing anything, can you do something? Because we're just we don't
Right.
want to pay you just to be on Netflix, right? While you're hanging out at court. It happens
Right.
there's
Right.
sometimes where they encourage it because they're like, hey, I
Okay.
need you to be available in case someone dials 911 and we need someone to respond. We want a response time to be down. I have been
Sure.
told
Sure.
multiple times, don't pull anybody over. I don't want you to find an arrest. I need you to just sit there. Versus, we know it's going to be
Mm-hmm.
slow. It's lockdown season. You stop everything that moves, or we just had a
Sure.
murder.
Sure.
We need to do a lot of police presence stuff. We're seeing speeding or we had a fatality. Hey, if it moves and you have a reason to stop it, find a reason, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Both happen. Quotas can't be done. There's prohibitions against that legally,
Yeah.
but I don't have a problem with command staff saying, and even to the point of
Kind of
punishing,
comparing.
that it's like, hey, I expect the same level of work and professionalism out of all of my officers. And there's plenty of ways to, especially in the body cam era. Oh, she took the time to do the follow up. She took the time to go help the family after the call and stuff like that. Like she went the extra mile for customer service. I'm not mad that she works less calls versus
Mm-hmm.
I'm working let's say I'm working astronomically more. They start looking at my arrest, all my charges get kicked. They're terrible investigations. I'm just kind of rinse and repeating stuff. They're probably looking at me. Technically, doing more work isn't always a good thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
If command staff's not a scumbag, that is also a big problem where they just
Yeah.
love the numbers and they'll allow sketchy stuff like American Forks PD. They're like proud of it.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, you're the problem.
Yeah, which I think that that's such a flaw, and especially like I don't know, the kind of I just see it as like kind of United States,
Mhm.
like a mentality where like don't we want to like wouldn't it be a celebration if people didn't have to go to jail all the time? I
Right.
mean, I know that there's like money behind it and the prisons and stuff like that.
Well, and
But yeah, it's hard to like think that people are being like, yeah, we're arresting so many people today.
right.
And it's like that sucks. That's actually
Yeah.
like so
Well,
bad.
and I talked about it. I was like, that's a
Anyway.
blessing. You guys don't have crime. That's a blessing. You
Right,
should see it
yeah.
as that. I
Mhm.
wish I worked in a place. I would be a lot less traumatized, if you want to call it that. If I
Definitely.
worked in a place where the most stressful thing somebody didn't do is not sign my ticket, right?
Yeah,
But like,
exactly.
but it comes with the territory. I think that there's the same people that are gonna like what you just said, right? We would like to live in the Beatles world where there's no consequences because everyone's just getting together. We don't need guns. We don't need any of that stuff, right? Because we're just good people. Um, the
That would be
second
ideal.
the second someone cuts you off in traffic, the second someone doesn't stop for a red light, the second somebody's being a scumbag and shoplifting, that desire for consequence comes out of the people who are following the rules. And so like the
Mhm.
social contract with that is with law enforcement in general is if we're having higher crime, I want to see more arrest. If we're having lower crime, leave me the hell alone. Right? Like in
Right.
general. It's just
Yeah.
justifying the budget's complicated, wanting the constant readiness for a police response. Because what happens if the school shooter finds us? That's too quiet of a town
Interesting.
and they're good people. And I want to, and again, in their sick, twisted mind, they want to go shatter that ideal. Right. So they pick
Hmm.
y'all because you don't have the police presence,
And we might
because
have our guard down and
right. And so like you see this a lot with like child exploitation and stuff like that, that the places that tend to
mm,
get hit are the places that don't have like suspicious people, if that makes any sense. So there's like
yeah,
almost
the
too
safe
high a trust.
places
Right.
or
It's too high a
yeah.
trust with too many people and there's no trust but verify happening. And it's like
Mhm.
it's frustrating to see it. It's a complicated human problem. And
Yeah, yeah.
law enforcement, specifically American law enforcement's the best solution we've had so far. It's not great. I would agree fully that it is not a great solution, but it's the one we
Mhm.
got, unfortunately, and it's the only one that has the budget to try to solve, especially some of the big problems we have in
Yeah.
society. That's domestic violence and all that other kind of stuff.
Yeah. Very interesting. Um going along with I mean kind of going along with that, somebody asked well, just because I don't know, in my mind it would be nice if people had more resources or didn't have such hard lives or things like I don't know, then maybe we wouldn't have so much crime to begin with.
So
Um, no,
it's
maybe we can address that first, and then I have another question
so
after that.
so economics is weird, right? So
Uh-huh.
when you look at socioeconomics, I this is actually my degrees in. So the my degree was
Oh, cool.
specifically in I went from medicine to criminal justice. So it was a biology major, then I went to it was a weird shift. But
Well
it
rounded.
but in most of this, when you go to the socioeconomic discussion of crime, um, drug usage, mental health issues, domestic violence, a lot of that stuff you can easily see the chart where it's like, well, the less educated you are, the less money you got, the more likely you are to use drugs, the more likely you are to, beat your spouse, the more likely you are to abuse your kids, right? Um, who was
I have
poor?
heard that.
Yeah, who was poor and uneducated on Epstein's island?
Right. Oh, nobody.
Who was poor and uneducated when you look at like the Enron scandal or when you look at the 2008 crisis with the housing bubble, right? It
Mm,
the type of crime you'll get when you talk
mm,
about the socioeconomic issue of, well, if we make people just less poor, right, and we make
mm.
people more educated, you will prevent drug usage. I think you'll
Certain
have
crimes.
you'll have a positive effect in certain places, right? You will
Hmm.
conversely have a negative effect in others, right? Where you will make
Interesting.
and that's hard. Like cuz like do poorer crimes tend to only hurt individuals. Rich crime tends to hurt a lot of people. You're talking like
True.
embezzlement. Again, like you have
Yeah.
stuff like Epstein's Island and stuff like that. Like it's vi- uh, the goal should be to prevent victimization. I have some relatively hot takes on when you look at like substance abuse, right? So you could talk about
Hmm.
like meth or cocaine. Like it's the stuff that people don't use for fun at parties, right? Um,
Uh-huh.
Should that be criminalized to the point where that's putting you in prison for 20 years? No, in my personal opinion.
Hmm.
I think we should be treating that the same way we treat alcohol. I think we should be treating that the same way we treat like mental health calls, right? Where I'm like,
Yeah,
I'm
like
trying to
treat the psyche
force you,
instead of the.
let's force you to get help because you clearly can't handle it on your own, right?
Yeah,
Versus putting
yeah.
you in prison. Now,
Rather punishment for it.
right, drug
Yeah.
dealers, different story,
Mm.
right? You're creating the environment that's creating victimization. Let's say you
Yeah, yeah.
fully legalize it in your drug dealer's Walmart, right? I'm still just like alcohol gonna punish the negative consequence. You're driving while you're high, you're in public doing
Mm.
crazy stuff while you're high, and or
Yeah.
it's gotten to the
If
point where
it's
it's starting
affecting
to
others.
affect other people. We can
Yeah.
make a justified reason to go do it, um, and
Okay.
have a law enforcement response to it. I when you start talking about some of the other ones, domestic violence, murder, that kind of stuff, it's gonna be. I don't know if there's ever a good answer for that. There's no current study that shows like no matter what law enforcement does, domestic violence is going to happen, murder is going to happen, child abuse is going to happen to some degree because these
Right,
are
right.
these are vices. This isn't necessarily like what patrol am I going to put out to
Mm.
prevent that? Most of that's
Right.
going to be very reactive. The crime happened. I'm just here to try to sweep up and pick up the pieces. Um,
Yeah.
so like yes,
Interesting.
though I think it will have some effect, it's not going to get the you would have to solve the human problem first. That's a very dangerous conversation to even try to get down, right?
Right.
I generally believe in free will and allowing people to kind of it's a bit of an American perspective. I would
Right.
also argue it's a bit of a Christian perspective, although they won't admit it. Is like you should
I mean,
fully
American Christian. That's very
right.
you
But
know
well
related
the
to.
idea that you have to consent to the rules that you're wanting to partake in.
Hmm.
If you want to partake in the rules and live a more righteous life where you're not running afoul of the law, you
Mm.
don't have anything to worry about.
Then yeah.
I want you to have the freedom to make a poor decision or make a thing, but I'm not going to protect you from the consequences of those decisions.
Mm.
That's kind of the
Hmm.
perspective that I think would be better. I think we're far too proscriptive in America on either side of the political spectrum, right? On I want to put my values onto someone else and use law enforcement
Hmm.
to compel them to do it. I think it's a very un-American concept, and I would even argue when you
Yeah.
look at it theologically for the people that are in there. As oftentimes people think, well, you're a Christian, you have to be a Republican, and you have to do X, Y, Z. And I was like, again, stop thumping people with it. Actually, read it. A lot of that stuff's going to be like, I want them to consent to this lifestyle. I want them to come into it willingly because that's what a union is. That is what
Hmm.
it is something that we're both doing because we see the benefits and want to do it. You want to go live in a
Yeah.
weird,
Yeah.
what I would consider a weird and sussy lifestyle. Knock it out. You know what I mean?
Right. Right.
That is your
Yeah.
right, and I don't ever want to
Yeah.
trample on your ability to do it because I'm not loving you by not doing that. But I can leave you to the consequences of that lifestyle. Like that's
Right.
it's complicated.
Yeah, I respect that. I honestly, I get along with and I respect Christians who have that type of mindset
Right.
instead of just being like everyone should be doing this or like if you're not doing this, that I'm judging you or you're a lesser person or whatever. Even though that's not how they say it
Right.
all the time. It's
Right.
a yeah. Um. So that's really cool. But I didn't think about that being kind of like an American mindset as well, where it's like if like, free will, if you want to, you know, follow these rules, like that's up to you, but we're not going to. I don't know.
Yeah, the first, the fourth, the fifth, and like I mean, the Eighth Amendment exists in certain places, but like a lot of the things people think about the Second Amendment always because it's kind of the most dramatic looking one, but like the First Amendment doesn't exist in a lot of places. You'd be shocked. Like the Fifth Amendment doesn't exist in the UK. If you choose not to talk to me, I can use your lack of talking to me against you in the court of law. Which is crazy to me.
Mm,
Where
that is very interesting.
silence cannot be used. Like if you try to say, "Well, she didn't say anything when cops asked," that'll get immediately struck
It's
out of
like
the decision because it's like that's her right. She doesn't
right,
have to say
exactly.
anything. She can wait for
Yeah.
her turn. That's literally a protect that in other countries is not a thing.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind
Yeah,
of the
something. Yeah, free speech. The anything that relates to that,
right.
I'm very passionate about. Yeah,
But it's
I agree with
it's
that.
unique to us. And so it affects
Mm,
our culture and the way that we approach governance, I think as a whole. It should. I agree. I believe in it and I
right.
believe that we have the best on paper we have the best system available. We just very poorly
Mm,
apply it. And that's a law enforcement problem. Like politicians can say what
interesting.
they want, but who is ultimately the gun in the boot that's going to affect you with that law or try to actually accurately apply it? That is going to be local and like regional law enforcement. That's not going to be the ATF. That's not going to be the military. That's not going to be Donald Trump or Kamala. It is going to be your local cop that is either doing
Hmm.
everything they possibly can to protect those rights or being a scumbag and trample all over them. Those are almost
Hmm.
always the good and the bad guys for your everyday life as a citizen.
It's
Uh,
true. It's true.
Geopolitics almost has zero effect on you outside of the cost of graphics cards. Like, you know what I mean?
Right.
Like
Right.
that's its own thing.
Exactly. Yeah. Or gas prices or
Oh
whatever.
yeah, no kidding.
Um, yeah, absolutely. Now it is interesting and honestly, okay, so I don't think I want to take a break, but I think I want to just like go grab a protein bar really quickly.
Okay, yeah.
If you don't
Here,
mind. Yeah.
I'll
Give me
grab
just
a beverage. We will give each
okay,
other 2
cool.
minutes.
Everyone grab a beverage. Yeah, okay.
Grab a
Yeah.
beverage.
Grab a beverage. I'm back. Hold on. Everybody who's in either of our chats, thanks for being here. I know usually when I'm streaming I like talk I address individuals more often and we're not able to right now. But just thank you for watching anyway and being here. And I'm looking at your guys' comments. I appreciate you all. I just had to grab a protein bar and my water, which I'm almost out of, but that's it. That's it. Mm. Oops, 9 minutes ago I didn't realize. Um, OC. How does OC see police unions affecting LEO integrity? You know, I'll definitely have to give him that question because
Oh, you literally just grabbed a protein
what's
bar.
OC? Uh huh.
I went and I need to get a snack joint in
Taking
my
your
room.
time. Gotta take in
This
your
is what a
time.
jerk. Everyone's gonna accuse me of pooping in my chat. That's all my chat's gonna be like. He's
He's pooping.
pooping.
I don't even know what that's like at all.
See, trauma bonding.
Seriously, oh my gosh, it's true. Um, okay, I didn't realize 10 minutes ago somebody asked a question with a donation. Thank you so much.
Let's knock it
And I
out.
don't even know exactly what this means. So if you want to help,
We're locked in.
it says, um, OC, how does only cops? I'm like, what's OC? How does only cops see police unions affecting LEO integrity?
Okay, so
Just if you have
I'm Texas is specifically a right to work state, so we don't have unions. You're not allowed to have them. You can have legal representation, which kind of acts like collective bargaining, but you cannot have a union, which means like, so you and I are both cops. We're a police department of 2 people, and I'm like, screw it, we're going on strike. Like, can't do that in Texas. That you will immediately, if your employer decides to fire you for going on strike, they're allowed to do it here. Um, However, that's not every state, right? There's plenty of states that allow. I think it's like half of them, if not more, allow for
Does
unions.
Utah have unions? Is that?
I don't know.
I
I'd have
have
to
no
look it
idea
up.
actually. Huh.
But Texas is like culturally against unions in general. Um, I think that police unions, like regular unions, do contribute to protecting bad. I think they protect more bad cops than they help good cops. It's the reason why I prefer the legal representation model. So I was a member of TMPA. I might go back to TMPA because they were homies. But what TMPA did is, let's say I get into an officer involved shooting, right? That is an attorney that comes and talks to me just like it would be anybody else, right? I'm your Better Call Saul guy. You get into a guy approached you and you dusted him while you were in the parking lot because he was trying to kidnap you. You're not dumb, so you shut up and you say, "I'm going to wait for my attorney." You have the same. You and I are both citizens. We have the same rights to that attorney, right? A police union, and the reason I have issue with this, they are only going to be interested in the union. They're not necessarily interested in the individual. So they don't treat cases on a case to case basis. they look at everything through the lens of I need to use this as leverage for our every government body, right? Or every or group, they're going to want to grow in power. An attorney has an interest in representing you, and that's it. They don't care about everything else. You're my client. I want to have a good reputation for treating my clients well so that I can get more clients, right? What I've seen, especially, man, the Northeast in general, and I'm probably going to upset some people here, but that's okay. The culture around policing in the Northeast is it's us first them all the way. And you will see a police union go to bat for some of the most heinous thing I've ever seen. An attorney does it. That's his job. That is a defense attorney's job. That's why nobody likes them, right? It is your job to fight for him no matter how big a scumbag he is because he's your client. And at the very minimum, you want to protect the process to make sure that his rights are being protected, whether he's guilty of sin or not. A police union's going to say it needs to change or they need to do whatever. Collective bargaining as a whole tends to hurt the majority and only really help the individual and in a way that is detrimental to accountability, in my opinion. It's the reason why you don't see a lot of officers losing their license for stuff. I mean, heinous stuff. There was a guy in San Antonio. I'll dox him here because I don't feel bad at all. You can Google it, but he was San Antonio PD, and he literally gave a homeless person a shit sandwich, like a sandwich that he put feces in.
Wow.
Gave it to him, right? Do you think he lost his job for that?
I hope he did.
No. Why?
That's bullshit.
Hear me out, right? He had his collective bargaining people. They came out. They went to bat for him. He fought. They couldn't. It wasn't enough. Somehow, magically, that wasn't enough.
Somehow
to kick him out.
Enough. Wow.
He then goes into, I think, the women's restroom. I'm trying to remember what he did. He then, because poop jokes started coming out because he's the guy that gave somebody a shit sandwich, right? So other officers who would have loved to have seen some accountability, but didn't because he's homies with whatever representation he had, started making jokes. So he leaned into the joke and took feces and smeared it into the girls' restroom there at the station, right? That finally got him fired, but only for going into the girls' restroom, not for smearing poop all over the place, right?
Or giving poop to somebody.
Poop sandwich, yeah, huge deal.
Yeah.
He then gets picked up because the licensing board didn't care, because the licensing board doesn't want to get into civil litigation over this, right? T. Cole's going to be the licensing board. I'm throwing a little bit of shade here to my own licensing board. I don't think they have the power to do it because they're not about to go to blows with a guy with legal representation, and he has basically unlimited resources to defend himself civilly against his license being taken from him. He then gets a job as Benavides PD, I believe is what it was. Here in Texas, it's in that same San Antonio area. Gets a job there. They hire him. No problem with the shit sandwich stuff. You have to do very thorough background checks. So there's no, they weren't my light. There's no way, story. Right, I know. There's no way they didn't know about the shit sandwich story. Hired him. Worse, it's like a department of like 3 cops. He is now their current police chief.
God.
This is a guy who shouldn't have a license, probably should have seen criminal charges, but because of the robust infrastructure he has to defend himself and protect his license, he is getting to avoid any kind of criminal punishment. Or even like let's say I can't charge him criminally. I can absolutely take that license as a privilege. The licensing board could take that from you because they feel like it. What are you gonna do, sue him?
Right.
And there's up north, I've seen heinous conduct just get skirted over. It's not the term I always use with people is people don't snap. Typically, when you see especially like really bad stuff, it is going to be a pattern of behavior over time that escalates, right? So
okay.
We were in middle school and we used to roughhouse, right? That's not a problem. We're middle school kids, right? You're going to roughhouse. Well, I never learned as I went from 90-pound kid to 200-pound man that roughhousing isn't always appropriate and isn't always whatever. I then get a girlfriend that I'm really controlling over, right? And I don't ever get a consequence for it. My mom doesn't say anything. My dad doesn't say anything. My girlfriend toughs it out because she thinks that's normal because she sees that perpetrated in her household. So she's just how relationships are. We're playing house, right? Which is what kids are doing. Let's be honest. Right. I become a young adult. We move in together. I get my way because I always get my way. What are you going to do? Fight me over it? Because this is how we settle disputes, right? That it didn't come out of nowhere. that I came off and punched you in the face. I
Mm-hmm.
didn't just snap
That
because
wasn't a
you
snap. Yeah.
decided to be sideways with me or whatever. I was pushing you in
Mm-hmm.
middle school. I was disrespecting you in high school. I was very manipulative and abusive as we got into college and into our adult life. And I finally reached a point where I felt so safe in my impunity that I was willing to subject you to pain and eventually oppress you.
Mm-hmm.
Governments
Mm-hmm.
work in the exact same way.
That's fair.
I'm perfectly willing to do a bullshit traffic stop. I'm perfectly willing to go do all this other and they're tiny little cuts. And eventually you end up in
Mm-hmm.
Uvalde where, well, nothing's going to happen if we don't kick in this door and go solve this problem. Just let the kids die. It's not what they said in the moment,
Mm-hmm.
but they've never
Yeah.
felt the urgency to have to do the job the right way.
Mm.
And you're expecting them to do it now? Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's a pattern of behavior, in my opinion. So
Yeah,
I don't like I
exactly.
don't like police unions for that very reason. Get legal representation. You should have it. We're way more likely to get into shootings, fightings, everything we're doing is legally complicated and legally binding. I have
Right.
committed more felonies as a police officer. It's not a felony when I'm doing it because I'm saving someone's life or whatever, but kicking in a
Right.
door and fighting someone in their own
Yeah, that's
house,
usually
that's
really
a
wrong.
felony. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a lot more socially acceptable when I'm rescuing a woman out of domestic violence or, you
Sure.
know what I mean, saving somebody from a house fire. They're going to say,
Yeah.
yes, Josh, you can commit burglary when you're doing XYZ because it stops being burglary
Yeah.
at that point. But like
Mm-hmm.
in those weird gray areas, is the likelihood that I'm going to need legal representation high? Sure. Get it.
Yeah.
I carry a gun.
Right, right.
Even before I was a cop, and now like technically in the interim before my last agency and the one I'm about to go work for, I carried a firearm
Mm-hmm.
every single day. I come from a culture
Mm-hmm.
of carrying firearms. I kept
Mm-hmm.
legal representation on retainer the whole time. When if I don't have a gun, I'm never going to shoot somebody because I can't. But if I have a gun and
Mm-hmm.
cool, I'm the cool guy. I have all the training and experience to go and intervene in a shooting or a robbery or something like that. Doesn't mean it's not going to be legally complicated. And I don't
Yeah.
want to be the one, and I'm way closer to a subject matter expert than most people, but even I know I'm too emotionally invested in the outcome. I need an objective third party to go and do this argument for me, right?
Mm-hmm.
I don't even feel comfortable representing myself in criminal court. So like
Yeah. Uh,
the there's a solution that already exists for it. So I find unions kind of offensive in my opinion.
okay. That's very interesting. Yeah. I didn't think about legal representation for cops. Obviously, that's that would be a really big deal.
Right.
We also had a question earlier that has a little bit to do with this, more of the kind of maybe mental side of it. Do police officers get therapy resources, or do they have to seek that out themselves? Do you,
Zero in most places.
yeah.
So there's
Okay.
some peer support organizations. I'll give a shout out to Copline, really cool organization.
Okay.
It's completely anonymous. It's filled with former police officers, and it's like a helpline, just like suicide prevention or something like that would be,
Hmm.
specifically for law enforcement. They have pretty strict criteria where they don't tell your agency that you're seeking out because it's a good way to get blackballed and all this other kind of stuff.
Mm, okay.
Um, oh, X Bane
Which is
said, yeah. Oh,
crazy,
dude, yeah,
honestly.
yeah. But my department didn't have until I think like 2015 didn't have any kind of like organized like mental health help.
Yeah.
I didn't see even an attempt at intervention until my last year in policing, and I'd already worked. I think I did the math one time. I think I have physically touched like 30 something dead bodies in
Wow.
all ranges, all reasons, all whatever, and
Yeah.
didn't see a little bit of help. Like not even an attempt to say, "Hey, let's try to do some sort of
You've been through
intervention,"
something. Yeah.
until my last 6 months of patrol. And would
That's
it have
crazy.
helped? Would it have helped me maybe stay longer, or would it have helped a lot of officers stay a lot longer? I think so.
Oh,
Um,
yeah.
but because like you gotta imagine the stress of the job is normal already, then you're also having to compound all this other stuff, like things that normally you would feel very sympathetic for. Again, like if you had to hold a child in your arms and watch it die, like
Mm-hmm.
that is the worst day of your entire life. And I got to do that 4 times, right? Like
Right.
that, and not getting any help for it on top of that, and then still placing you back in that environment afterwards where you're now expected to
Mm-hmm.
continue to perform. I,
Keep
you
keep
you are,
going. Yeah.
you are
Mm-hmm.
consenting to that environment as a police officer. So for the woe is me people, I'm going to give a little bit of pushback because no one's forcing you to do it. You're not a conscript in the military where you're like drafted and forced to go. Those guys are real victims, in my opinion, right? Uh,
Sure, sure.
we have a volunteer army. The same kind of goes for that. Well, you signed up to go be a Navy SEAL to do what? It wasn't to
Volunteer
give.
army.
It wasn't to go give children food in third
Oh,
world
sorry. You
countries.
mean that people choose to join
Right, right.
the army? Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So though PTSD is a very real thing, and I'm not trying to minimize that, we are consenting to be in that environment. So there is going to be some associated risk with that we have to
Mm,
appreciate and accept. My
yeah.
frustration with the process is they're like, I don't know why people leave, or I don't know why police misconduct happens all the time. And is
Right.
some of it tied to chronic stress over time? Sure. Again, nobody snaps,
I bet.
but
I wouldn't do well.
after
Yeah.
years of seeing that and years of being treated poorly every day and years of all of that, are you eventually going to set yourself up for failure in that environment? Absolutely. And it's
Right.
unreasonable for a police department to place people in those situations and not try to provide some level of at least intervention. I've always been a big fan of doing deployment cycles. So even the military knows I cannot keep you in theater 24/7. That's just a terrible idea.
Mm,
So you'll
yeah.
typically, I know I'm going to put you in this environment. Generally, this is going to happen while you're there. You're going to do some training. You're going to go. You're going to be there for anywhere from 6 months to a year and
Yeah.
a half, right? Then we pull you out. We make you hang out with your family, which is
You
better or
figure
worse,
it
whatever.
out. Get yourself okay.
But we
Yeah.
reevaluate you before you go back out. We say, are you
Mm,
physically able to do it? Is there any deficiencies that we see? Now, they don't care that it's
right.
upsetting to you. They just want to make sure that you're still
Mm,
what they call combat effective,
just
right?
able.
You
Sure.
cease to be combat effective, you get medically retired. In law
Yeah.
enforcement, I do think there's spaces. It's another reason why I'm pro women in law enforcement. I'm also pro
Hmm.
non-sworn staff in law enforcement because
Okay.
if I pulled your chat right now, they are not cop channel followers, they're not cop people, right?
Hmm.
And I gave
They
them
are now.
they are now. Let's go. They are now. But if I gave them probably less than a month of training and say, "Hey, I want you to help me with cold cases. I'm going to give you unfettered access. There's going to be some background checks. So for you sussy wussies, I'm sorry. There's a cost for entry, right? But what do you think they would accept for payment to help with cold cases, especially if those cold cases were going to catch murderers, pedophiles, I don't know, serial thieves or whatever? They might do it for free. Not to mention, if they're only doing it part time, they don't have to do the physical. They'll never have to carry a badge and a gun. They'll never have to go
Hmm.
and get into fist fights and have hate groups dedicated to them. They'd be down. They'd donate some free time or, take an hourly wage at an entry level job before they
Yeah.
decide if they want to do crime scene or something a bit more kinetic within the law enforcement space.
Hmm.
Um, they do great. And I don't have a traumatized or I'm an officer. I've now hyper traumatized, but is my perspective valuable to these non-sworn staff and making sure that they're based in their investigations? Absolutely. They have a
Yeah.
cop on hand that is not as there and available to them all the time to give them some
Hmm.
like insight and super, which is literally what I'm doing right now, right? You
Right.
now have times 10 the efficacy of an investigative body with the
Hmm.
perspective that a seasoned officer could give. So rather
Yeah.
than just I might medically retire him from patrol, like, hey, you're not doing good. I don't need to keep putting you in situations where you're going to have to go make life or death decisions. I know you don't want to retire yet and you still have some meat on the bone for service. Maybe you want to reach your 20 years or your 30 years. Let's put you in a place where you can still help us, but you're not going to hurt us in the long run, right? That's not,
Uh
I
oh.
don't think there's, oh, am I gone?
Wait.
I'm
There we
here.
go.
I'm back.
Yeah.
Discord.
Sorry. It buffed for a second.
Oh, oh, it's like a
Ooh.
delay for me now. Is it caught up?
Uh-oh. In Discord?
Yeah, it's Discord.
Oh, it's not delayed for me anymore. I mean, it buffed and now we're fine.
I think we're good.
Um,
Maybe.
la la. Are we good?
I mean, I have a delay, but it's only a delay on the screen. I can hear you just fine.
Interesting.
We'll go see if they
I
say
mean, did
something.
you want to try and like exit the call, come back in or anything? I mean, that would probably bother me, but if it's not bothering you,
That's
then okay.
that's not bothering me at all. I mean, if it's ask the
Okay.
chat, we'll give it up to chat. Put a poll. Should I
Yeah.
refresh or not?
Right.
I'm
Because
good
I
with that
think on our end we're looking pretty okay,
because
I
I think you're
think.
pulling it from the I'm seeing it on like like just the Discord chat. I think it's fine. I'm not worried about
Okay.
it.
All right.
But anyways, I think you can medically retire people and it not be a big deal. I think when you see an officer start to show symptoms that they're having a hard time with it, I think cycling them out would be beneficial, especially to retention rates. Right now, I think it's 18 months is the average career for an officer.
Oh
It's crazy.
my gosh, that
It,
is
yeah,
crazy.
in the 90s, I think it was 12 years
Yeah.
was the
How long
average.
did you
I was three and a
serve?
half years, and I'm an idiot, so I'm going back to do it for free. But and
You've
that's
had enough therapy since then.
right. Well, and some part of it too is like there's only so much you can solve now. And even it's kind of the rationale. Everyone in my chat's mad at me, but like they were like, well, why not go back full time? Right. And I realized again, and
Okay.
I have to put my money where my mouth is. If I go back full time and I get to go back and get in the patrol car and go do the bad guy fighting things, I can only affect one call at a time. And I can only
Mm,
affect the things that I'm interacting in. Through advocacy and culture changes, like this is more programmatically across it. I can be in the law enforcement space, but help with studies and stuff
as
like that
well
that they would
as,
never let
yeah.
me do if I was full time. If I was full time, they'd boy get on patrol, get in
Mm,
that patrol car. Um,
right.
I can carry
But
the
you're making a
authority
bigger
and
difference
the
too.
experience of someone that's still playing on patrol periodically, but we could affect change on a
Yeah.
broader. That helps thousands of people, and that I could never
Right.
do by myself, right?
Yeah.
So like
I love that.
that's part of it's also my wife. I want to keep my wife happy. I'm on my first one. I'd like to stay that way.
Yep.
But the she has her feelings about me going back, and she's like, I'll accept reserve status. Like I'll accept you going back,
Hmm.
20 to 30 hours a month, not full time. It's a whole because then it's all the time.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
I don't know that I'd ever subject her to that again, but we'll see.
Sure, sure.
She
No, it
knows I'm
sounds like a
functionally
really
stupid.
nice balance.
Yeah, it allows me to do advocacy. I make plenty of money now in a job that I really love doing. So like,
Good.
there's not a real good reason for me to go back, like from a monetary standpoint, but clearly, like,
Sure.
I'm passionate about this topic and I want to affect change. So
Yeah, definitely. I really like that. Something that I was thinking about earlier was like you are are very transparent about policies going on, good and not
there's
so
a
good
lot of
things
bad
happening
ones.
within the
Yeah.
police force. um I was wondering if you're kind of able to talk about that more because you haven't been a cop in a while. Like if you were currently a cop, like would you get in
So,
trouble for
so
being so open about it?
that's another portion of it, right? So the full time, that means they own your income, they own everything for you there, right? Um,
Mhm.
the agency, shout out to them. I haven't navigated that policy on disclosing what that is yet, but that'll probably come out
Okay.
in the next couple of weeks. I have to
Okay.
have a very interesting conversation with command staff about that. But
Yeah.
they they have an image to maintain, and when you're a full time employee, you represent that image whether you like to or not. And I talk about it a
Right.
lot that like the badge and the uniform does not belong to you. People have died in that badge and uniform, doing the right thing, hopefully. But right, like
Mhm.
there's a lot of blood, sweat, and tears that go into the reputation of that agency, and that should never
Mm.
belong to one person. So like I would have had to have been very different about the way I approach a lot of these topics because if they see me as a representative of them, that could be problematic, right?
Yeah.
Um, on the flip side too, there is like I know I'm taking a risk of everything that I see on the internet can absolutely and will absolutely be used against me if I'm ever in a complicated use of force, right? So I
Sure.
could in a month from now run into an auditor that decides to go and fake pull a gun on me and I shoot that guy and I kill him and they're going to say, well, Josh has, they're going to find the clip somewhere where I bless a shooting and say, see, he's predisposed to doing XYZ. That's why I have legal
Mm.
representation. There's going to be reasonableness applied to
Yeah.
that or whatever. But
Right.
like
Yeah.
in general, I wouldn't recommend it for people that are still currently doing law enforcement like I plan to do.
Mhm.
Because I'm not doing it 40 hours a week, the statistical likelihood that I get into something that involved go really far down, right? It's if you
True.
don't go up to bat, you can't strike out, kind of thing, right?
Sure.
So that the risk isn't zero, but it's definitely something that like I will likely, especially once the sworn process is done, once I've navigated on that, there's going to be things that I'm going to let other people say, but it won't affect or change. The agency I'm going to represents a lot of what I stand for on the accountability and the
Oh,
transparency side of the fence.
good.
I wouldn't have gone to anybody if they didn't. I literally, it's like a
Yeah, yeah.
religious thing for me at this point. Um, so that's there's even changes within that agency, and it's not that they're heinous changes, but I think that there's like quality of life changes that'll probably happen. I'm already seeing a lot of those happening. That's a big reason why I picked them over a lot of people.
Hmm.
But there's also it's different when you're a government employee. You're not really allowed to have personal opinions, especially not public personal opinions, right? They knew about this channel. They got to see it. I'm sure they watched some of these streams or whatnot when they did the background investigation. Or they did a lazy one and that's on them. But there's definitely opportunities there to get yourself hemmed up. And worst comes to worst, they're going to say, we don't want you working here anymore. That's not going to affect my income. And I did that kind of
Sure,
intentionally.
it's you won't be super dependent on that one
Right.
position.
And
Yeah.
that's I think important if you're going to do advocacy. In the same way, like we've been offered multiple times channel sponsorships from brands who were
Mhm.
like, hey, we want to give you all this money. And I was like, I cannot risk. I was like, it's not that I won't accept a channel sponsorship, but I need one from a relatively apolitical person, right? Or brand. If you're selling like an energy
Okay.
drink or I don't know, like a holster or something like that, and your social media is
Yeah.
not always like, screw the bad guys, and every single time there's a national shooting, they have like a hot take person.
Mm,
I don't want to have to be tied to a brand like that or be in a contractual obligation to support what that brand is saying.
fair.
We have kind of alienated ourselves in some of those spaces because we sit so far in the middle on that. You know, it's why libertarians never win elections,
Yeah.
right? There's no super PACs trying to give you money. Um,
Yeah.
it's just
Gosh.
it's complicated, but it
Yeah.
I wanted to maintain a position of non-bias and to push and advocate for progress. Really, is what it is, and both sides of the fence
Yeah.
won't like the end result, but my goal and my hope for it is it will create a safer and more like friendly environment.
Yeah, because I think that there are a lot of people who I'm one of those people who I hate the whole like either side of the fence. Like if you're a
Mhm.
fence sitter, you're
Right,
wishy-washy or don't have a real opinion or something. Because I think that we have a lot of people who are kind of in between with a lot of subjects, whether
right,
it's religious or political or whatever it might be. And it's a little bit scary, I guess, to like admit that
right.
or like speak about that because you'll just have these really intense radical people coming at you about it. So I love that you're trying to represent that
I think it needs to happen
in the
more
way you
because
can.
advocacy and social media is very rarely used for advocacy, and I think that that's the sad part. Is like
Hmm.
this could be we have a tool that allows everybody to see something at the exact same time
Yeah,
and like anywhere. And rather than leveraging that tool to see
like
similarities within ourselves,
unify.
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, yeah, like it's like
Hmm.
we're from completely different
Find common
backgrounds
ground.
and you
Yeah.
can have an adult discussion to at least understand each other. We don't,
Hmm.
I love the fact that we don't have to agree, but I hate the fact that
Right.
people decide to use those things. I mean, almost to like a eugenics standpoint where they're like, this person shouldn't be there because they don't agree with me for XYZ
Yeah.
reason. And I'm like,
It's
that's crazy.
really crazy. Like crazy is actually the word for
Yeah,
it.
yeah, literally.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, that's really awesome. Yeah. I I don't know why I feel like I don't talk to a lot of people who feel that way. That's something that I've really liked about like just streaming is like
Yeah.
I feel like I've found
You
other
found your
people who
people?
also feel that way. Yeah, and it's cool because we will get people and I mean there are plenty of people in my chat who don't agree with certain views that I have or have very strong opinions about things, but we can still just very respectfully talk
Right.
about it and then like yeah, like kind of like you said understand
Yeah.
each other.
I have administrators, I'm just talking mods for my Discord and
Mhm.
my chat that
Yeah.
were ACAB when they met me. Like online, like they came in there to troll me and be like, "You're the first reasonable cop I've ever run into." And I'm like, "I'm not the only
Yeah.
one. I am not. I will be
Like,
the
I
first person to say, yeah.
swear.
It's just not
Yeah.
often, and people don't have a open opinion about it. And we're trying to create uh, a place to congregate where people can have those open and honest discussions because
Yeah.
it doesn't exist.
Yes.
You and I do this for a living,
Exactly.
and it doesn't exist.
Right. It's interesting, and yeah, I feel like, people there's a big, culture, I don't know, like, acceptability of just completely cutting somebody out or, the cancel culture,
Right?
like, to that extreme of like, "Oh, you don't agree with my opinion? Ah, fuck you."
Yeah.
And, yeah, that's something that I just have the hardest time with. Um, so You're cool, is what I'm
Oh, I
trying to say.
appreciate that. You're cool.
Yeah. um, let's see. We have. Okay, I have a question. I know nothing about this.
Okay, I'm listening.
Somebody in my chat says, "Why do crimes never expire in the U.S.?" I guess they expire
So
in other
so
countries,
that's
but I don't know
not
anything about
that's
them.
not an accurate statement. So
Okay.
there's the term here that we're looking for is called statute of limitations. So statute of
Okay.
limitation means from the moment the crime happened, how long can we wait to prosecute or to file the charge or whatever. So if I go to your house and I during a potluck take too much food and you want to go accuse me of theft, right? There's going to be a statute of limitations for that. So you go crack open the big book, right? And it's going to say 2 years, 5 years, 7 years, whatever. There are
Okay.
certain crimes that don't expire. So murder,
Okay.
infinite statute of limitations. If I find out 80 years later that you murdered somebody, enjoy prison, scumbag. Like as long as I can prove it beyond a reasonable doubt, you're going to go to prison here in
Yeah.
America. Each state's a little different about statute of limitations and like which ones we have. Texas is weird. We have some that expire in 2 years, some in 5, some in 7, some in 15, some in 25, and some never.
Yeah. So are
Why?
you talking about if someone's never like never has jail time, if you're caught, like if you're never caught after you murder somebody,
Right.
but then 80 years later
Yeah.
you're finally caught,
Yep.
then it's a
You go straight to
like
jail,
it's
just like
expired. It's yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah. So
Well,
in
that makes sense, but if
right.
somebody already, maybe I'm misunderstanding the question because in my mind I thought it was like if somebody uh I don't know, goes to jail for theft
Right.
and then um they serve their time, they
Mhm.
do community service, whatever it is, and they do the things they need to do to like go back
So
into society.
so on that
Does
on
that
that side of the
expire?
fence, you have misdemeanors that don't have really any punishments past what you got. I do agree
Hmm.
that there's a fundamental problem with felonies in America because felonies
Okay.
affect you a lot. So having a felony on your record can prevent you from
Hmm.
voting. It's going to prevent you from owning a firearm. It can prevent you from getting into certain rental properties. It can prevent you from buying a house outright. It can prevent you from going to college. Like having a felony on your record's complicated. And when you
Uh-huh.
look at felonies like let's you can have felony shoplifting technically, right? Texas is kind of wild about this. So let's say you steal a candy bar on Monday, right? It's a candy
Okay.
bar, Class C ticket for shoplifting. I'm going to hit you with the ticket, kick you loose.
Okay.
You do it a second time. Same candy bar, but you do it
Hmm.
on Wednesday. Probably taking you straight to jail. It's a misdemeanor, but
Hmm.
it's going to be a Class B. If I can prove it, not taking you straight to jail. You do it that third time, state jail felony. Now,
Okay.
when you get out, you now have that status of being a felon. Now you can't have guns, can't go to college.
Hmm.
And in a lot of situations, the judges or the court system won't give you any way to expunge it. There are pathways to expunge certain felonies, but there's not
Hmm.
a lot of, you can't truly fully be rehabilitated if you're still suffering a consequence for the crime, right? I'm
Right,
a firm
exactly.
believer in that. Um,
Okay.
from that perspective,
Oh, that's very interesting.
it's weird. So, because you got to, so like you, and not to trigger anybody, but let's say this guy's a registered sex offender, right? This
Hmm.
guy sexually assaulted somebody in the 80s,
Hmm.
spends 15 years in prison, gets out, right? He gets out still on the sex offender registry, right? He has to, everywhere he
Right.
goes, he has to go and sign up and notify and whatever.
Hmm.
And 30 years has gone by. And now he's an old man and he lives in a ghetto place because he hasn't been able to make a bunch of money or whatever. He's still a felon. Worse, he's still a
Hmm.
felon on the sex offender registry, right? How much time has to pass before he gets a pathway to not doing that, right? He's we feel safe enough, allegedly, according to the state, to allow him to walk freely amongst the populace, right?
Right.
Probably with some conditions if he's on probation or parole, right? But let's say he's done all of that. All of that's done. There's no more conditions, but he's still got that felony status. I think it's one of the big failings of our country collectively because like you're cutting you're claiming the goal is to prevent them from recidivating, which means committing crime again and having to go back to the system, right?
Hmm.
You need to stop shoplifting, woman. Like I want you to stop stealing stuff. So I keep escalating the punishment until the punishment was enough to get you to stop. Well, if I hit you with a felony, it's a forever punishment. And I think
Right.
that
Right.
there should be some exceptions because we have to look at the victim here, right? Because if my victim was 6 years old when she got sexually assaulted. When does she stop being a victim? She's
Right,
a
right.
survivor,
She's
right?
a
Like, and we have our ways of handling her from society, but from a justice standpoint, when the system is saying, "Hey, this is our solution for it. I need the family to be okay with it. I need to maintain a level of trust that we're going to do something about it when victimization happens."
mhm.
How long is that? Who determines
Right.
that? Like,
I know who determines that
yeah.
exactly.
And
Yeah,
so,
because yeah, sorry, go on.
yeah, I don't think there's a good answer to that because I don't believe in moral relativism. I do believe there's right and wrong. I come from that perspective, right? But
Sure.
but when you start getting into how much, that's the reason why use of force is complicated, right? What might seem unreasonable to you might be reasonable to me, and vice versa. And so, like the reasonableness clause is
Yeah.
vague, and I think it's intentionally vague because society should decide. It's the very few times that we actually get a true democracy, where you have
Mm.
people that vote and you have to come to some level of consensus, regardless of what your background is. Was that reasonable? And are we, as representatives of society, not because we were elected, it's because we were just plucked out of life and said, "Hey, we got to go apply
Right.
some logic to this."
Yeah,
How
what do you
much?
think?
But like, they don't really have that for probation or parole. They don't really have that for those type of environments. And I think that specifically on felonies, there's a lot of felonies that are like DWI felonies or drug possession felonies, where it's like this guy did drugs in the 80s. Why is he still suffering a
Yeah.
consequence now? Right.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
a lot of these. You also have like status offenses, where it's like it was a complicated situation where some girl was 17 but lied about her age, or 16 and lied about her age to a 20-year-old.
Okay.
And it's like he was compliant with all the investigation. He was cool. We're like, hey, this is what you get. There's got to be a consequence for not verifying this chick's age, right? We're still going to do
Yeah.
something here, but like we can't look at that situation and say, let's give him a punishment for 5 years and then see what happens. And if he's willing to go and learn his lesson and whatever, that we can go and give him a pathway. I don't want to give free passes to anybody. Action should have consequences, but I
Yeah.
it's a failure. I don't think there's a good answer. I don't have the acumen to solve that problem, so I'm not going to claim that I
Yeah.
do. But I do think
Yeah.
that we are hurting a bigger portion of the population than people are willing to admit, and that's before you
Interesting.
get to mental health problems and all that other stuff,
Mhm.
which is
Yeah.
even worse.
It's right, right. Yeah, it's really fascinating because we just watched a video a while ago about so Germany specifically. Germany is a whole nother level when it comes to anything like this. Um, but rehabilitation is like a really big focus there,
Right,
rather than punishment. I mean, yeah, you have the punishment, but then you a lot of the time, even murderers will have their names, private, their faces private, and
right.
then like eventually they can just get back to being a regular citizen. And yeah, when I was watching that, I'm like, I have mixed feelings about this. Like, this is
Right.
really hard for an American to like feel like that might be okay. But we also don't have maybe very good resources for
I,
rehabilitation. I don't know.
I would also argue there's likely the double edged sword comes back here, right? We are some of the
Hmm.
freest people to have ever existed on the face of the planet ever. We can own
Hmm.
land as long as you can afford it. Technically, you don't even have to be able to afford it. They'll give you a loan for it if you really want to, right?
Right.
But you can be a landowner, you can own firearms, you can vote, you can do a lot of stuff regardless of your race, sometimes even your nationality and stuff like that here in this country. It's kind of wild what you can do here. Um,
Hmm.
the flip side to that is you are not free from consequence, right? And the consequences here are sometimes worse than anywhere else in the world. Again, we incarcerate more people
Mm.
than almost anybody, but you have the freedom to screw up, right? You can look at a lot of the Nordic countries, that have a very different philosophy on that. They have a lot of government subsidies on stuff, which is great. You'll never go hungry. You'll never not have an apartment. You'll if you end up in prison, their prisons are actually kind of rad. Their prisons are
They're
nicer than some of the
incredible.
apartments that I've lived in, right?
Exactly. They're
Um,
more focused on prevention versus
well,
like straight up.
they are more concerned about providing a standard of living than they are opportunity. Is really and
Mm,
that's it's like gambling is the best way I could describe it. Americans by
sure.
nature are gamblers. We would rather but think about what we're doing right now. I would rather give a public
Hmm.
opinion that I'm going to be judged for, right? so that I can go and do advocacy for it. And this is, I'm going to get death threats. I'm going to get people that don't like me. I'll get a subscriber or two from here and there, right? But like, I'm potentially even giving myself, I am loading the gun that might eventually get used for me in criminal court when I do law enforcement interactions, right? But I'm willing to take that gamble because I think the end result's worth it, right? That's a uniquely American perspective. I think a lot of people would take comfort over the opportunity for risk. I would rather fold my hand than double down and ask for another card. And I think that's a cultural difference for sure.
Definitely. Yeah. Um, Somebody was asking, what I mean, this is a very random. We don't have to stay on this topic for too long, but like, what do you think about the freedom to roam? I don't know if I only like watched one video about it. I don't know much about it, but apparently, here, what was the difference, you guys? It was like here in the United States, um, you know, if someone wants to say, like, um, we're not. You know what? We might skip this because I'm trying to remember like exactly how it works. Um,
So
okay, something.
there's social mobility, right? At the end of the day, like we have like I can go from living on one side of town to the other, or one state to another. Like there's plenty of people
Mhm.
that have lived in like 5 or 6 different places that have wildly different laws. Heck, we don't have income tax here. Like we don't have state income tax at all. Like that's kind of wild. We have property taxes, but that's its own thing,
Yeah.
right? Um,
Mhm.
there's also economic mobility, right? In the sense that I can go become an entrepreneur and get a business loan and all that other kind of stuff, right? Um, there's not, outside of being a felon, there's not a lot of doors that are hard shut for you in America, and I think that's a great thing for people that want it. I could see that being
Mhm.
very overwhelming to people that are coming from different cultures where you just get a government issued job. You get government issued housing, and it's very predictable, it's very safe. They don't worry about retirement. They don't worry about what's happening in, uh, the Middle East because it's not going to really change their economic situation at all. Like, period. They don't even really worry about elections because what's that really going to do for you?
Mhm.
Everything's already
Yeah.
subsidized. There is something safe and comfortable about that. I actually personally
Oh, definitely.
understand that rationale. I find it offensive, but I
Interesting.
you
Interesting.
got to think that the state. I know I have a Pledge of Allegiance for my state. I have a Texas flag in front of my house.
Yeah, that's wild.
It is we were the only people that were a legit country that consented to coming here.
Mhm.
Technically, there's a pathway where we could secede and it'd be perfectly legal, right?
Right. Right.
Texas as a culture is its own thing. Like that's a whole
Texas is
other.
something else.
That's
Yeah.
its own
Exactly. We
other.
respect it.
It's just a different like posture and belief and approach to life in general. Um,
Sure. Sure.
America's too broad a nation, I think, to be able to paint with that broad. I don't think there's an American culture. Heck, even within law enforcement, you can look
Mm.
at like there are things that cops do in California and New York that I find personally offensive. Like, I was like, I don't know how you go to
Interesting.
work every day and do that
Yeah.
like that. I
It's
would
like
find that
we're a
gross.
country full of countries. To be
That that's
honest, some
exactly it's exactly what we
states do
are.
things so differently.
Yep.
Yeah. Um, okay, somebody put in the chat, so sorry. Freedom to roam is the right to access public and private land unless you're causing problems.
So
It's most common in British Isles
yeah,
and other countries.
I like especially because you have like BLM land. It's like business of land management. I think it's not the other kind of BLM. But you have public land. National parks are a bit more complicated, right? Because it's federally owned. They can kind of
Sure,
control
sure.
some access to it. But freedom to roam, you can hunt as long as you get tags. There are
Hmm.
places like in Europe where you cannot hunt unless you're like part of royalty and stuff like that. Like you have to know somebody, and that
Interesting.
landowner has to give you. Texas is a bit of a unique take because most of our land is privately owned. We have very
Okay.
little public land versus you go to like Arizona
Interesting.
and that's like half the state's public land. Like nobody can own it by statute, right?
Yeah.
Um, so freedom to roam is, I think, important when you don't have the economy to support choice. So, like a lot of people, unions are a great example of this. Is like the reason why Texas is so against culturally from unions is if I don't like my job, I just get another one next week. Like if you're a semi-employable person, there are entry-level jobs everywhere and like to a reasonable income. It was a little better when
Okay.
the economy was better, right? That's
Mm,
affected us all. But like
yeah.
finding the mean and median, or if not a higher income, especially due to cost of living, it was very easy to support yourself off of one income here in
Hmm.
Texas. And finding an
Okay.
employer was easy. Your employer could be an absolute scumbag, and no one's going to work for him, and they're going to go work where they can, and that capitalism would work the
Hmm.
way it was supposed to, right? But you
Sure.
go to West Virginia where there's 3 employers total for the state. It's like Walmart, I don't know, some manufacturer and whatever.
Yeah.
Unions start to make more sense because if I want to stay living in this state, because grandpappy lived
Hmm.
here and I inherited a house here, and this is the only reasonable commute I can do for a job, I
Yeah.
have to have this relationship. I have to figure out a way to make this work. And they can be scumbags because they're the only employer, but I don't want to be like, I want some level of protection against them or collective
Hmm.
bargaining. So like I freedom to roam to a Texan is you can buy property if you really want to go somewhere and
Right.
or
It's a little different.
be a good friend. Like the Bible Belt kind of
Mm,
exists in its fashion. We are the buckle of that
interesting.
because community based things is like, hey, you're my neighbor. Hey, you got a hog problem? I got a solution. Like that's
Yeah.
they
You're not going to get in
assume
trouble.
they we are not very autism friendly here in Texas because they're just going to assume you're going to make friends. They're going to assume you're going to sell the deer lease space to somebody, and or you're going to sort it out. But I
Interesting.
do like the idea of public access stuff. I mean, we subsidize a lot of stuff, despite being a capitalist country, if you want to call it that. We have welfare, we have WIC, we have Section 8, most of which I'm okay with because people need. I mean, heck, children's hospitals that are specifically almost completely privately funded, right? But it's like, yeah, if the kid's got cancer, somebody help them. I don't care if they can afford it. Here's the money. Like we're so quick to want to do that, but we're
Mm,
less apt to want to help maybe a more sympathetic victim to a social ill. So, I freedom to roam's incredibly
interesting.
important. I think it's a fundamental right, which again, that's a thing that only Americans really talk about, because we're one of the very few people
Hmm.
that get those. But you'd be shocked in Europe what they have to do without. And that's not just because a lot of people will say, well, only in Russia or only in China. And I was like, oh no, dude, most countries. Like if you're not someone's cousin, you're not buying a house. If you're not, so you won't get a government job. I remember talking to my wife taught in China for a couple of years before we got
Hmm.
married. And she had one of her friends that she had met while she was teaching abroad. He came up, he's from China, he's Chinese. And he found out I worked as a police officer. So I worked for the state and just assumed I was like this other tier of citizen. And I was like, it's honestly the worst. I was like, I'm treated way worse because I'm a cop here.
Uh-huh.
And I lived in a relatively like not cop friendly environment, but like it didn't bother me. I knew what I signed up for, right? It's a
Hmm.
service based thing. The Starbucks employees don't expect to be treated nicely all the time. And I'm just an expensive Starbucks employee that has a gun. But the it's I don't know. I think the if that's what it is, I don't know what it is because it's not a problem that I interact with at all. But having the ability to go do stuff, I think private land's going to be a little different. If you believe that you have
Right.
a right to have access to someone else's private land, Texas is going to have issue with that. We're allowed.
Right, for
Texas
sure.
is culturally get off my lawn or die is literally the posture.
Hmm.
So
Yeah.
we have I think the minimum requirement is literally orange like purple paint on the ground. You don't even have to have a fence. If you put purple paint on like a tree that's visible, I don't remember if they
Uh-huh.
were really picky even about the
Purple.
color
Does
of
it have to
purple.
be purple?
It does have to be
Oh,
purple. It's really weird. Don't ask me
I've
why
never
because I
heard
don't
of
know.
this. Okay.
But they no fence, no nothing. You're walking through the woods and you see purple paint and you cross it, you get dusted and they're probably going to let it go, which is crazy to me. Like that's wild that it's like you're just meandering, I don't know, looking for mushrooms or whatever it is you're doing.
Yeah.
Um, Texas
It's a
is
little
going to have,
scary.
oh yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, especially in Texas where most land is private, they also tend to be pretty diligent about putting up fences. If people have like cattle and stuff like that, they're typically worried about it. But they also don't want that complication. They don't want to have issues with property lines. You're paying taxes for that property no matter what you have because we have property taxes, pretty
Hmm.
high property taxes depending on where you're at. But I have issue with people believing that they have unfettered access whether I get your consent or not. That's going to be an issue. Same thing with like squatters' rights don't exist here in Texas. If
Okay.
you have a rental home here in
I just
Texas,
hate squatters' rights. I
yeah,
think it's wild.
it is good luck here. And that's gonna be
Mm-hmm.
most like southern states. You're gonna have like a real.
Good,
They have
good.
like a different posture against that. Texas is one of the most aggressive
Yeah,
on
where they're
that.
like, we're not putting up with that shit.
Well, and again, the law enforcement's hands are tied in a lot of those situations where I've watched somebody get the shit beat out of him, and I was like, "Well, what was the situation?" He's like, "He got too drunk in the party and wouldn't leave," and I was like,
Yeah.
"Well, enjoy jail
Oh
for
well
criminal
for that
trespass."
guy.
Like I took him to jail after getting beat up, and I was like,
After
"Sorry,
getting
dog."
beat
Yeah, I
up.
was like, "Yeah, like
Wow.
I'm not. You think you're a victim, but technically you're not in this situation."
Yeah.
I've seen domestic violence situations, which normally in different circumstances, this is an easy layup. Chick's got bodily injury. They're dating. This is very easy. But I was like, she doesn't live here. He asked her to leave. She was dumb enough to record the whole thing. And I was like,
Oh wow.
cool. Well, you self snitched here. Because if
Whoops.
all I had was he hit you and I had to go between the two stories, this wouldn't have been complicated. But like, he's like
Yeah.
pleading for you to leave. You're destroying his property. He threw you out of
Right.
the apartment. Like, sorry, dog.
Yeah,
Enjoy jail.
and that's the thing that I understand about the right to roam in these countries where you can roam private
Mhm.
land, I guess, is that as long as you're not damaging the property or, being a problem, then
Yeah.
it's okay. But as soon as something like that starts, then, you're not legally welcome there anymore.
And not here. Here, good
But
luck.
right,
Yeah,
right
good
there, it's
luck.
like
Yeah.
nope, nothing, nothing. Yeah, very
The
interesting.
I morally speaking, I have an issue with people threatening people with guns. I just think it's stupid and reckless, and it's not worth somebody's
Threatening with
life.
people with guns?
Well, I'm talking
Yeah,
about like for trespassing and that. Like if it's crossing your yard, that's
totally.
stupid. Like that's dumb. You shouldn't be
Okay,
doing
okay.
that. That's not a
But like you
reasonable thing.
can.
Uh, Texas, you'd be shocked.
So,
Yeah, like that. The
yeah,
Texas has got a really long leash for that.
fascinating.
And like
Hmm.
obviously every situation's an individual, so you have to look at it for the individual like components of what's going on. Was there a fence? Was it
Sure.
clearly marked? What time of day was it? What was
With
he
the purple
doing?
paint.
Right, with the purple paint.
Yeah.
Is it fuchsia? Is it purple? Is it whatever?
Yeah, exactly.
They actually color test your eyesight for that very reason. For employment, which is funny. But
That's so funny.
the and it's a cultural thing because I grew up in it. Private property is private property. I mean, almost to the point where like you could have problematic beliefs. Typically, I never asked people during a criminal trespass warning why they wanted them to leave the property. I didn't want to know. I was like, because if it's for a
Interesting.
problematic reason, it's going to piss me off that I have to enforce it. Because Texas
Oh,
law in particular sides with the property owner always, like universally.
yeah.
Unless it's something
Yeah.
shady, like I show up to your house, you invited me to party, and now I'm dead. And they're like, well, how did he die? And
Like
they're like, I asked him to leave and
we
he
wanted him
wouldn't.
to
And
leave.
he's like, yeah, but he died from being poisoned. Like, you know what I mean? Like, that's a little
Yeah,
more
like
complicated. That doesn't sound like you threatened him. It sounds like you killed him.
right, right.
Same thing, like you guys opened up like an insurance policy on me and stuff like that. I was like, well, there's clues here that that's not exactly the
Yeah.
way that you perpetrated it. But minus those things, if that's the story and I'm not alive to say it, Texas is wild in how
Yeah.
much they won't go after that because they would rather empower you to defend your home from somebody you don't want to be there than catch was probably a guilty person, right? I will let the guilty person go rather than prosecute somebody that we believe is innocent. And it's a
Yeah.
very specific posture that we have here in Texas state law.
Yeah. Okay. Different.
Yeah,
Who
it's
knows
different.
what's right or wrong? Who
Yeah.
knows?
Well, and that's kind of where the reasonableness and the jury of your peers and all that stuff. I think it's also why social mobility is a little more dangerous. Is like if you're coming from New York where you got squatters' rights and you just happen to come and live with your homie. There's the amount of times I had people like mad that we were taking them to jail, and I was like, "This is legal where I come from," and I was like, "I didn't
Out
say
of here.
we do things differently here."
We
It was
do
not the
things
line. Yeah,
differently
it was
here.
not the line that I dropped. I would give them the penal code offense for. I was like, "Well, this meets the elements of the offense for criminal trespass, so you're going
Right.
to jail."
Right, exactly. If you do things differently because of the law,
Right,
it
it's
makes sense.
different. Right.
Like then it's reasonable. Oh my gosh, that's so funny. Fascinating. Yeah, so it is interesting that like I mean, so I don't know if you know this, but I have a lot of Europeans in my community and people
Same.
watching me.
I don't know
So
what it is.
yeah,
They love
yeah.
American stuff. Shout out to my
No,
European
it's fun
homies.
and I think it's fascinating to compare cultures and laws and things like that. And so yeah, like there are definitely certain things where like maybe we have more freedom in certain areas, and then like somebody I think in my chat just now is like, oh, like you guys can't drink beer on a beach, and
Yep.
maybe it depends on
Yep.
where.
Depends on
Yeah,
where.
but they're
Yeah.
just like it's so weird to me. And so yeah, it is fascinating
I,
to be like, oh, we have certain freedoms, they
right.
don't, and vice versa.
I found that we had
But
an exchange student from Germany, and their drinking age is
mhm.
18, right? I think it's even lower in certain circumstances. I know in Texas, technically, as long as you're with your parent, there's going to be some discretion involved there. But you have high
Okay.
schoolers technically in Germany that are like, I'm gonna have a beer for lunch, and it's perfectly permissible.
Hmm.
Vegas, I have to go for Shot Show every year, which I can't stand that city. But
Okay.
the I have to go. It's like a conference or like a convention is the best way I can describe it. And you
And
can
shot show meaning like guns?
Yes, and so I'm in the
Okay.
firearms industry as a marketing
Yeah.
person currently. That's how I pay my bills.
Sure.
Um,
Nice.
but so I have to go, and you can just have a beer while walking down the street, which is wild by Texas standards,
Different.
right? And
Yeah.
even like
And here
you
too.
can smoke inside of the casino. Like you're just hanging out smoking, and I was like, you can't gamble in Texas. You can't smoke inside of Texas. You can't be
Yeah.
drinking in public without there being potential issues, right? You can drink in a
Hmm.
bar, but like if you're open container somewhere else, there's going to be issues, right?
Sure,
Um,
sure.
and so what's funny is this guy from Germany was making fun of it. He's like, "Oh, you guys don't get to do anything," and I was like,
Like, well,
"A
like here.
6-year-old could shoot you for walking to the house, and they're going to give him a high five." I was like, "You so
Right.
much as
Just
threat,
different.
you so much as threat, even if it's totally justified, even if it's 1,000% justified." You defending you and your child against 15 intruders that are specifically picking you out to go hurt you in Germany, but you pulled a gun out to threaten them, not use it, but to threaten them in self defense, prison for you. And I was like, I'll take my not
Like,
being able to drink in
dang.
public over being able to defend
I
myself.
guess.
Keep your beer. I was like, I'm good
Keep
with
your
it.
beer.
Um,
Very interesting.
but and it's again,
It's fascinating that
heck,
they
oh,
have that, but not
right,
the drinking thing. You
yeah,
think that's just kind of the more
it's
religious,
it's cultural.
conserve?
We have
Oh,
dry counties still. You can't buy liquor, period. Like
wow.
they will not
Wow.
authorize liquor licenses within certain counties here in Texas, which
Yeah.
is crazy. It was like prohibition was a long time ago. Like that's crazy. They won't do
Yeah,
it.
exactly.
And it's
Yeah.
their ability as a governing body to say we're not going to allow you to do business here.
We're not doing it. Yeah. Yeah. It's very fascinating,
Right.
honestly, to me. That's why I do have a hard time with the like, oh, and anybody saying, oh, we live in the best country in the world. And this is just totally a random thing. Like, oh, this is the best country in the world or something. I have a hard time with that because I think that every country has pros and cons.
Oh yeah.
And it's like, it's just so fascinating to learn the differences. And it just
Th-
depends on if you vibe with those differences or not,
right. Th-
if you're
there
in the right
was
country.
there was a joke I had with a buddy of mine, and I said I married my wife for being hot, not sturdy. I She can't help me with moving furniture. When we had to move into our house, like she
I
was not
understand.
helpful there. There was just
I
things
feel her there.
where I did not marry her to help me, fight somebody in the street or anything like that. She's a wonderful human being and like
Yeah,
the most cherished thing in my life. But
right.
I remember we were moving from my day job. We had an office and we were moving out of the office. And my boss's wife came to help and she was miffed that she's like, I'm the only wife here. Everybody else here is married. And I was like, we all were like, well, my wife's like not really going to be helpful here. Like, it's a reason why it's not trying to give her, she's not trying to skip on it. She's just like, I would not be helpful here. I could move some trash cans and some paper for you. But it's like, I'm not lifting a 400-pound desk. Like, I'm not contributing in that
Hmm.
way.
Right. I
And,
always buy muffins for people,
but
when
hey,
they're helping move. And
but like, that's an idea. Like, I love that. I have no problem with that. I don't feel
that's
like
also
I'm
very
missing.
helpful.
But you know what I mean? But like I don't feel like I'm missing out because, my wife can't help me move a couch, right? In the same way
Interesting.
where some people might, because they might see that as inequitable. And so I think I always tell people
Mm.
live where you agree with the rules and you'll
Right.
never have problems. I'll never understand people, especially you see this with auditors a lot, where they will
Okay.
go to a place where they like religiously disagree with what's going on there. And I'm like, but the majority that live there do.
It's like,
And if that's their
dang.
community, that's their community. I was like, I have issue with it. I might agree with the person. I was like, what
Hmm.
did you think was going to happen? And maybe there's certain circumstances where you can get lawsuits and you can maybe liberate these people from what you see as a tyrannical law, right? And I have no problem
Mm.
with that exercise, but like there are certain circumstances where they want to live like that. And that's preferential, and you're placing your beliefs onto someone else unconsensually is the best way I can describe it.
Mm.
And I'm like,
Sure, sure.
I'm not saying live and let live. There are certain evils that I see personally. I didn't get motivated to be a cop just to be a passive observer for life, right?
Hmm.
I believe that there are evils that should be dealt with, right? And I'm willing to go get my hands dirty to go do it. But
Hmm.
like, there's I have a real issue with people deciding that their perspective is more important than the residents that live there, even when they're problematic
Mm.
beliefs. Let them be problematic. Let them be crappy. And when nobody wants to deal with them, then they'll be forced to
Then you
change.
can all collectively like
Right.
make that change. Yeah.
But like, yeah, if
Interesting.
it's slavery, if it's stuff like that, sure, that's a good reason to go and fight for something, right? I totally get that. I mean, you're seeing the systematic oppression of people. I get it,
Yeah.
right? But like,
Hmm.
I can't drink in public. Let's get arrested. You know what I mean? Like there's like they've been, I think, almost coaxed into boredom. It's like the reverse of what happens with American Forks Police. Like they never have to deal with crime, so they're just gonna make crime happen. And it's like you'll get people that don't have political controversy, so they manufacture it because they want to be involved. I mean, you see it a lot of times with
Interesting.
like people that aren't necessarily cheating in a relationship but feel bored for some odd reason, so they'll go make drama at work just to go have drama. And I was like, why can't you just be
Mm.
happy? Like what in your
Yeah.
life makes you
Like what's
required to
wrong with
be
content?
right, right?
Yeah. Interesting. Huh. I wonder. People are interesting
It's comp
because I wonder if
having the
it
front
is.
row seat to society is the best worst thing that ever happened to me in my life. It's
Yeah,
it both
that would be fascinating.
it made me grateful for like my family, for my wife. I mean, she was I literally what made me closer to her was my first 2 years in policing, and I realized like I can't have real complaints here. Like this could be
Yeah, yeah.
so much worse. Like so, and things that would like in a normal, healthy function, not taking out the trash is annoying. Forgetting something is annoying. Lighting my
Right.
car on fire and lying about me hurting kids, it would be a lot more
Uh-huh.
inconvenient. You know what I mean? I was like, yeah,
True
I,
that.
I'll take the
Like, I
occasional.
guess
I'm a
I'll
little
take it.
moody, you know, and that's the
Yeah.
worst that's gonna happen.
No, I understand that with just I mean just a very minor, like very small, just dealing with a narcissistic person
Right,
in my life. Yeah, it really gives you perspective of like, oh, the people who actually care about me and the people who are like kind of normal around me,
right.
like I will do anything to keep those people around me, you know?
Well,
It's
and also give them deference. Like I think I give people more leash now because
mhm.
one, I also can kind of see some of these people what society would normally be like. Well, that's just methany is what they call it. It's just a chick that's really chick strung out on meth.
Methany?
Methany, yeah. That's
Oh,
it's like a nickname we give to
okay.
people that are just doing drugs,
Methany.
clearly. Um,
Okay, that's funny.
but they'll be real quick to slap them with the label. That's just methany being stupid. It's like a Karen, but with meth, right? And I'm like, yes, she chose to do meth. I was like, but we have no idea what her life situation's like. She could have been abandoned
Mhm.
at 16. She could have been, this is the only way that she can escape, her victimization that never got announced, right? She's been, God knows
Yeah.
what kind of victims of a crime that
Yeah,
she's
people
been.
are
She
complicated.
lives a very
Mhm.
hard life, and this is her only escape. And it might seem gross and weird to us, right? And offensive and inconvenient, but I was like, that we don't understand all the other stuff going on with that
Yeah.
person. When it's a
Yeah.
narcissist that's just bored and trying to make it complicated, you can be mad at that person. That's perfectly acceptable, right? Like
Sure.
I give everyone that deference where I'm like, okay, well, let me fully hear you out before I pass judgment. Once I've
Mm.
fully heard you out and I think you're being unreasonable, I'll slam the door on it. And I had no
Yeah.
problem with
Then
slamming
it's
that
like,
door. Be like,
okay.
nope,
Mhm. Yeah, when anyway,
no,
yes. I could talk about that subject all day.
dude,
Um
that's a hot button.
it is, it is. Um let's see. So we have like 20 minutes left. Um I have let's see. I have some questions that I haven't been able to read through yet.
You're good.
Um, let's see. Are there any like I know that there are like your chat is in there all the time, but if you've seen any questions that
I'll
you
have to
thought would
skim
be
it.
interesting to yeah, sure. You just feel free, as well. Um, let's see.
That's so funny. Damian Knight was like, a drama's been idolized on TV so much, so it looks cool and fun.
Yeah, and then you
I
get
want
into it and it's
problems.
like, oh
Oh,
no.
it's not as fun.
No, no, no.
Mm,
Um,
a
how
country
stressed
that
about the
Gower's say talking about Manifest Destiny. He's like a country that was so big on Manifest Destiny having it.
manifest
It's
destiny.
like us wanting to go from sea to signing sheet, right? Like we were the 13 colonies, we bought the Louisiana Purchase, and we wanted to go all the way to California. And it wasn't California at the time, but
Okay,
whatever.
sure.
Europeans tend to like to be, or and even just critics of America, which we earn a lot of it. I have no issue with saying that America's
Yeah,
not
we're
perfect.
we're right.
We're complicated. Um,
Mm-hmm.
the idea of a country conquering another country, right? Which has happened everywhere. There's not a single innocent country in that ordeal, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Unfortunately.
that's just a reality. That's, I mean, you look at slavery, you can look at a lot of like horrible social norms. Governments be crappy, like that. Universally, that's the case.
Mm-hmm.
Judging individuals for the actions of their government is just as bad as judging people based on, you know what I mean?
Yes, we were just talking about this just on my chat, I
Right.
guess. Yeah, that is so funny
There are
to me. I see that
wonderful,
all the time.
wonderful, lovely people in North Korea. They're
I bet,
they're
yeah.
beautiful, wonderful human beings in Pakistan. In
Right.
countries that
Or
are
Russia
yeah, yeah,
or like these
everywhere.
mm-hmm.
God's children, in my
Yeah,
opinion, are everywhere, right? It's just a matter of
sure.
that they just happen to be born there, and it sucks to suck because it's a complicated situation for them. But like,
Yeah,
eh,
exactly.
it goes back to tribalism, and it's easier for me to not have to take the time to get to know you and learn things about you and apply deference to you when I could just slap a label on, your eyes are a certain shape and you come from a certain country. That's your label, you
Yeah, you
know.
must think this way. You must like
Ugh,
share every opinion with
yeah,
the rest of your country. Yeah. That's something that I don't know if you've been looking at the World Cup, like people visiting
mhm,
for the World Cup.
yeah.
I think it's so fun. People just getting a little more yeah, of a sense of the people here versus just the politics or the government or
Also,
the media,
like
and I love
how
that.
different it is. I watched somebody discuss the difference in between they just went to New York because they're like, oh, I'm gonna be in the States. I got a visa. They went to New York just to go, and they had a game that they had to go to in Texas. So they go to New York and they did public transportation, and they're like, wow, everyone's kind of busy and kind of rude or whatever. And that's not a dig on New
Mm,
Yorkers. If I was trying to go to work and I had to ride a subway and I did it every day and I was paying a lot in taxes, I'd be pissed too, like
sure.
personally, right? And he says that they got to Texas and they were like, okay, well, we got to drive from the airport to our hotel. And I was like, it's a 45-minute drive. And they're
What do
like,
you mean?
we're going to go 80 miles
Huh?
per hour for 45 minutes and still barely get there on time. They're like, oh my God. They saw the
Mm-hmm.
trucks and the people, and they were like, this is the same country. That is
Mm-hmm.
part of the United States. That is part of the
Yeah, it's
whole.
kind of unbelievable.
And it is, or even you land in Texas and think, oh, America's kind of hideous. It's flat. The trees suck. The insects suck. You go to, every time we were watching American folk stuff, I was like, God, Utah is so pretty.
I
Like, it
love
is
our mountains.
so pretty.
And southern Utah is even better with like the red rock and like
Right.
the arches and just
And so
God.
I'm like,
Yeah.
man, the police department might suck, but at least it's a pretty backdrop while you're there. You know what I mean? Was kind of my
Mm-hmm. We
chuckle
got
about it.
something here going for
Yeah.
us. Yeah,
And so I'm like,
exactly.
that's America still, right? Like you're not the
Mm-hmm.
concrete jungle. You're not flat, kind of boring Texas. You're not, the constantly air conditioned California when it's not on fire. Like
Yeah.
I don't know,
Yeah.
dude, the food's
Or Utah
different.
when it's on fire
That's
too.
that's fair. That's
But
fair.
yeah. Yeah, it's a melting pot for sure. But
Yeah.
yeah, it's nice because yeah, I've had people come into my chat saying, "Oh, you like you knew who you were voting in when you voted Trump in, and I'm just like, I didn't vote for Trump. I voted for a smaller party. Like I
Right.
I just
But
like you
and
can't say that about the
and
individuals.
and even if you
Um
did, You didn't vote for
Hmm.
his cabinet. You didn't vote for a Supreme Court
You
choice. You didn't vote for any of that.
People who
Right.
voted for Trump didn't know what
Right.
was in
Right.
store.
Eh,
Yeah, and
Same
so
thing. Same thing that happened
yeah.
with the people that voted for Biden. They had no idea he was going to get like old and senile and stuff. Like they didn't know. How are you supposed to know?
Or get so embarrassing.
Poor
Yeah,
guy. Yeah.
exactly.
But it's
Yeah,
like,
and
and even then, it's
same
the
with
lesser
Russians. Like
two.
not
Yeah.
not every Russian. Like people will say like, "Oh, fuck Russians," and I'm just like,
The
"Wow,
whole group,
fuck
the
every
whole thing.
single Russian
Right.
in the entire country."
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Good on you.
So I love that you brought that up. I love that. I don't know. Your chat brought that up. I guess.
Yeah.
Um, Very cool. I 100% agree with that. And yes, you will get people who love what the government's doing, or
Right.
like who will
Right.
like be in total. I don't know. You get the crazies too, but you'll get those everywhere, and
I
that's who you see online, which
Yeah.
is
I
sad.
teased a good, very good friend of mine. We're very close. And
Hmm.
he very staunch, he's agnostic. And I said, no, there's no atheist in this world. And he's like, shut up. No, atheism exists. He's like, you're being dumb,
What do you
Josh,
mean?
right? Like you're normally more intellectually honest than this. And I said, no, no, you worship something. I was like, you just get to pick or not pick what you worship,
Oh, I
right?
see.
And he's like, okay, explain. He's like, normally you're not this much of a d-bag about it. And I was like, well, I was like, a lot of people, specifically here in America, they do worship politicians. They do worship that. I mean, past even people that would identify with some form of theism, right? Whether they're Jewish, whether they're Islamic or Christian or Hindu or whatever, their political allegiance is more forthcoming and an obvious indicator of how they're
It's
going to
their
feel about a topic.
religion.
Right, right. And I was like, there
Yes,
are very
agreed.
few truly, and those people are typically so apathetic that they're hard to be around. And I was like,
Interesting.
I was like, I don't have a problem with people again, you're allowed to do what you want. God bless America, right? But I was like, the issue I have is when you're so ignorant and like not self-critical enough to see that bias in yourself and to see how much influence that this idea or this affiliation has on you, that you're willing to go start doing blanket statements, or worse, goose stepping you're into what I would consider bad theology, where you're like, you're doing things
Mm,
antithetical to what would normally be your belief system or what you believe is
yeah,
right. And if once your belief
interesting.
system pushes you against right and wrong, you need to start really evaluating. And that's for any theology, period. I was like, you can like
Yeah.
I don't believe in moral relativism. I definitely believe there is right or wrong. There's definitely a gray area when we start to get into
Hmm.
drinking and all this other kind of stuff. But I was like,
Sure.
in general, like there's very little social difference in between right and wrong. And those things typically get sopped
Interesting.
up by like social norms, right?
Yeah.
But the people who
That's
believe they're immune to that, I was like, you're an idiot. I was like, your wool is fully over your eyes. You are staring at the shadows in the cave, like you are plugged into the matrix, dog. Like if you don't believe that you're influenced by things, you're an idiot.
that. Yeah. No, I mean that's fair. It's
Right.
very interesting. What the heck is in my hair right now? Wait.
That's a
Sorry,
snack.
there's a thread in my hair.
That's a
Where did
snack.
that come from? It's a snack, saving it for later. I was worried it was like food or something. Oh my gosh. No, because I had never really looked up the definition to atheist or atheism.
Right.
Like I thought it was kind of the belief, in the traditional belief in
Right.
God.
Right.
They don't believe in that,
And that
but
is
it's
the
existence
intentionality
of
behind it.
God or any gods,
Right.
which I mean, gods like that could be anything,
Right.
I guess. So that's fair. I considered myself atheist for like a few years, and then I'm just agnostic now,
Right.
where I'm just like, I don't know what's out there,
Well, and
and I'm not going to worry about it.
yeah,
But
and that in and of
yeah,
itself is a belief, right? And you will
right,
allow yourself to be guided by this idea of I'm going to allow information to guide my beliefs. And I think that that's an
sure.
intellectually honest take. I will take someone that says I
Thank
don't
you.
know. And what it's true. I mean, that is
I mean, me too.
it's what I mean. Like it is the most intellectually honest someone can be with themselves when they say I don't know and I'm comfortable with not knowing. I'm seeking the truth. As long as everyone's seeking the truth and is willing to go and subject ideas being presented to them
Right.
with
I'll
a
try
degree
and take
of
them and
right,
figure out or try and figure out what might be right or
but it should
whatever.
always hit that filter of I mean, does this make me feel icky? You know what I mean?
Uh,
Does
Yeah.
at the very minimum it should at least pass that sniff test before you
Does
go
it
and
make me feel icky?
I mean
Yeah.
it's sometimes it's
It's
that
so
simple,
true.
right? The
It's
amount of
a very cute
people
way of saying that,
but the amount of people
but
that are
it's
willing
absolutely
to
true.
overlook that because of their affiliation with XYZ is offensive to
Hmm.
me. And I would rather take someone that takes a universal approach of skepticism in saying that, like, hey, I want the universe to convince me. I am not going to blindly believe
Hmm.
XYZ.
Because
Um,
I don't understand something or
right, right. I mean, even for me, looking back on it now as an older man, I don't believe I was truly a Christian until I fully read the Bible for myself. And that was relatively
that would make
recent.
sense.
And I didn't take somebody's word for it. I didn't watch a podcast for it. I sat and forced myself to be like, well, if I'm going to try to
Let me look
identify with
into it
this,
myself.
let me actually see
Good.
what this means and the historical context for it and whatever. It's not because someone told me or because
Hmm.
theoretically, according to my belief
That's
system, where are they going to be when I die?
hmm
Who's going to be that
right.
part of that conversation, right?
Who knows?
It's not going
Yeah.
to be a pastor. It's not going to be a priest. It's going to be you and God, right? But
Right. Interesting.
it's way more intellectually honest to say I don't know, and I'm trying to seek the truth, and I haven't yet been convinced to a degree that I feel comfortable with, than to just say
Hmm.
outright no, because I've thought of everything and I'm a genius and I know everything. And even I'm open to. I love discussions about it. I personally
Hmm.
enjoy challenges to my perspective because either I grow from them and I feel like I'm a lot more confident in it, or if it shakes me, did I really ever have that belief to begin with?
Right, then you can reevaluate
Right.
or figure out really what you think. Yeah.
Right.
No, I agree. I used to definitely be extremely triggered by like anything religion or like
Sure.
well because so I grew up Mormon and so I like we were very much an I know kind of
Right.
church and
Right.
yeah, and so like anything challenging that I took it as my identity, like challenging my identity anyway. And so I love that I can talk about this kind of stuff and not feel triggered and just be like, "Oh, you believe that? I believe this." And
Right.
that's totally fine.
Well,
It doesn't
and that's
make
productive.
either of us
Right.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Exactly, it is. So and that's same with I mean I try and do that with politics,
Mhm.
with this police stuff. Like there are things that I'm just like that is really fascinating and I don't know exactly my my stance on it and maybe there are a lot of things especially with like police
Right.
work that I don't really have a solid stance on
Yeah.
because I haven't really had to deal with it. I don't know all the nuances in
But
all of
like
that.
if the American Forks Police Department approached the law the same way you did, they wouldn't have been in the situation they're in now.
Yeah.
Like,
Good.
hey, I don't know.
Yay.
Let me
Good.
check. You know what I mean? Before I
Yeah, I
start
don't know
making
everything. My
legally
ego is
binding.
not
Oh my gosh.
yeah. Like
No.
when people and ego, I mean I'm learning a lot about ego just with, you know,
Right.
narcissism, just relationships, but this too like when you prioritize ego over like somebody else's rights or
Right.
like someone else's well-being, that is a big issue.
And,
That's a
and
problem.
and I think a lot of people too don't appreciate their limitations for understanding. So like I've run into this a lot. Like when it comes to policing is a great example of this. It's like I know I'm not a subject matter expert on the whole thing. I am
Sure.
perfectly willing to listen to
That's a good
someone's
thing
argument.
to
That's what I mean.
understand.
That kind of deference to not knowing or knowing, right? There are things that
Yeah.
I would consider myself a subject matter expert on. I have proofs in the pudding that I was able to do it successfully, right?
Sure.
And even with the deck, like with the deck stacked against me in certain circumstances, in a law enforcement context, I'm still able to go and demonstrate why I'm right in certain situations, right?
Mhm.
Um, but like there are limitations to my understanding in medicine. There are limitations to my understanding I'll never know what it's like to be like a woman, right? There are certain things where I'm going to lean on your understanding of it versus mine. If
Sure.
someone was a parent, I'm going to lean on their understanding for kids way past because I don't have to deal with it every day. They're of
Mhm.
course going to be, even if they're a bad parent, they still have more
Mhm.
experience in parenting than I will. I have god
Fair.
kids. I have kids that I help take care of. You know, I have nieces and nephews and stuff like that. But like that's different than every
Mhm.
day. That's different than it
Mhm.
being your flesh and blood that's talking
It
back to you
yeah.
versus, you know what I mean?
Yes.
And so like the I think a lot of people have an expectation that it has to make sense to them and they have to fully grasp it. And I was like, I think it's okay to allow the experts to be the experts on stuff and
Mhm.
take in as much of it as you're willing to do. Cause I don't have like that level of autism for everything. And
Oh,
I
yeah, I
think too many
can't.
when I think too many people expect to. Like in a world of subject matter experts, and the internet brings all of them to your fingertips. I can
Yeah,
bring a high-powered defense attorney, me, and like a victim advocate. We're all hyper autistically into this. I was like, well, how much time did you really spend on this topic that you have a very strong opinion on?
mhm.
Like, you'd be shocked at how many people are perfectly willing to go have a full on, again, life altering feelings on a thing that they really haven't given like an honest shake at understanding or
True.
approached it with an open mind or approached it with, because like discernment goes in both directions. If I can't disprove something, that doesn't mean it's right or wrong. If I can't prove
Mhm.
something, that also doesn't mean it's right or wrong. Like we're only dealing within like an objective reality of what's in front of us.
It's true.
And
Everyone has their perspective, and that's their
yeah,
reality.
and so
Yeah.
like finding a way like that form of communication, people call it IPC skills, but like being able to navigate that space and become like closer as individuals just to understanding, that's really all you want. And it's like
Yeah.
there was the quote from that really cheesy movie with the blue people and they're in space. It's kind of,
Avatar.
Avatar, yes. The way they said I love you was beautiful because they literally would say I
Like
see
I
you.
see you or
Right.
something. Yeah.
And it's not in the sense that I'm like physically, optically seeing you. It's like I see and understand you, who you are. And I
Mhm.
remember my wife and I are both deep nerds. She's a writer for a living. And so
Oh, cool.
we talk about these things and there's thematic choices and whatnot. And I love you or I understand you, and concepts like that are very cheap, I think, in today's day and age. And even like in the internet age where
Mm.
like there are people that see you probably, I don't know, 20 hours out of the week, every week, all year round, right? It might feel relatively close to you, but like the
Mm.
people in your life have a very real closeness to you. That's very real. And they understand you in places when the
Yeah.
camera's not there, or you're really
Yeah.
upset, or you're whatever. And it's like trying to get, really, the goal should be to reach for that understanding as much and as often as you can with people so that you can better, because like your objective reality plus my objective reality will come down to if we are willing to see each other for where we're at
Mhm.
closer to the truth. Both of us don't have it. Like I know, think
Yeah.
like, you know what I mean, like ultimately if you're not willing to admit to yourself that you don't know,
Mhm.
I have an idea, here's how I feel about it, and this is the conclusion I'm currently working on, it's my
Yeah, you have
working
what you
draft for life.
believe or
Right.
yeah, yeah.
There's a difference between belief and knowledge. And I think that
Yeah.
knowledge is a very shaky space for a lot of people. And
Mhm.
like I said, specifically in the law enforcement segment, you're making life altering decisions for people. Let's go on what we can prove, not what we think we know. And let's
Yeah,
try to be better like
exactly.
investigators. And then I think even
Mhm.
from like on the evaluation side of it, like publicly, it was the thing that I watched the entire thing. When you watch the video, it was weird to like inception myself for it. It was very odd. But like
Yeah.
but like watching the way that you approached the problem, and you can even see this in your audience. Your audience follows you because they enjoy that exercise, if you want to call it that. Um,
Sure.
approaching something with that lack of understanding, but the desire to want to know, I think is
Yeah.
what
My
is
freaking life.
lacking everywhere. But it's everywhere. Like I think if people did that with mental health, the world would be a better place. If people did that
Yeah.
in their relationships, it'd be a different
Mhm.
place. Like first 2 years of marriage versus the last 8, very, very different for me. Because I was
Yeah.
like, I knew I had a gap between like what she was doing and what I was doing, but it was like taking the time to navigate it was so much
Mm.
healthier and easier. And marriage has been easy. Like I remember getting married. A lot of people were like, marriage is hard, and I'm like, you're clearly
Like,
doing it
good luck.
wrong. Yeah, they act like we
Yeah,
were
it
going to
doesn't have to
war,
be
right?
that. Oh gosh.
But it was
Yeah.
like, oh,
I
weird.
feel like ego gets in the way of that.
But like when you are willing to, she had to make adjustments for me. I had to make adjustments. Like we are
Mhm.
fundamentally different people now than when we first got married. I love her more now than the day we got married,
Mhm.
but it's because we
Yep, I
came at it
understand that.
from an open mind, was willing to figure out like why she sees things. Like I don't agree with it, but why is she
Mhm.
seeing it that way? And is it more important for me to conform and make sure that her feelings are lining up with my intention?
Mm.
Or is it more important for me to have her understand me and see me the way that I am? I was like, it depends.
Yeah.
And you should be able to
Yeah.
navigate it. But like that application of that process should go to everything. Like it just
Yeah.
doesn't happen often enough.
Yeah, I actually used to. So I didn't always used to be so like inquisitive or like
Neither
wanting
did I. Yeah.
to learn things. One of the reasons was I think I felt like I should have already known a lot of things, and sometimes it was embarrassing to
Hmm.
admit that I didn't know something. And so when somebody was talking to me, they'd say something that I wouldn't understand. I'd just be like, "Oh yeah, 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 for sure." And
Yep.
now I'm like, I don't really know what that means,
Tell me
or
more
like,
about
what are
that.
you talking about? Yeah, 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 exactly. And it's embarrassing. I mean, goodness, hopping onto YouTube and reacting to things about, other countries versus the US, or just showing how much I didn't know
Right.
about the rest of the world. I had a lot of people saying, "Oh wow, this girl's dumb."
Right.
Like this girl is ignorant. She does not know anything, and like it was hard, but like getting through that and being like, "Yeah, I don't know a lot of shit." That has really like helped me, and it's been so worth it versus just being like, "Oh yeah, I should already know this," or I don't want people to know
Yeah.
that I
Oh, dude.
don't know shit.
Not knowing
Yeah.
the amount of I vividly remember multiple times in my little baby patrol career where I was asked, "Well, what's going on?" I'll be honest, I don't know. Like I was like,
Yeah.
I wish I knew. I'm trying to find out.
That's good. That's
But like,
really good
but
though.
it's such a healthy posture for people to have. And like I said, I think so many people are concerned about being self-conscious about not knowing or not being the best at something. And I was like, you're never gonna be. I was like,
Yeah.
you should never be done
How
learning.
can you
Yeah.
be?
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
When you really think about it in like realistic terms, this world is huge and there are so many people in it. And
Yeah.
there you have your one little experience.
Yep.
So, yeah, to have somebody be like, "Oh, they're so ignorant," or like, "Oh, they don't know." It's just like,
Right.
yeah, and there are so many things that you don't know about too,
Hmm.
that we're just not talking about those topics. Like, yeah, it's really fascinating. Just human beings and like humanity is so
Yeah.
it's very interesting.
No,
It's a
it's
pleasure to be here.
yeah. I was gonna say we have the honor of getting to hang out and get some life experience, and we'll see how long we get to stay on the rock for. And either
Right,
we learn and
exactly.
grow and make the world a better place, or you don't contribute to it and you go be Jeffrey Dahmer and everyone doesn't cry when you die, right? Like that's kind of the
Right.
we're all somewhere
Unless
on
you're
that
crazy.
spectrum. Yeah, unless you're crazy.
Right.
You get
Yeah.
those people. What was it
But
the
you do
fan
have
letters or
those.
whatever?
Oh, I don't know, but I know that they like there are some fans of people
Yeah,
like that, and it's like
it's I don't know, man.
anyway. Again, human beings are fascinating.
Yeah, yeah. It is
Yeah,
the best worst thing in the world are human beings.
it's so
Unfortunately.
true, so very true. Oh my gosh, but man, Josh, this was awesome. Thank you
Cool.
so much for
Yeah.
having this conversation with me,
Mhm.
for just being so open and giving your insight. I mean, it's very interesting listening to you. So thank you for joining
Yeah,
today.
well, I was happy to be
Um,
here. Like I said, my audience for them, hi. I'm sorry if I neglected y'all. You guys are gonna get me uninterrupted for like 4 hours
you
tonight.
guys are awesome.
Yeah, she likes y'all. You guys are cool. You encourage this behavior and discussion. And I guess to y'all's audience, I think, oh, I'm still here. Yes, I'm still here. Discord panicked again. Um,
Uh,
I think you guys are doing great. I think it's cool what you guys are exploring because it's past just us. Like this is my segment of the internet where I talk about cop related stuff. It's where I have expertise and I've put now decades into learning
yeah.
this. I come from people who have even more we have centuries worth of law enforcement experience within the group, and we're pushing for something better. I think approaching that kind of difference to a ton of different topics, I think is cool. So the content's positive, and in a sea of scum, I think that you guys are a pretty nice little lily pad of wonderfulness.
Thanks.
So
Thanks. Appreciate
I
it.
hope all of you guys have a wonderful rest of your week, and
Yeah.
that you guys you get some rest. I'm gonna go eat something here in a little
Yes, let's
bit.
all eat
Yeah,
some real
yeah, eat
food.
real food.
Yes. No, thank you so much.
Well,
Yeah,
yeah,
everybody,
problem.
thank you so much for being here. And yeah, keep doing what you're doing.
Okay, yeah. Just
Appreciate
have
you.
a good rest of your day. I'll see you people tonight. You little
Everybody
buttholes.
go check out Only Cops.
Yeah, you're gonna learn something. You won't like what you learn sometimes, but you will learn something.
But you will. You're gonna learn today. Oh man.